Chapter 412, Martial Emperor, Shocking the Four Corners of the World, 8. It's said that Burger Lespedeza root requires the blood of countless strong cultivators to reach maturity. They usually grow under extremely dangerous conditions on the mainland, in the wild lands where strong cultivators fight to survive. Upon hearing Lin Xiao's announcement, many guests hurriedly stood from their seats and stared excitedly at the crimson wooden box that contained a Burger Lespedeza root. Oh, Lan Yuge raised her eyebrows. Then please send my gratitude to the master of the Lin family for his effort. Servant, please accept this gift on my behalf. In Lan Yuge's eyes, one Burger Lespedeza root may be worth a lot but not enough for her to forget her manners. So in order to maintain her reputation, she ordered a servant to accept the gift in her stead. The strong lead from Lin Xiao had completely eclipsed the gifts from many of the other guests and he knew it. Many others felt too embarrassed about the gifts they had brought and were unsure of how to present them. Knowing this tickled him and he looked provocatively at Gu Ruan who was sitting next to Lan Yuge. What gifts have you prepared for Mistress Lan, my lady? He taunted, why not present them for all of us to see? Ha ha. The crowd in the banquet hall fell silent. All eyes were on Lan Yuge's sunken face and everyone broke into a cold sweat for Lin Xiao. Was this young man insane? Many wondered. Lan Yuge obviously loves this girl very much and he had actually dared to say such a thing. He must have had a death wish. Hearing his words, Lin Yue covered a smile as she looked at her brother with her lovely eyes. Big brother, she said. I am sure that her ladyship would have long prepared a highly valuable gift for Mistress Lan which would make your Burger Lespedeza root pale in comparison. One must always present gifts of the highest value in private, so how could she possibly show it to you? Lin Yue's tone held a slight hint of jealousy. To her, this woman was obviously trying to get close to the Dongfang family to become Dongfang Shaozi's wife. If she really harbored such intentions, she mused, Dongfang Shao certainly wouldn't want her. Looking at how fond Lan Yuge is of this woman, Lin Yue suspected that if the latter were to enter the Dongfang household, there may be many difficulties for herself in the future. It's best to let her be clear on where she stands, she decided. Some people were really beyond comprehension. Just because she had gained favor from Mistress Lan doesn't mean that she can do whatever she likes. This time, it wasn't just Lan Yuge who became angered, even Master Dongfang had furrowed his brows. He glared disapprovingly at the Lin siblings as his voice cut like a knife's blade. Members of the Lin family certainly enjoy throwing out assumptions, do they not? Whether she presented a gift or not is the Dongfang family's business. Since when does this involve the opinion of the Lin family, hey? Master Dongfang's booming voice echoed in their heads. The Lin siblings shuddered and dared not say another word. Eventually, a thoroughly pale-faced young Master Lin decided to bite the bullet. Please don't be angry, Master Dongfang. He pleaded. I was merely curious. If the master is unwilling to discuss this further, I will say no more. HMPH. Before Master Dongfang could retort, the small figure seated next to him spoke. Lady Lin, you're quite right. The value of my gift cannot be compared with one trivial Burger Lespedeza root. Gu Ruan smiled. Her tone was casual but her words struck into the hearts of those in the hall like a heavy hammer. The crowd immediately burst into a lively discussion. No one had expected this young lady, who was barely on the cusp of womanhood, to dare make such an arrogant statement. Chapter 413, Martial Emperor, Shocking the Four Corners of the World, 9. There wasn't a single person in the world who does not know the value of the Burger Lespedeza root, Lin Xiao thought. Yet, she had just spoken of having a gift of incomparable value to that of a Burger Lespedeza root. Like a herd lion, he leaped from his seat and exclaimed with a tremor in his voice, then perhaps you wouldn't mind presenting your gift to compare it with mine. We'll let the guests decide which gift holds greater value. Gu Ruan smiled and quietly turned her head towards Lan Yuge. Yunsa, Lan Yuge smiled softly at her as she lovingly stroked the back of her hand. No matter what the gift is, as long as it is from you, it will hold the greatest value to me. Simply put, any gift from Gu Ruan which she herself deemed valuable would be most precious to Lan Yuge. No other gift would even come close. Lin Xiao's expression turned ugly. HMPH, he thought, I'd like to see what gift this girl had actually brought. Don't worry, I won't let you down. Gu Ruan promptly slipped her hand into the collar of her robe and pulled out a string of candy-like green-colored pills. The higher the level of the immortality pill, the more subtle the aura they emit. Only a truly powerful cultivator would be able to sense the energetic frequency of a high-level pill. In that instant, even members of the Dongfang family who had remained silent out of fear, burst into peals of laughter at the sight of her pills. Am I seeing things? Are those candies? Did she actually bring candy as a gift to Mistress Lan's birthday celebration? Was she trying to coddle a child? I'm going to laugh to death. The gift of incomparable value to the Burger Lespedeza root she spoke of were mere candies. She must be joking. The entire hall roared with laughter. Some lords even howled to the point of tears. However, none of them noticed that the guests who were ranked at the Martial King level and above were eyeing the string of pills, breathless with excitement. Lan Yuge, who seemed to have tuned out the noise in the hall, noticed Master Dongfang drooling over the pills. She reached out a pair of trembling hands to take them in case the old man wanted to snatch them away. Then again, obviously, Master Dongfang would not dare to do such a thing. Suddenly, a loud roar came from outside the banquet hall. Hands off the beans. Before anyone could react, a flash of white robes was seen and the pills disappeared from Gu Ruan's hands. Whoosh. The banquet hall fell silent. A white-haired old man stood before them. He stared squarely at the pills, not taking his eyes off them. His expression was exquisite to behold. Seeing the old man's flushed face, Gu Ruan's face darkened. Honorable Sir Chan Qi, what do you think you're doing? The Honorable Sir Chan Qi. That very name sent a shockwave through the entire hall. Could it be the Spirit Sect's Honorable Sir Chan Qi? That's right, he's indeed the Honorable Sir Chan Qi. I've had the good fortune of meeting him once. One by one, excited voices began to pierce through the crowd's silence. Heavens, is it really him? But what would he want with that string of candy? I can't believe that I, Wu Lin, would actually be able to see the Honorable Sir Chan Qi in the flesh in this lifetime. I can die happy now. Honorable Sir Chan-chi carefully wiped the pills and held them gingerly but cautiously in his arms, as if afraid that someone else would try to snatch them away. Since we are friends, little girl, these pills should be given to me. Chapter 414, Martial Emperor, Shocking the Four Corners of the World, 10. Hearing the Honorable Sir Chan-chi's words, the already noisy banquet hall grew deafeningly boisterous. Pills. Did Honorable Sir Chan-chi just say that those string of candies were actually legendary pills? Goodness, am I hearing this correctly? Oh my heavens, were those really pills? The powerful Honorable Sir Chan-chi cannot possibly be wrong about this. No wonder the girl had dared to insult Lin Xiao. She was holding pills. Just where did she come from? Gu Ruoan ignored the growing gossip. She couldn't care less about the Lin siblings. Give the pills back to me, she demanded, and stretching her hand out towards the Honorable Sir Chan-chi. No. Honorable Sir Chan-chi took 2 steps back and boldly declared, whatever lands in my hands is mine. I'm not giving this back. Gu Ruoan's face blackened. Why do I feel as though you're far more wicked than the Honorable Poison Master? You've already attained the martial honor level, far stronger than the rest of us. These pills are of no use to you, so give them back. Honorable Sir Chan-chi rolled his eyes. Of course I have no use for these pills. I plan on giving these to my disciples. We are friends, little girl. You wouldn't be so selfish to deny me a string of pills, would you? Gu Ruoan felt helpless. Her eyes were truly open now. She has finally met a person who would stoop to a whole new level of shamelessness. Fine. If you want them, take them. Don't forget, you owe me one. Gu Ruoan then took out another string of pills from her robes, keeping one eye on the Honorable Sir Chan-chi in case he would snatch them away too. Do you really need to be so paranoid, little girl? Asked the Honorable Sir Chan-chi as he rolled his eyes. I'm not some wretched treasure thief. A pure-hearted person like me can possibly be so vicious. Oh, really? Then give those pills back, Gu Ruoan replied, raising her eyebrows. The Honorable Sir Chan-chi clasped the pills in his hands and exclaimed, you said that I could take them if I wanted to. That means you've given them to me. Since it was your gift, I certainly couldn't have snatched them away. Just because I'm old doesn't mean I can be bullied so easily. Labeling me as a robber so casually. Am I really that sort of a person to you? Witnessing the old man's audacity, the image of their much-worshipped idol shattered. No one in the banquet hall would have thought that the dignified Honorable Sir Chan-chi, one of the 3 great authorities from the Spirit sect, would be such an outrageous old man. Seeing how Gu Ruoan made no move to snatch back the pills, the Honorable Sir Chan-chi started playing with them and asked, what type of immortal pills are these, little girl? The Emperor Breakthrough Pills, Gu Ruoan replied, shrugging her shoulders. The Emperor Breakthrough Pills. Honorable Sir Chan-chi wrinkled his brows. That's right, they allow cultivators in the ranks of a martial emperor to break through to the next level. For example, a lower-level martial emperor would be able to break through to mid-level. However, a high-level martial emperor cannot use these to break through to martial honor. Mistress Lan is currently a mid-level martial emperor, which was why I'm giving these to her. The truth was that she had only just refined the Emperor Breakthrough Pills last night. After attaining the level of martial emperor, she had successfully opened the 4th level of the ancient divine pagoda, which contained the recipe for refining the Emperor Breakthrough Pills as its reward treasure. Hearing her words, everyone, including the Honorable Sir Chan-chi, opened their mouths wide in awe and surprise. This thing. Lan Yu's voice trailed away as she looked at the pill in her hand. At a loss for words and eager to feel the effects of the pill, she hastily swallowed it. Chapter 415, Martial Emperor, Shocking the Four Corners of the World, 11. Boom. The moment the immortality pill entered her lips, Lan Yu felt a powerful force slam against the bottleneck that had prevented her progress. It was as if the pill was forcing its way through a thin piece of paper, rushing to reach a new world. Breakthroughs for the Martial Emperor rank requires a strong spiritual energy. The strong spiritual energy in the atmosphere rushed towards her and swirled around her to aid her promotion. Engulfed by the force, Lan Yu's blue figure looked like a small sail floating against the fluttering wind. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. Everyone was far too anxious to speak. All eyes were on Lan Yu as they staring unblinkingly at her progression, not wanting to miss out on witnessing this once-in-a-lifetime transformation. Let me break through. Boom. Another powerful force slammed against her bottleneck. Unfortunately, the bottleneck was very strong and the big hit had only managed to rattle its walls. Lan Yu distanced herself once again. She absorbed the spiritual energy surrounding her, condensing it into a thick ray in an attempt to penetrate the bottleneck with another blow. Finally, the blow created a deep crack in the bottleneck and the spiritual energy began to seep in. But that wasn't enough. Let me break through, Lan Yu shouted. She gathered an immense power to create a greater impact as she kept hitting it again and again, refusing to give up until the bottleneck was pierced through. After some time, there was a loud crash. Her multiple impacts finally pierced through the weakening bottleneck. Without further resistance, the spiritual energy rushed in. A high-level martial emperor. The crowd gasped in awe. Even as a mid-level martial emperor, Lan Yu's skill was already formidable in comparison to anyone of a higher level. Now, she was a high-level martial emperor. Wouldn't that mean that she was invincible amongst the ranks of the martial emperor? Master Dongfang wondered. He gazed adoringly at Gu Ruoan, but, minding his reputation, Master Dongfang said nothing more. Lin Xiao, do you have anything else to say? He said as he coughed twice. The Lin siblings' faces turned pale. How could they have known that Gu Ruoan possessed such a powerful pill? It was simply not scientifically possible. Ah, right, Gu Ruoan seemed to have remembered something and turned her gaze. Honorable Sir Chan-chi, why are you really here? The Honorable Sir Chan-chi rolled his eyes at her. I was just passing by when I heard that my little sister would be celebrating her birthday today, so I dropped by to have a look. Why are you here, little girl? Little sister. Gu Ruoan froze at the thought. Does the Honorable Sir Chan Chi mean that maternal grandmother was actually his little sister? She wondered. Impossible. If the Dongfang family had such close relations with the Honorable Sir Chan Chi, how could they have been bullied to such a degree that year? Why didn't the Honorable Sir Chan Chi step in? Yunsa, Lan Yush gently stroked her hands. I know what you're thinking. Please don't blame him. At that time, he was not on this mainland. No one could find him at all. Hence, he had been unable to help in the Dongfang family's crisis. Hearing this, Gu Ruan relaxed. It wasn't just Gu Ruan who had reacted with shock. Even the forces of the Dongfang household who were unaware of the relationship between the Honorable Sir Chan Chi and Lan Yush could not help but look at Lan Yush with renewed respect after hearing the Honorable Sir Chan Chi's confession. No wonder she was so powerful, they thought. She was Honorable Sir Chan Chi's little sister, after all. Now, little girl, you tell me, the Honorable Sir Chan Chi began. What relationship do you have with the Dongfang family? Wait a minute. He paused, noticing something. He wrinkled his eyebrows as he stared at Gu Ruan, examining her closely before gasping, You've broken through to Martial Emperor. It's only been a few months since I last saw you. Back then, you were only a low-level Martial King and now a few months later you've broken through to a low-level Martial Emperor. What's your secret, little girl? Will you be my teacher? Chapter 416, War 1. The crowd was completely silent. Everyone held their breath as they stared at Gu Ruan in complete disbelief. What did the Honorable Sir Chan Chi mean? Was this young lady the powerful cultivator who had broken through to reach the Martial Emperor level yesterday? Had this statement come from any other person, they would not have believed it. But since the remark was from the famous Honorable Sir Chan Chi, it was impossible not to believe it. I see you've already met Yunsa, big brother, Lan Yush chuckled. I guess there's no need for formal introductions. Yunsa, meet your granduncle. The Honorable Sir Chan Chi's face froze in place, his eyes darted towards Gu Ruan in surprise. Am I hearing things? He wondered, what was the title that Lan Yush had asked Gu Ruan to address me as? Gare, what do you mean? He asked nervously, why are you asking the little girl to address me as her granduncle? Please don't tell me that you've adopted this girl as your granddaughter behind my back. If this were true, he smiled to himself, it would really be a world of good news. We'll see how that shameless old honorable poison master would try to steal her away from him now. The Honorable Sir Chan Chi rubbed his fist in anticipation as he awaited Lan Yush's reply. Ahem. Master Dongfang cleared his throat and glanced at the Honorable Sir Chan Chi. Honorable Sir Chan Chi, before anything more is said, I'd like to make an announcement. Since you're present, please bear witness to this announcement from the Dongfang family. Upon hearing this, the crowd perked up and some even tried to guess what Master Dongfang would say next. Little sister, Lin Shao exclaimed. This is the moment we've been waiting for. Forget about whoever that woman is. If she's indeed Mistress Lan's adopted granddaughter, even better, no one would fight you for Dongfang Shaozi's attention then. The head of the Dongfang family is about to announce his son's wedding and no one else in the entire Dongfang city is more eligible to be match-made with Dongfang Shaoz than you. Lin Yue smiled as she looked affectionately at Dongfang Shaoz. All these years, this man has been the goal she had been fighting for her entire life. She's worked harder than everyone else to earn his affection. Now, she thought, I'm going to become his wife. My long-cherished wish will soon be fulfilled. Come on, spit it out. The Honorable Sir Chan Chi glared at Master Dongfang. If he hadn't snatched away his precious little sister all those years ago, he fumed, she would have stayed by his side and would not have had to brave so many dangers including the grief of losing the apple of her eye. Clearly, the Honorable Sir Chan Chi would never have bothered to put on a good face for the old man. Master Dongfang's face flushed with embarrassment. No matter how many grievances he has, he would not dare to speak his mind with his brother-in-law in the room. The announcement I'm about to make is the biggest news we've ever had in the history of the Dongfang family, he declared. The crowd cheered and clapped but the same thoughts played in their minds. Biggest news, wouldn't it concern Dongfang Shaozi's wedding plans? Who could the lucky girl be? Moreover, the Dongfang family has strong connections with the Spirit sect. If this woman was going to become the mistress of the Dongfang household, she would never have to worry about getting oppressed for the rest of her life. Lin Yue prepared herself for once Master Dongfang had made the announcement, she would stand up and express her gratitude to display a gentle and virtuous image. As Master Dongfang spoke, she was already getting up from her seat. She walked over with a huge smile. Thank you, honorable guests, Master Dongfang addressed the crowd, for attending my wife's birthday celebration. In light of the festivities, I would like to make an important announcement regarding this young lady. The old man could no longer contain the joy he felt. His face broke out into a huge smile. I present to you my maternal granddaughter, the flesh and blood of my daughter, Yue. She's a precious pearl of the Dongfang family. Should anyone dare to lay a hand on her, the Dongfang family will follow them through heaven and hell and rain terror upon them. Chapter 417, War 2. After finishing his speech, Master Dongfang glanced at Lan Yush as if to say, were my words satisfactory to you? Lin Yue stopped in her tracks. Her pale white skin turned a sickly green color. She was completely embarrassed, unable to walk back to her seat or up to the front and stood stiffly rooted to the ground. Why was this happening? She wondered. Wasn't Master Dongfang supposed to announce the good tidings between Dongfang Shaoz and I? Why was he announcing something else? Moreover, this girl was actually the daughter of Dongfang Yu, that wretch who was supposedly long dead. Lin Yue bit her lips. She absolutely hated Dongfang Yu, that spoiled, pampered brat. A few years ago, whenever she had wanted to approach Dongfang Shaoz, that awful woman would hold her back and refuse to allow her to disturb his training. Because of that, she had always harbored a great hatred towards Dongfang Yu. So when news of her death reached her ears, she was in ecstasy for many nights. Since Dongfang Yu's death, Lin Yue had assumed that she would be able to enter the Dongfang household easily. Who would have thought that such an evil little star would appear? Dongfang Yu, your ghost lingers. She fumed. Lin Yue took a deep breath and calmed herself down. You say that this little girl is your legitimate maternal granddaughter. The Honorable Sir Chan Chi blinked his eyes in disbelief. You're not trying to fool me, are you? She's the daughter of Gu Qian and Xiao Yue, and Gu Shangshao's little sister. This surprise was much too sudden, he thought, and almost burst out laughing. The Honorable Poison Master, he said snidely. For the many years that you've tailed and fought with me, you probably never realized that the little girl we've once fought over was really my own grandniece. Gee, despite having rejected my offer to become my disciple, she's still related to me by blood after all. Now, what abilities will you use to match mine? After so many days in fear of assassination attempts, this momentous occasion has arrived. The Honorable Sir Chan Chi has never felt happier. If that old Honorable Poison Master knew, he would certainly burst with anger. However, the Honorable Sir Chan Chi did not expect his statement to cause such a stir. An indistinct murmur spread throughout the crowd. The Honorable Poison Master and Honorable Sir Chan Chi both offered her to be their disciple. And she had rejected them both. Just who were these two people? One is a powerful cultivator from the Spirit sect and the other a great bane even to the three great authorities. Whenever these two would meet, there would be great tribulations. They had fought over accepting a disciple, who ended up rejecting them both. This simply wasn't logical. Lin Shao's face turned into an ugly color and his heart filled with remorse. He was thoroughly regretting his offense towards Gu Ruoan. If the girl were to insist on barring his sister from entering the Dongfang household due to her connection with the Honorable Sir Chan Chi, Yue may never have the opportunity to become the mistress of the Dongfang family. We're finished. Lin Shao slumped into his seat and let out a desperate sigh. He looked at his sister, who was sluggish and dazed, then smiled bitterly as he shook his head. I thought she had relied on Dongfang Shaoxi's good graces to come here and even ridiculed her for being a lazy woman who only depended on others. I didn't know that she was, in fact, the flesh and blood of the Dongfang family. This was all because of Dongfang Yan. If it weren't for her words, I wouldn't have committed such a huge mistake. At that moment, Lin Shao placed all blame on Dongfang Yan. If it weren't for that woman, he wouldn't have had to endure such a degree of embarrassment today. Chapter 418, War 3. Lin Shao began to unconsciously hate Dongfang Yan. Their camaraderie was now gone without a trace in the face of benefits. Bang! Just then, a strong aura seeped into the hall and caused an abrupt change in Gu Ruoan's expression. Xiao Yi, that's right, this aura is indeed Xiao Yi's. Who's he fighting with? Maternal grandmother, let's hurry out to have a look. Just as she spoke, her figure turned into a gust of wind and charged through the door. Under the night sky, the man's blood-red clothes fluttered in the wind while his silver hair was like silk. Enveloped in that imposing manner, his body seemed to be lit by the bloody red flames of a fiery pit. His phoenix-like eyes stared coldly at the man in the black robes who was standing in midair. The man was straightening up his black robes. His forehead was drenched in cold sweat as he clutched his weapon tightly in his hand. He was anxiously staring in terror at the powerful, bloodthirsty yet handsome silver-haired man who looked like a devil. He was in such a panic that he nearly lost the grip on his sword. When had the Dongfang family acquired such a powerful cultivator? I've never heard of him, he thought. He even detected my presence before I could manage to carry out my plans. She too, it's him. When his eyes fell upon the man in black robes whom Chanbei had forced into a state of complete submission, Master Dongfang's expression changed immediately. How had she too been able to get into Dongfang City? Could it be that the Dongfang family's guards are all a bunch of good-for-nothings? Unable to even notice an enemy's infiltration. However, he certainly never would have thought that the silver-haired man who had followed his maternal granddaughter would turn out to have such great power. She too to him was like a child, barely a few years of age, and was played like a toy in the palm of his hand. Xiao Yun. Chanbei was momentarily startled when he noticed the people approaching him from the back. He turned his head towards the young girl's pure and beautiful face and asked, "Can I kill him?" His tone was simple, as if he was asking if he could have a bowl of rice to eat. "Little girl, is this man a friend of yours?" The Honorable Sir Chan Chi furrowed his brows. He could not tell why, but this man made him feel extremely uncomfortable, as if merely standing in front of him was suffocating. After all, he was already a martial honor. Therefore, this man has to be exceptionally powerful for him to feel this way. Besides, the Honorable Sir Chan Chi paused and a shrewd light flashed across his elderly eyes. Though this man's strength was extremely powerful, he was not in control of that power and he doesn't know why. Based on his current display of strength, he should be a martial honor at most. However, if one were to wait for him to be able to fully command his power, then forget about this mainland. Even in another more powerful mainland, not many would be able to match him in strength. She too, the sect master of the weapon refining sect. Why would the master of the weapon refining sect be here? Gu Ruoan's lips curled into a cold smile and a cold light flashed through her gaze. HMPH. Shi Tu's eyes emitted a strong, flaming rage, but he gritted his teeth and stayed silent. His gaze was filled with disdain and scorn, as if Gu Ruoan had no right to ask him any questions. Not going to talk. Gu Ruoan smiled. I believe that the Dongfang family has ways to make you talk. Xiao Yi, don't kill him just yet. Hand him over to Master Dongfang. As for the final outcome in this, let the Dongfang family handle this personally. After she spoke, Shi Tu's state of mind calmed down and his face twisted into a mocking angle. He was determined to stand victorious over the Dongfang family no matter what. Xiao Yi, I'm tired. Let's go. Gu Ruoan yawned. Her pure and beautiful features looked exhausted. Chapter 419, War 4. All right. Hearing the young girl's voice, Chanbei slowly lowered his hand and appeared in front of Gu Ruoan with one quick flash. His peerless face lit up with a mesmerizing smile. In that moment, the women could not help but sink into his smile. They've never seen such a sight. They never expected that this devil-like man from just a while ago could look so attractive when he smiled. Xiao Yun, I will protect you. In this life, the only one whom he wishes to protect was her. No matter the boundaries, he would not hesitate. Gu Ruoan did not say anything more. She turned her gaze back towards Master Dongfang and said, "You should deal with the aftermath of your own issues. I'm not going to help you now." Having said that, she turned around and left without a second glance. As he watched her leave, the Honorable Sir Chan-chi frowned. Tell me, what happened to the Dongfang family this time? Big brother, Lan Yuge gracefully stepped forward. It was something to do with the weapon refining sect this time. A while ago, Yunsa eradicated every member of the weapon refining sect, but the sect master had disappeared. The Dongfang family and the weapon refining sect have always been enemies, so there was a high chance that the stray dog, she too, would make a move against the Dongfang family. That was why Dongfang City has become so heavily guarded. However, this time the danger is now truly lifted. The Honorable Sir Chan-chi sighed. Gare, it's all my fault. I haven't always been around the mainland during these past few years. And when I leave, I would disappear for many years to the extent that I would be unable to rush over in time to help during the few moments when the Dongfang family was in a crisis. This time, I've decided to return to the Strud sect and will not be leaving. Big brother, I don't blame you. After all, you're an elder of the Strud sect, so your position has always been a little sensitive. It may not always be a good thing for you to mix with us so often. Lan Yuge smiled gently. Now, even though Yuer is no longer here, but Yunsa has returned to my side. And Shangxiao, I don't know when I'll meet that child. Both siblings had lost their parents at a young age and have always relied on one another for survival as they endured unimaginable torment. So, whenever Lan Yuge thought of how they were orphaned and alone in the Gu family home, her heart would ache. That's right. Suddenly, the Honorable Sir Chan-chi seemed to have remembered something and turned towards Lan Yuge. The divine trials are about to begin. When the time comes, I hope that Xiao Yun will be able to represent the Dongfang family and participate. The divine trials were held annually by the three great authorities. Any genius who can achieve a breakthrough in the trials will receive an invitation from the three great authorities to become a participating member and receive training for the 10-year Demon War. The 10-year Demon War happens every 10 years, and it was the time when the strongest cultivators of the mainland and the evil Struds would meet for battle. The defeated side will be evicted from the mainland while the winners will take control of the mainland. The members of the Immortal Realm and the Weapon Refining Sect, who had always talked about compassion, duty, propriety, and integrity, have always used the 10-year Demon War as an excuse to obtain other people's treasures as if it were within their rights to do so. Big brother, you want Yunsa to join the three great authorities? Lan Yuge stared doubtfully at the Honorable Sir Chan-chi as she asked. No, the Honorable Sir Chan-chi shook his head. It's because these trials will be extremely beneficial in raising the little girl's power. It would even be a big help to her in the long run. Gare, you must get the little girl to participate no matter what. I'll wait for her there. Besides, with her appearance, it's about time for things on this mainland to change. I agree with you on this. Master Dongfang relaxed his furrowed brows. I will speak to the Yun girl about this and will also inform the entire Dongfang family. Rest assured, Honorable Sir Chan-chi. After all, this is also a favorable stroke of luck for her. Then I feel at ease. The Honorable Sir Chan-chi smiled and nodded. Old man Dongfang, I entrust my little sister to you. Take good care of her in my stead. Furthermore, I will not be leaving the Strud sect within these few years. If you need anything, you can send someone to the Strud sect to look for me. Stop being cocky already. Otherwise, the one whom you'll burden is my beloved sister. Ha ha. He threw his head back and laughed before disappearing without a trace in front of the admiring gaze of the crowd. Chapter 420, The Trials 1. After the Honorable Sir Chan-chi had left, the old man retracted his gaze and said, Zare, you take care of our guests for a bit. I will now make preparations for the trials. Father, don't worry, I'll take care of them. You relax and go ahead. Dongfang Shao's replied warmly. His handsome, jade-like features were lifted into a smile. Then, without another word, the old man waved his hand as he headed towards the direction of the meeting room and soon disappeared from view. The moment he was gone, the entire courtyard burst into a cacophony of discussion. This had probably been the most unforgettable party of their lives. So, as it turned out, Mistress Lan of the Dongfang family was actually the younger sister of the Honorable Sir Chan-chi. No one in the mainland had known about this. Now, even the daughter of Dongfang Yu, who was also the mysterious master of the 100 Herb Hall, has actually returned to the Dongfang family. Furthermore, she has attained the rank of a martial emperor at such a young age. If news of this were to get out, the entire mainland would burst into a sensation. Ahem. Dongfang Shao's let out a cough. His expression changed from awe to an air of seriousness as he spoke sternly. Ladies and gentlemen, for today, you have seen nothing, you have heard nothing. If I were to ever find out any unsavory gossip outside of these walls, well, I'm sure you all know the methods of the Dongfang family very well. I mustn't allow for news of Yunsa's gifts to leak out no matter what, he thought, especially that string of pills that could allow a martial emperor to break through. If this were to get out, I don't want to think of the consequences. Yes, young master. The crowd regained their senses and replied respectfully. They were all very clear on the Dongfang family's methods. Besides, they were all under the jurisdiction of the Dongfang family, so they wouldn't willfully disobey the Dongfang family's orders. However, not everyone would think of it in that way. Lin Yue clenched her fist as she stared in hateful jealousy towards the direction where Gu Ruan had departed in. A sneer started to form on her lips, containing a faint trace of mockery. Gu Ruan, so what if your powers are strong? So what if you have the ability to surpass the crowd? Do you really think that you can go up against the three great authorities with only your powers? If anyone knew about the pills which you hold in your hands, all that awaits you will be a death sentence issued by the three great authorities. Don't judge the three great authorities for the noble display of character in public. In reality, they would do anything to increase their power. This woman was looking for her own death. In the rear courtyard, just as Gu Ruan was about to push open the door, an elderly voice rang out from behind her. Idiot girl, I need to speak to you. Gu Ruan raised an eyebrow, and turned around with a smile at the old man who was approaching her with his hands behind his back. What? You want maternal grandmother to start ignoring you? You. The old man puffed out his beard and glared in anger. I've yet to collect my debt from this fellow, he thought. But she was far too good and was actually using Gare to threaten me. I'm here because I have something to talk to you about, little girl. You really shouldn't have given that pill to your maternal grandmother in front of all those guests at the birthday party. You do know that if word of your actions were to get out, you will then attract many spies. Especially those hypocrites from the immortal realm. If they were to hear of this, I'm afraid that not even the Dongfang family could protect you then. Even though the old man's tone had a hint of rebuke, but his words, full of concern, softened Gu Ruan's heart. I know. She knew that her conduct would attract great danger, but if she didn't do this, it would be difficult to shut everyone up. It might even cause trouble for maternal grandfather and grandmother. Chapter 421, The Trials 2. The reason why she had dared to do such a thing was because she had already made some inquiries. The divine trials will start soon, and during this period of time, the immortal realm's cultivators would be far too busy with their preparations to have the time to come bother her. That was why she had dared to do such a thing. It would take a few months for the divine trials to end. By then, her powers should have grown stronger, and she, as well as the Azure Dragon and the rest, would certainly be a greater match for those martial emperors from the immortal realm. You idiot girl, you simply won't be satisfied unless you stir up a fire in public. Master Dongfang glared fiercely at her and spoke with a hint of annoyance. Your great uncle has just declared to have you participate in the divine trials. I know that you have no interest in this, but you only need to participate and draw the attention of 2 out of the 3 great authorities, and the immortal realm would not be able to deal with you. I'm not interested. Gu Ruan pouted and rejected him without a moment's hesitation. Master Dongfang nearly went insane. This girl was clearly not giving him any face at all. Let me tell you this time, even if you don't want to participate, you still have to participate. I've already put your name in, so you'll have to play it by ear. And if I were to refuse to participate? Gu Ruan narrowed her eyes slightly. Honestly, she has no interest in the war with the demons. The fate of the entire mainland had absolutely nothing to do with her. She only wished to open up a place for the people she loves to live in peace. Master Dongfang was so angered that his face turned ashen. His gaze darted around for a bit before he said, Don't you want to enter the Spirit Sect? I've heard that Shangxiao's situation was growing perilous. Many elders have refused to comply with him and were secretly making false charges against him. Are you not going to help him? Now, Master Dongfang was placing a gamble on how much Gu Ruan actually cared for Gu Shangxiao. Obviously, he made the right gamble. Suddenly, Gu Ruan remembered the man from the Spirit Sect who had helped the Ling family plot against her 3 years ago. Someone from the Spirit Sect had wanted to capture her and use her as a means to threaten her big brother. That proves the unfavorable situation of her big brother in the Spirit Sect. And the only way she could help her big brother was by entering the Spirit Sect. A wave of cold aura flashed across Gu Ruan's eyes. Put my name in for me, I'll participate in the divine trials. Master Dongfang heaved a sigh of relief. The only way to prevent the immortal realm from laying their hands on her was to send her to the Spirit Sect, so he had no choice but to use Gu Shangxiao as a means to convince her. Ever since her parents died, the girl's brother, whom she had also relied on, was the biggest berserk button of her life. Oh right, when do the divine trials begin? In 3 days' time. 3 days. Gu Ruan frowned. All right, I understand. I'll set off in 3 days. Master Dongfang still had something more to say but swallowed his words in the end. He left with a heart filled with all sorts of concern. Fine wisps of hair danced in the night breeze. The beautiful moonlight poured down from the heavens, falling on the young girl's green robes. Xiao Yi, aren't you supposed to be in your room? Why are you here? Gu Ruan's voice was as light as a fresh breeze as it fluttered in the night air. The silver-haired man had appeared from behind a tree. His blood-red robes were like a demon's and looked even more enchanting under the moonlight. Xiao Yun, the man slowly walked towards Gu Ruan and placed both hands firmly on her shoulders. His peerless features were resolute and serious. I don't know why, but I'm feeling very uncomfortable. Can you not go to the divine trials? Gu Ruan stared blankly for a moment, then smiled lightly. Xiao Yi, he's my older brother who had always shielded me. For my sake, he did not hesitate to oppose the people from the immortal realm. In times of calamity, all he could think of was my safety. He even concealed his identity to protect me. How could I leave him alone and not care about him? Besides, I have a feeling that if I participate in the divine trials, I might be able to find new heir. Chapter 422, The Trials 3. The man said nothing more as he gazed at the young girl's beautiful features. His red eyes were filled with resolve. If you've made your decision, then I'll follow you there. No matter the dangers that may come your way, I will protect you. He can only support her decision, and he would follow her without hesitation even to the end of the world. Xiao Yi, thank you. Gu Ruan raised her head and looked at the silver-haired man in blood-red robes. A peculiar light flashed across her clear eyes. The shining moonlight enveloped the man's silky, silver hair. The scene was so beautiful it was like a dream. But most importantly, the man's red lips were very close to hers. So close that all he needed to do was to lean forward. It goes without saying that, at this very moment, Gu Ruan's heart seemed to stop. Even with Lu Chen in her past life, she had not felt anything quite as genuine as this. Xiao Yun, may I kiss you? As he spoke, the man's peerless face looked extremely shy, but his eyes, full of desire, were gazing at Gu Ruan's lips. Nevertheless, he did not wait for Gu Ruan to regain her senses and lowered his head to kiss her soft, thin lips. Previously, it wasn't like Chanbei Yi didn't steal kisses from her, but Gu Ruan, at the time, did not have feelings for him. Now, she didn't know why, but the moment when the man's red lips met hers, her mind suddenly went blank. She did not even notice it when Chanbei Yi's lips left hers. Xiao Yun, you're not going to hit me. After a long pause, seeing as how Gu Ruan had made no reaction, the man stared at her pitifully as he asked carefully. He looked like the bully dookie from a boy's love story, looking so hurt that anyone would feel the urge to pamper him with tenderness. Hit you? Gu Ruan finally regained her senses, though her mind was still in a blur. She asked puzzledly, why would I hit you? But, the man stole a glance at her and his face looked absolutely miserable. Didn't you hit me the last time? He was talking about that one time in Heaven City. She had woken up and then kicked him when she realized that Chanbei had taken advantage of her unconsciousness and fooled around with her. So, until now, he still believed that as long as he kissed Gu Ruan, he would be met with a flying kick. Xiao Yun, if you're going to hit me, can you only hit me here? Chanbei pointed at his abdomen and explained in a hurt tone, if you hit the wrong place, I'm afraid that we won't be able to have babies in the future. Have babies, Gu Ruan thought. This guy, what kind of place has his thoughts gone to? I'm going to sleep now, you can give birth to them yourself. Once she had said her piece, Gu Ruan opened her bedroom door and walked in. Chanbei attempted to follow her but it was in vain, the door smashed into his nose all of a sudden and blocked him from entering. In her bedroom, Gu Ruan took a deep breath as she tried to calm her racing heart. She could not stop the thoughts from running through her mind as she recalled Chanbei's hurt, pitiful look when she had left. She smiled to herself and thought, this guy. He's really an idiot. She was quite fortunate. After enduring a bitter betrayal in her past life, she managed to meet someone in this life who would disregard reciprocation and protect her with his life. A glimmer was seen in Gu Ruan's eyes as she smiled at the thought. The next day. Sunrise. Gu Ruan pushed open her bedroom door to find the familiar figure right in front of her. The man's face looked a little tired and his already blood-red eyes were now bloodshot. After seeing Gu Ruan, his expression suddenly changed and his entire being filled with vitality. Xiao Yun, you're awake. Gu Ruan furrowed her brow, you were out here the entire night. Xiao Yun, if you don't like it, I won't kiss you again so please don't be angry with me. As if having heard the anger in Gu Ruan's tone of voice, Chanbei pitifully begged. I was angry with you. Gu Ruan went momentarily blank as she thought, when have I been angry at Xiao Yi and how did I not know about this? Were you not unwilling to hit me yesterday? Chanbei stared hurtfully at Gu Ruan, so you must be angry with me. If I don't hit him, I'm angry with him. She wondered, does this man have a tendency for masochism? And just because of that, he had stayed outside my door the entire night. Gu Ruan was dumbstruck. I left yesterday because my heart was beating too fast, and he ended up thinking that I was angry at him. Chapter 423, The Trials, 4. Xiao Yi. Gu Ruan said, looking a little awkward, actually, I. Before she could finish her sentence, a gentle voice like a piece of jade suddenly sounded from behind them. Yunse, your maternal grandfather has asked for you to join him in the meeting hall. He wishes to speak to you. Dongfang Shaozi's words lightly snapped Gu Ruan out of her awkward state and she stuttered, Xiao Yi, do you want to come with me? Chanbei stared blankly. What did Xiao Yun mean by this? Could it be that she's no longer angry with me? Let's go. Gu Ruan did not wait for Chanbei to step out of his blank state and turned towards Dongfang Shao's with a smile. Uncle, may I trouble you to escort us? All right. Dongfang Shao smiled as he swept his gaze from Gu Ruan to Chanbei but said nothing more and turned towards the direction of the meeting hall. From afar, Gu Ruan could hear the sounds of a debate coming from the meeting room. She could not help but frown and a peculiar glint flashed across her eyes. At this moment in the meeting hall, the atmosphere was stern and suffocating. The elders argued amongst one another endlessly and Master Dongfang, the head of the Dongfang family, knit his brows without saying a word. His elderly face was cold and grim, his eyes were lit with a sharp glint from within. Master, I'm not chastising you but Gu Ruan is a person with a different surname. She's not even a member of the Dongfang family. Don't you know that daughters who have been married off cannot be retrieved? Her daughter clearly isn't related to the Dongfang family and besides, her ladyship left of her own accord without saying goodbye or with your permission. Her daughter is also spoiled and rude. Otherwise, she wouldn't have embarrassed Yansa. The person who was speaking was Dongfang Yan's father, Dongfang Linli. He never expected that the girl responsible for his daughter's punishment would turn out to be the much talk about Gu Ruan. Most importantly, how could the master let her represent the Dongfang family in the divine trials? How could they allow a person of a different surname to represent the family in such an important event like this? Even though she was now a part of the Dongfang family, it doesn't change the fact that her surname is Gu. Master Dongfang did not speak but his face sank further and further by the minute. PFFT. The sound of a giggle was heard, coming from the only woman amongst the group of elders. Her lips were curled into a smile as she cast a disdainful gaze towards Dongfang Linli. Elder Linli, that girl's surname may be Gu but for goodness sake, her mother was Dongfang Yu. She has the blood of the Dongfang family flowing through her veins and that girl definitely has power. I don't believe that allowing her to represent the family would mean that the Dongfang family has no other representatives. Even if she does not have the Dongfang surname, it does not change the blood flowing in her veins. In her life, there were not many people who Dongfang Changjin would admire. Years ago, when she was still young and frivolous, the only person whom she had admired amongst the youth of her generation was Dongfang Yu. She once considered her a rival, because of her she had once rushed over from afar to fight with her. She still remembers that fateful day. That woman was dressed in snow-white robes and was standing tall above the clouds. Her eyes had seen nothing worthwhile around her. That day, she only used 3 techniques to defeat her once arrogant self. From then on, she changed her name to Dongfang and entered the Dongfang family in order to chase after her beloved idol. Who would have guessed that not too long after she had entered the Dongfang family, she would receive news of Dongfang Yu's death. It cast her fully into regret for many years. Chapter 424, The Trials, 5. If a genius like that was still alive, how powerful would she have become now? But the student has surpassed the master. Dongfang Yu's daughter now has far more grace than she had that year. Even her luck seemed to be far better than hers. Elder Changjin, that's where you're wrong, Dongfang Linli sneered. I don't think that this girl has any abilities to deserve this position. So what if she is the master of the 100 Herb Hall? So what if she is a martial emperor? When the 3 great authorities select talent, they don't merely judge them based on their power. Do you all really think that the 3 great authorities can put up with her savage attitude? I've long heard of her bloodthirsty nature. There are so many departed spirits who demand vengeance for the grievances in her hands. If we allow her to be a part of the Dongfang family, disaster will soon follow. His voice paused before continuing. I am thinking for the sake of the Dongfang family. Master, it's impossible for you to study this in your free time and to destroy the Dongfang family for the sake of an insignificant woman. Dongfang Linli's words were spoken as if he were devoted to a righteousness that inspires reverence. He would never admit that his prejudice towards Gu Ruoan was all because he was trying to avenge his daughter. Who asked the damned girl to resist Yance's orders too boldly? He thought. She'd caused the faultless Yance to be forced into letting go of her post as the general, bringing disaster to the Dongfang family. I wonder if you're talking about me. A small chuckle was heard from outside the door. Then, the meeting room door was slowly pushed open and a girl dressed in green robes with a calm air appeared in the doorway. Next to her was a peerless silver-haired man whose eyes swept indifferently across the hall before placing his gaze on the young girl next to him. Dongfang Linli frowned and scoffed coldly. This is the meeting hall. Who gave you permission to enter? You're certainly a wild girl with no upbringing or knowledge of etiquette at all. I'm the one who asked her to come here. Are you unhappy with my decision? A stern voice suddenly rang aloud in his ear. The tone held a thick sense of annoyance and anger, causing Dongfang Linli to tremble. He slowly turned around and simpered. Seeing as it's your decision, master, then I will allow him to stay by the side and listen. Only, it seems that you've forgotten the rules of the Dongfang family. Outsiders are not allowed to participate in a Dongfang family meeting. As he spoke, Dongfang Linli purposely emphasized the word, outsiders. That's right, Elder Linli is right. Master, as the head of the family, you must set a good example. Otherwise, how could you be fair to everyone else? Master, Elder Linli was only thinking for the sake of the Dongfang family. Please, master, don't forget the rules of the Dongfang family. Upon hearing Dongfang Linli's words, the old men who have always followed him closely subserviently nodded their heads and spoke up. Are you truly doing this for the sake of the Dongfang family or are you trying to avenge your daughter? Master Dongfang's clever eyes glanced coldly at Dongfang Linli. He then turned his gaze to Gu Ruoan. Little girl, I've asked you here because there is still one more thing that I wish to discuss with you. I want to change your surname to Dongfang. What do you think? Gu Ruoan raised an eyebrow. I refuse. Why? A slow, angry flame began to burn from within Master Dongfang. Does this girl really not know my reasons for allowing her to change her surname? If her surname was Dongfang, we'll see if these old farts would dare to continue sprouting more nonsense. Honestly, I have no feelings towards the Gu family, but... Gu Ruoan paused, then continued, Gu Chan is my father, Gu Shangshao is my brother. They both carry the Gu name, so I'm Gu Ruoan. Chapter 425, The Trials 6. You, Master Dongfang puffed his beard in anger and shot her a glare. Was this fellow trying to anger me to death? Old man, as the head of the family, you're actually unable to subdue the words of the family elders. How about if I were to represent you instead? Gu Ruoan smiled and completely ignored Master Dongfang's ashen face. Her lips curled into a faint smile and she narrowed her eyes at Dongfang Linli. You say that you're doing this for the sake of the Dongfang family. Then can you explain that besides me, who else was capable enough to lead the Dongfang family to greater power? Are you expecting the old man? Or your old-fashioned daughter? What did you say? Bang! Dongfang Linli stood up immediately and coldly scoffed. Are you saying that my daughter is no better than you? Perhaps her powers may not be as strong as yours, but her heart is far kinder and she carries herself better. Unlike you who casually follows after other men. As he said this, Dongfang Linli swept his gaze scornfully to Chanbei who was standing next to Gu Ruoan. This time, forget about Gu Ruoan. Even Master Dongfang was thoroughly enraged. He was just about to speak up until he was cut off by Gu Ruoan's clear, cold voice. Xiao Yi is one of my people. If the Dongfang family refuses to acknowledge him, I won't mind renewing the entire organization of the Dongfang family. Impudence. Dongfang Linli angrily threw his fist at Gu Ruoan as he roared angrily. Damn girl. Firstly, I'm going to teach you the meaning of respecting the old and loving the young. Dongfang Linli. Bang. Master Dongfang rose from his seat and exploded with rage until the veins throbbed on his forehead. If you dare lay a hand on her, I'll make you regret it. Just as he spoke, a strong aura went spiraling towards Dongfang Linli. However, Master Dongfang's aura has yet to reach Dongfang Linli when a large hand suddenly reached out and gripped Dongfang Linli's neck tightly. Dongfang Linli found himself unable to move and his face began to pale. He didn't even manage to get a clear look at the man's attack before he fell into the latter's grasp. Master. The elders who had sided with Dongfang Linli saw Chanbei Yi's actions and could no longer control themselves. They stood up and said, this boy has simply gone over the limit. For goodness sake, Dongfang Linli is also an elder of the family. How could you allow an outsider to bully and humiliate him like this? Boy, I advise you to let Elder Linli go. Chanbei Yi coldly glared at the person who just spoke. One look was enough for that person to feel his coercion. He was so terrified that he no longer dared to speak again. Xiao Yi, don't let him go. Gu Ruoan stared at the crowd with a slight smile on her face. Finally, her gaze landed on the old man's face. Old man, you won't mind if I did a little family spring cleaning, would you? The old man's mouth twitched. And if I do mind, so what? This girl's temper was far more explosive than mine. How would she possibly listen to me? Besides, these guys should really be punished. If it weren't for my consideration of their contributions to the Dongfang family, I would have disposed of their family status already. Now I'd like to know, how many of you here would pledge to serve Master Dongfang's decision? A glint flashed across Gu Ruoan's eyes as she said this. More than 10 elders who were led by Dongfang Changjin rose from their seats. The rest stared with contempt and disdain, refusing to allow Gu Ruoan's entrance into the Dongfang family. Based on my information, Lady Gu has indeed killed many people. But the victims were all people who had intentions of killing her. I don't believe that she had killed recklessly. Dongfang Changjin smiled gently. Lady Gu, your mother and I can be considered as old acquaintances. Her daughter is indeed outstanding. All these years, the Dongfang family's placement in the trials have always been at the bottom of the list, so I hope that you can help us to recover our losses. For sure, Gu Ruan chuckled silently. To the elders standing before me, after this, you may collect one improved spirit gathering pill from Dongfang Shao's. This spirit gathering pill may not be as efficient as the Emperor breakthrough pills, but after consuming it, you will be able to break through to the ranks of a martial emperor within 3 days. Chapter 426, The Trials 7. When the dust had settled, Gu Ruan turned towards Master Dongfang and raised an eyebrow as she said, I've helped you to solve the matter. Now, as for reorganizing the family, I'll let you personally handle that on your own. I won't stick my foot in that. Xiao Yi, return Elder Linley to him. Master Dongfang's expression was filled with dignity and his voice was filled with virtue. Servant, for Elder Linley's high-level violations, he shall be stripped of his title as an elder from this day forward. Take him to the torture chamber and await my orders. It's best to take advantage of this opportunity and review the Dongfang family's traditions. Immediately after he spoke, the doors burst open and a group of armored guards charged in to restrain the struggling Elder Linley. Ha ha, you will regret this, you will all definitely regret your actions today. Before being taken away, Elder Linley let out a terrifying laugh, making everyone's hair stand on end. But no one would plead mercy for him and some of them were powerless to defend themselves, so how would they have the headspace to bother about him? Xiao Yi, let's go. Gu Ruan yawned, her eyes fell on the man next to her and she smiled as she spoke. Then, she turned and walked out. Outside the meeting hall, under the azure skies, the man paused in his steps. His red eyes fixed the gaze upon the young girl in front of him with a peculiar light flashing from within his stare. Xiao Yi. Gu Ruan was momentarily stunned and turned around to face the man. What's wrong? Just now, you had told him that I belong to you. Chanbei Yi looked extremely shy and his eyes were staring at Gu Ruan in anticipation. Is that true? Gu Ruan raised her eyebrows slightly and smiled. What do you think? Then, she said nothing more and quickly rushed towards the courtyard. Behind her, the man stared dazedly after the young girl's disappearing figure and was unable to regain his senses for a very long time. So does this mean that she admits that I belong to her? He thought. The surprise was too sudden and too quick, so much so that he remained foolishly glued to the spot as he stared in astonishment after Gu Ruan's shadow. Soon after, it was the Dongfang city's turn. They were all scared stiff. First, 2 powerful cultivators of the Dongfang family broke through to the martial emperor level. Within the next few days, a strong aura encircled the skies around the Dongfang family's home as countless people, one after another, broke through to the rank of martial emperor. No one could understand what was going on or how so many cultivators could achieve their breakthroughs in one shot. In this mind-blowing situation, the time to leave for the divine trials has arrived. At the present moment, a group of youths had gathered in the Dongfang family's courtyard. These were the pride of the Dongfang family and some of the very best geniuses in Dongfang City. But at this moment, these normally arrogant and haughty young geniuses were staring in awe at a young girl in front of them. The girl was not very advanced in age and looked to be about 18 to 19 years old. She wore green robes and had a calm air about her as she stood loftily amongst the crowd. Little girl, besides having you as the leader of this team, I will ask Dongfang Changjin to follow you as well. Master Dongfang coughed and his stern gaze swept across the disciples before him. Ladies and gentlemen, Gu Ruan will be the leader of this group in the trials. You must all listen to her commands and are not allowed to oppose her. Yes, Master. The disciples replied in unison and their high-spirited voices rang throughout the courtyard. Chapter 427, Shiyun 1. Actually, all of them deeply admire Gu Ruan and would have willingly followed her even without Master Dongfang's orders. It was possible that what Gu Ruan said would be more useful than Master Dongfang's words. Master, everyone is here now. We should be heading off. Dongfang Changjin smiled and swelled with pride at the sight of the geniuses before her. Everyone, the divine trials will soon begin. Now follow me and we'll start our journey. Is there anyone here who wishes to pull out of the trials? The crowd was silent. Everyone remained in their respective positions and did not move as their faces filled with determination. If there are none, then let's be off. The Spirit Sect. In a large hall, a man dressed in green robes rose and stared coldly at the people before him. Gu Shangshao is still alive. He has been in the infinite manor for more than a month now. Even a martial honor wouldn't necessarily survive in that place, and he's still alive. This Gu Shangshao must have lost his mind. He placed a body double in the Spirit Sect and had then snuck out secretly. This time, after his return, he had checked himself into the infinite manor. The infinite manor was a restricted area of the Spirit Sect. Besides the Sect Master, only someone with his express permission would have the right to enter. But not many would be fortunate enough to survive. However, the dangers were directly proportionate to the rewards. When a person was able to remain there for 3 years, he would receive deep comprehension and the opportunity to become the next Sect Master. But, the problem was, those who had previously entered the infinite manor were mostly at the rank of a martial honor. Only Gu Shangshao had been bold enough to set foot in such a deadly place as a martial emperor. Of course, it would be better if he ended up dying in there. Without him around, the Spirit Sect would soon be in his bag. Gu Shangshao, do you think that you can control the Spirit Sect just because you've entered the infinite manor? What a joke. You'll still need to come back here alive. Sneered the man in the green robes. He turned his attention to the men kneeling before him as the space between his brows filled with impatience. Useless. I've sent you to capture Gu Shangshao's precious little sister, yet you can't even do one simple thing. What on earth did I raise you for? One man trembled and replied in terror, Sir, Gu Ruan is no longer in Azure Dragon Country, that's why we had been unable to capture her. Useless, so damn useless. She's not in Azure Dragon Country, so you haven't been able to find her at all. I'll give you another half a month's time. If you still can't capture her, don't bother to come back. A murderous intent flashed across the eyes of the man in green and he laughed coldly. If one's state of mind cannot remain calm in a dangerous place like the infinite manor, then one's soul will be torn apart by the fearsome spiritual beasts within. In order to push Gu Shangshao into an early death, he had no choice but to kidnap his sister. Now, as long as the news of his sister's kidnapping should reach his ears, he will lose his calm and his corpse shall soon be fodder for the spiritual beasts. Gu Shangshao, don't think I'm ignorant of the fact that you only plan to obtain the spirit sect all for the sake of supporting your sister. However, I will never allow the spirit sect to defend such a useless thing. A person like her is a waste of resources for the mainland. What right does she have to stay alive in the world? If I were to kill a good-for-nothing like her, the entire mainland will surely thank me. Those old men from the spirit sect will thank me as well. The man in the green robe's cold smile grew even more pronounced as a malicious light filled his eyes. Chapter 428, Shi Yun 2. Gu Ruan's whereabouts after her departure to Black Tortoise Country and Heaven City had been shrouded in secrecy. When she was in Black Tortoise Country, she had only just broken through to the ranks of a martial king. Only half a year had passed since then, so no one would have expected her to progress by much. Besides, to that young man, anyone who was lesser than him was considered a good-for-nothing. Actually, Gu Shangshao should thank me because I'm helping him get rid of a burdensome good-for-nothing, said the young man as he narrowed his eyes. The smile on his face was utterly complacent, as if Gu Shangshao would certainly feel grateful to him for killing Gu Ruan. Big brother Nan. Suddenly, a soft and lovely voice sounded from outside the door. The man in the green robe's cold yet handsome face became gentle at the sound of the woman's voice. He gazed warmly at the woman in white who was heading leisurely towards him. The woman's robes were as white as snow. Her fine hair danced with her every move and her heart-stopping face carried a comforting smile. Her every move was absolutely moving, softening Kun Nan's heart. Xie, why are you here? Shi Yun glided towards him and the smile on her face slowly disappeared. Her face now held a slight hint of sorrow. Seeing the look on her face, Kun Nan's heart could not help but ache, wishing he could pull her into his embrace and quell her pain. But he was afraid of scaring the beautiful woman away, so he forced himself to suppress the urge. Xie, what happened? Shi Yun smiled bitterly and replied, Big brother Nan, I seem to have heard you mentioning Gu Ruan's name just now. Oh, Kun Nan was astonished. Do you know this woman as well, Xie? How could I not? Shi Yun shook her head sorrowfully and her lips curled into an agonized smile. Big brother Nan, you should know that though Gu Ruan is not all that powerful, she's skilled in the art of seduction. She's fooled around with more than one man. No matter what, Shi Yun would never admit the fact that Gu Ruan had great power, and she would never allow the man in front of her to know that she had lost to her. Years ago, my lover and I were deeply in love, but he was stolen away by Gu Ruan. I don't know what she did, but she caused him to lose his memories. He's even forgotten about my very existence. Even so, she wouldn't let go of me. Not only did she ally herself with the Chia family to destroy my weapon refining sect, she even murdered several elders from the immortal realm and looted some treasures from their corpses. Furthermore, she then shifted the blame to the weapon refining sect, and now my father's whereabouts are unknown. I suspect that he may have met with misfortune. As she spoke, a flash of hatred appeared in Shi Yun's eyes. However, it left as quickly as it came and was so swift that Kun Nan never noticed it. Big brother Nan, I really don't know what I've done wrong. She stole the love of my life, yet I have never confronted her about it. Why must she continue to be vicious and refuse to let me be, rendering me destitute and homeless? But I don't hate her, I cannot bring myself to hate her. After all, she was only someone whose mind is muddled by love. Her actions may have been underhanded, but she was not in the wrong. Kun Nan could no longer stand it. He raised his hand and pulled Shi Yun into his embrace. In that instant, a blazing flame boiled from within his heart, and he wished that he could charge out and kill Gu Ruan immediately. Xie, you are far too kind. You are the only woman who is as kind as a fairy. Only you deserve to be loved by the heavens and earth. What is Gu Ruan anyways? Without Gu Shangshao, she is nothing. I had initially planned on killing her on account of the fact that she is his sister, but I never thought that she would treat you in this way. She would even have the heart to harm such a beautiful and good woman like you and frame you in the process. I will never let her off. Chapter 429, Shi Yun 3. Kun Nan gnashed his teeth hatefully. To him, Shi Yun was a fairy in everyone's hearts, kind and beautiful. She was above the commoners. No one could bear to react with blasphemy towards her. Unfortunately, there were women who were so malicious in the world that they could bear to harm such a beautiful and virtuous woman. People like that were simply not fit to be human at all. Big brother Nan. Shi Yun's eyes filled with gratitude as she smiled bitterly and shook her head. It's fine. We should place more importance on the present conditions. I don't want to haggle over personal grudges. The current situation of the mainland has become increasingly grim. One more person means one more helping of strength. Let her go. If revenge breeds revenge, will there ever be an end to it? I don't want to live in hatred for the rest of my life. Though she may be saying this on the outside, in Shi Yun's heart she dearly wished to tear Gu Ruan into pieces. Only then would the hatred in her heart be appeased. Xie, Kun Nan sighed, you are truly far too kind. Not everyone can understand your kindness. The man Gu Ruan had stolen from you truly has good taste. He loves you, not her. But no one could have expected Gu Ruan to be so malicious as to actually remove this man's memories. Actually, I'd really like to see what kind of man he is to gain the favor of the fairy like Shi Yun. Shi Yun's body shook and she lowered her head slightly. Big brother Nan, he has already forgotten me. Instead, he now believes that Gu Ruan is me. He even listened to her and heard me. So what if he had once loved me? Now he no longer remembers a thing. Shi Yun gently closed her eyes and the scene from her dreams replayed in her mind once again. The man was dressed in red and stood high above like a monarch of the world. It was as if one look could make all living things serve him, and it shook her heart as well. Having met him in this life, she could longer love any other man for the rest of her life. Hence, she must have him by any means possible. Big brother Nan, Shi Yun suddenly spoke, in the divine trials which will take place a few days later, may I follow and participate with the Strud sect? I would like to see the standards of the new generation of geniuses. I wonder if you can help me, Big brother Nan. Kun Nan nodded his head and agreed without hesitation. If it's something you like, Xie, I can discuss it with those old men and grant you an entry to participate. The only exception is, even though the deaths of those elders from the immortal realm had nothing to do with you, it's best that you avoid letting those from the immortal realm to notice your presence. Do you understand? Big brother Nan, don't worry. I will stay hidden behind the scenes. I won't show myself and I won't cause trouble for you, big brother Nan. Shi Yun smiled gently and promised. Her sensible thoughtfulness unwittingly made Kun Nan feel ashamed and his hatred towards Gu Ruan increased. If it wasn't for this evil woman, my Xia would not need to conceal herself in public, he thought. This is all her fault. I won't let her off. Meanwhile, Kun Nan, who had been engrossed with mentally cursing Gu Ruan, did not notice a hateful glare in the eyes of that kind, fairy-like woman. The divine trials, she thought. It appears that the Chia family would certainly take part in the divine trials this time, and that proves that Gu Ruan will make an appearance as well. Out in the open, she had been unable to defeat this woman. Now that she was representing the Stred sect, there would be many ways for her to kill Gu Ruan in absolute secrecy. When that happens, Gu Ruan will regret having made an enemy out of her. Gu Ruan, from the moment you defeated me and framed the weapon refining sect, I swore that I would not let you have an easy death. HMPH. Shi Yun's smile became sinister, but when Kun Nan recollected his train of thought and turned his attention back to her, she had already composed her facial expression and had changed back to her fairy-like manner, which was untainted by earthliness or smoke and fire. Chapter 430, The Medicine Order 1. It was a city in the clouds, in short, Cloud City. As the name implies, this was a city built within the clouds. It was also the place where the three great authorities would come to select geniuses. However, because Cloud City was located in the clouds, it was only accessible by Pegasus of Cloud City. However, aside from the divine trials, Cloud City was not like the world outside. No one was allowed to enter the city most of the time. At this moment, in a small villa below Cloud City, a noisy crowd turned silent upon seeing a group of people slowly approaching their location. After a long pause, they began to softly debate amongst one another. The only lady at the very front is Dongfang Changjin of the Dongfang family. It would seem that the group that has just arrived are the representatives of the Dongfang family. The Dongfang family. Long ago, only Dongfang Yu was the most prominent figure. I can still remember the year when I had participated alongside Dongfang Yu in the trials. At that time, her innate skills shocked everyone and the three great authorities competed amongst themselves to entice her, but in the end, she had refused all three offers. Unfortunately, the heavens were jealous of heroic geniuses. After Dongfang Yu's death, it seemed that such a genius may never grace the halls of the Dongfang family ever again. Hehe, that's just the way it is, right? Previously, the Dongfang family had Dongfang Yu, so they had always been ranked as number one in the divine trials. Ever since Dongfang Yu's death, the Dongfang family has turned into a lowly existence and no peerless genius has ever appeared in so many years. That year, Dongfang Yu could be described as a genius who had shaken the world and was an unsurpassed legend. Once, she used her power as a newly minted martial emperor to ward off a joint attack by two mid-level martial emperors on her own and defeated both of them without a hint of injury. Even the normally snobbish immortal realm was extremely shocked by her talent and offered to take her in as a subordinate. But that genius girl never liked being subjected to restrictions, so no matter how great their offers were, she had rejected them. Gu Ruan faintly curled the corners of her lips as her pure, beautiful face filled with a smile. So, my mother, whom I've yet to meet, had been so outstanding, she thought. And I, as her daughter, am so proud of her. This time, even if it weren't for my brother, I will still walk the path that had once been traveled by my mother. These are your Pegasus. After this, you may enter Cloud City. After inspecting the identities of every representative in the Dongfang family, the soldiers of Cloud City opened the way. It was at that moment, however, when a cold laugh was heard from behind them. As the lowest existence, you have no right to be placed in the front. Dongfang Changjin, I'm sure you won't mind giving us those horses. You never know, I might even ask my medicine order disciples to spare you during the trials. The medicine order. Upon hearing the name of the faction, everyone subconsciously parted aside, giving the center of the road to the group. If one considered the Dongfang family's accumulated power as the strongest, then, besides the three great authorities, the medicine order would be considered as the privileged ones among those of the younger generation. Especially Rongyu, the master of the medicine order's apprentice. In just 2 months she had reached the rank of a mid-level martial emperor and was considered to be unmatched in her generation. Most importantly, her medicinal skills were absolutely perfect. It was rare that anyone could defeat her in this area. The medicine order. Gu Ruan's expression grew cold and her icy gaze swept towards the woman who had just spoken. Chan Bei suddenly sensed a difference in Gu Ruan's demeanor and squeezed her hand, frowning at the members of medicine order. If my guess is right, it would seem that Xiao Yun has some form of enmity towards the members of medicine order, he mused. Chapter 431, The Medicine Order 2. I'm fine. Gu Ruan regained her senses and shook her head. For me to meet the disciples of the medicine order here, would this be considered as a case of enemies on a narrow road? Honestly, the medicine order had not cited her in the least, but they carry a grudge against someone who was close to her. She would not forget the year when the master of the medicine order had passed away and Wei Yi inherited the treasury of medicine. However, Wei Yi was betrayed by her lover and her trusted junior sister, who then snatched the treasury of medicine from her. Fortunately, at that time, her master's only daughter had saved her. Otherwise, she would never have been able to escape the medicine order and would never have become the ghost doctor. Even so, her face had been destroyed and she was forced to constantly flee from punishment, concealing herself for so many years. Dongfang Changjin stared with a peculiar expression at Gu Ruan as she thought, this girl had an extreme reaction when they met the medicine order disciples. Could it be that something had happened between them? That's Elder Zuei, the third most powerful cultivator of the medicine order. Unless my guess is wrong, the person next to her should be Lady Rongyu, the number one cultivator. When the crowd noticed the group of fairy-like women gliding around and dressed in white, their eyes showed clear amazement. Some stared directly at Rongyu, who was standing next to Zuei, and simply could not look away. Rongyu knit her willowy brows and did not speak, but her thin gaze was filled with a sort of unfathomable arrogance, as if those people were not worth her time to be spoken to. The disciples of the medicine order. Gu Ruan smiled coldly and spoke irritably. Could it be that the members of the medicine order enjoy relying on force to bully others? Or was it that the Dongfang family was available for bullying? Zhuyi frowned and shot Gu Ruoan a cold glare. Little girl, didn't your parents ever teach you to never interrupt a conversation? I'm speaking to the leader of the Dongfang family's representatives, so you shouldn't interfere. Then, Zhuyi turned her attention back to Dongfang Changjin. She had assumed, based on Dongfang Changjin's status as an elder, that she was the one undoubtedly leading the Dongfang family's representatives to Cloud City. My apologies, Gu Ruoan spoke with a smirk. I'm the leader of the Dongfang family's team. Wow. The crowd burst into a fervent discussion as everyone stared in disbelief at Gu Ruoan. What did she just say? They wondered. She was the leader of the Dongfang family team. Wasn't every team supposed to be led by an elder? Just how old is this little girl? She's only a silly little girl. Could it be that the other young disciples had nothing to say about this? Hee. Zhuyi sneered. Little girl, I don't think I've ever met you. Who are you to the Dongfang family? Gu Ruoan smiled and replied without hesitation, Gu Ruoan. If the crowd had been shocked when Gu Ruoan claimed to be the leader of the Dongfang family's team, they were now so stunned that they were rendered speechless. Gu Ruoan. She's Gu Ruoan, the mysterious master of the 100 Herb Hall. TSK, this Gu Ruoan was also considered a genius. She had been able to break through to the martial king level under the conditions of the outside world at such a young age. But when compared to some disciples from other families, she's not all that different. Unfortunately, this is the divine trials and all participants are the best of the best. Especially Lady Rongyu of the Medicine Order and the young master of the Dark Yin Palace, Zhao Shangchen. They've already broken through to the martial emperor level. She's only a low-level martial king. She may have been able to rain tyrannical abuse in the outside world, but that won't be possible over here. Chapter 432, The Medicine Order, 3. The guests who had been in attendance at Lan Yuzhi's birthday party were all subordinates of the Dongfang family. Also, not much time had passed since then, so the news of Gu Ruoan's current level of strength has yet to become common knowledge. That was why everyone currently believed that she was still a martial king, which was the rank she had attained during her visit to Black Tortoise Country. Actually, they couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. It hasn't even been a year, so who could have imagined that she would have jumped over an entire level from a martial king to a martial emperor? There was no need to even mention the Chia family. Aside from the citizens of Heaven City, the rest had all been killed. In order to avoid the news of the Holy Sacred Stone in Gu Ruoan's hands from spreading, Master Chia had strictly ordered that no one was to speak about this to anyone outside of Heaven City. Therefore, no one else in the world had known of Gu Ruoan's breakthrough. Gu Ruoan, you're not a member of the Dongfang family, so what gives you the right to participate in the divine trials? Zhuyi then cast a disdainful stare at Dongfang Changjin. When had the Dongfang family declined to such an extent that you would rely on external help? Even if you had found someone slightly more powerful, wouldn't permitting her to participate mean an automatic defeat? Dongfang Changjin's expression sank. Just as she was about to open her mouth for a retort, the young girl's calm voice slowly rang out loud. Dongfang Yu is my mother, so why shouldn't I have the right to participate? Her words were like a tremendous weight that hammered fiercely into the hearts of the crowd. She's the daughter of Dongfang Yu. I thought Dongfang Yu had passed on ages ago. Where had this daughter come from? I remember that this Gu Ruoan is the daughter of Gu Qian. At that time, Gu Qian was not a descendant of an aristocratic family. Could it be that Dongfang Yu's disappearance had been because she had eloped with Gu Qian? On this mainland, besides a small number of people, the rest had no idea of the incident which had happened that year. So naturally, they wouldn't know anything about the connection between Gu Ruoan and the Dongfang family. Therefore, when they heard such an important news, the crowd felt as if lightning had struck their hearts, which quivered ceaselessly. Hee. Upon hearing Gu Ruoan's words, Zhuyi's expression changed a few times before returning to its normal state. She sneered. I didn't think that Dongfang Yu's daughter would have become so grown up by now and is participating in the divine trials. Unfortunately, you are too far off from your mother's standards. You are only a puny little martial king. There's no way for you to pass the trials smoothly. Of course, if you're willing to give these Pegasus to the Medicine Order, then I wouldn't let you lose too badly. Gu Ruoan rubbed her chin as she smiled and nodded. That's not a bad suggestion. If you politely apologize to the Dongfang family members now, perhaps I won't let you lose too badly too. The crowd, which had initially been chattering in a debate, was silenced upon hearing Gu Ruoan's words. It was so quiet that you could hear the sound of a pin drop. What did we just hear? They thought. Did this girl just boast and say that she wouldn't let the Medicine Order disciples lose too badly? Is something wrong with her brain, or is she just insane? Lady Rongyu of the Medicine Order was already a martial emperor, and besides her, there were many other young geniuses in the Medicine Order. The Dongfang family can possibly match up with them. One should not judge the Dongfang family's might based on the current level of power. However, it would seem that, unfortunately, the next generation was nothing to be excited about. The Dongfang family would certainly fall into decline once the master of the Dongfang family and Lan Yuzhi returned to the Western Paradise. So they simply could not understand how this woman would dare to boast so loudly. Obviously, Rongyu was quite annoyed by Gu Ruoan's words. She knit her brows tighter and tighter, staring coldly back at her. Even so, she remained arrogantly silent as she cast a frosty look upon the opposition. With someone like you around, the Dongfang family has certainly reached its end. Zhuyi's smile held disdain and mockery. It would seem that the heavens are truly unjust to grant Dongfang Yu such great talents, yet giving her defects when it comes to bearing and raising children. She's even given birth to an ignorant child blessed with cerebral palsy. Gu Ruoan, just because you were lucky enough to obtain a few pills doesn't mean that you can fancy yourself unrivaled in the eyes of the world. For in the eyes of our Medicine Order, you are nothing. Chapter 433, The Trade Fair, 1. The sun was setting in the east and the glow of the remaining light poured down and shone upon every corner of the manor. Just as Zhuyi's words fell, the disciples of the Dongfang family glared at her angrily. Obviously, Gu Ruoan was already an idol in their hearts. Now, their idol has suffered slander. To be accused of having cerebral palsy, how could they bear it? Elder Changjin, Lady Gu, these Medicine Order disciples are simply too much. If this can be tolerated, what cannot be? We must all show our power for these people to see. The disciples were restless and some were rolling up their sleeves, readying themselves for battle. Gu Ruoan needs only say the word, they would immediately charge forward and fight. Enough. Dongfang Changjin's expression sank and she sent Zhu Yi an ugly expression. Zhu Yi, years ago, you lost in the hands of the lady of my house and now you're looking for another public venue. Apologies, but my Dongfang family will never give you that chance. Zhu Yi was once a rare, especially favored disciple and had always been proud and arrogant to the point of being extremely conceited. But her pride was destroyed at the divine trials. And the person responsible for that was Dongfang Yu. How could she not feel hatred? Even after that woman's death, it had not quelled the anger in her heart. Even now she found the Dongfang family representatives unpleasant to the eye and would always push the medicine order's disciples into starting a fight with them in the divine trials. Actually, even with the fact that the Dongfang family did not have many outstanding disciples, they should not be ranked in the last place. This had all been because of the animosity from the medicine order which had caused the Dongfang family to end up eliminated from the moment they went on stage. Let's go. Gu Ruoan glared coldly at Zhu Yi. She ignored her ashen face and calmly asked, I wonder if you remember someone named Wei Yi. One day, you will all pay for what you've done to her. She then left without a second glance. Zhu Yi's face turned from green to white and then from white to green again as she stared at Gu Ruoan's figure with an ugly expression on her face. Wei Yi, she thought, how could I ever forget her? Has that woman returned again? No, I won't allow her to return to the medicine order. Otherwise, the sins that the master and I have committed will be exposed. If that were to happen, the old people who have shielded Wei Yi would certainly make a stand. Wei Yi, Rong Yu wrinkled her willowy brows. Wasn't she the traitor who was behind the death of the old master and the person who stole the treasury of medicine? Only a traitor, she thought. I can't understand why this woman would shamelessly mention her name. There wasn't a single person in the entire medicine order who has not heard of how the old master had found out about Wei Yi's wild ambitions and had planned on giving the treasury of medicine to my own master, the current master of the medicine order. Who would have thought that Wei Yi had harbored great hatred in her heart and then caused the death of the old master before stealing the treasury of medicine? Then, she disappeared without a trace. I never imagined that she would reappear. As such, I, as a disciple of the medicine order, must tidy up the faction. At this moment, no one noticed that a woman, dressed in white amongst the group of medicine order disciples, was watching the direction where Gu Ruoan had left and was utterly spellbound. Soon, she regained her senses and slowly disappeared into the crowd. Lady Gu. Dongfang Changjin finally caught up with Gu Ruoan. She smiled and sighed, that Zhu Yi had a dispute with your mother in her youth and was defeated by your mother at the divine trials. Because of this, she has always harbored hatred in her heart and goes out of her way to cause trouble for the Dongfang family. Elder Changjin, Gu Ruoan smiled calmly and turned towards the older woman next to her. How much longer until the divine trials officially begin? About half a month. Chapter 434, The Trade Fair, 2. Half a month. Gu Ruoan smiled. I will help raise the powers of the Dongfang family members in half a month, and I will also conduct training sessions in fighting against demons. Of course, in the end, I may need to fire a few people and find replacements. I wonder if any of you have any objections. No, came the collective reply from the disciples. Now, not only have they entered the three great authorities' territory, in order to finish the fight in one breath, as long as they could defeat the arrogant medicine order, they would not have any objections even if it meant replacing the weaker members amongst themselves. All right, a glint flashed across her eyes, then let us make our way into Cloud City. From this day on, I will drown you in training. Not only do I want you to win, I want to make it such that no one in the world will ever dare look down upon the Dongfang family again. And no one shall dare to insult my mother, Dongfang Yu. These words raised the fighting spirit in many of the disciples. All of their eyes were now filled with the vitality of war, their resolution was absolute. Lady Gu, may I ask, the people you're looking for as substitutes are from? Dongfang Changjin furrowed her brows as she asked. Gu Ruoan raised an eyebrow, the members of the 100 Herb Hall. At the moment, no one knows that the Devil Sect was a power that belongs to Gu Ruoan. So, she could only mention the 100 Herb Hall instead. Most importantly, the 100 Herb Hall used to belong to the Dongfang family, so there is nothing wrong with sending members of the 100 Herb Hall to participate in the trials. Dongfang Changjin relaxed her brows and smiled. Lady Gu, since you are the leader of the team, everything shall be according to your arrangements. We will have no objections. Furthermore, all of this was for the sake of victory. They wouldn't possibly object. All right, Gu Ruoan nodded her head. Then, let's get on the Pegasus immediately and make our way to Cloud City. There was only half a month's time left until the official launch of the Divine Trials. In half a month, all the participating powers will have arrived. Some have arrived early to attend a trade fair which was held before the trials. This trade fair was not like an average trade fair in the secular world. Since the first to arrive were strong cultivators who were a part of the three great authorities, if anyone wished to procure treasure, this trade fair would be an important outlet to do so. Here, there were a few treasures that could not even be exchanged, not even with an entire country. Nightfall. The cool light of the moon shone from the heavens and enveloped the noisy city. In the city center, the city governor, who was dressed in embroidered robes, walked slowly in front of the eyes of the crowd. He brushed his robes and sat down with a smile playing on his handsome face. He then raised his voice and spoke in a heroic manner. Welcome to Cloud City. Not long after, the divine trials held by the three great authorities will start. I'm sure that all of you know that before the trials begin, we will have a grand trade fair. Hence, you may produce your treasure and use them to exchange for other treasures. Everyone present had arrived early for the trade fair, so after hearing the governor's announcement, everyone was eager to give it a try. They were desperate to know how many rare treasures would appear at the trade fair. Yue, Zhu Yi took a deep breath and spoke with a serious look on her face. Long ago, I heard the Holy Spirit Fruit would appear at this trade fair. Now that you are on the brink of a breakthrough, consuming this Holy Spirit Fruit will certainly allow you to break through easily. So we must have it, no matter what. Once Rongyu has had her breakthrough, their chances of winning the trials would greatly increase. Rongyu smiled indifferently. Do not worry, Elder Zue. After all, I, Rongyu, have never lost sight of anything I aim to have. This time it's no different. Chapter 435, The Trade Fair, 3. After the city governor's announcement, the banquet began. The leaders of every powerful organization began looking for people to strike up a conversation with. Of course, as an organization known for its medical expertise, the medicine order was surrounded by many people. In contrast, the Dongfang family's surroundings looked rather empty. Hey, aren't those members of the Dongfang family? Suddenly, a voice filled with surprise was heard, and a young man, followed by a group of footmen, headed towards the Dongfang family. His arrogant-looking eyes swept across the crowd before they finally landed on the woman behind Dongfang Changjin. Linlang, what prospects would you have in following the Dongfang family? Why not come to our Gu order? I guarantee that we can raise your powers up one level. Linlang was so angered that her face turned ashen. She scoffed and turned her head away, no longer sparing the young man's vulgar expression another glance. I'm doing this for your own good. Gu Ling stared measuringly at Linlang's angry little face and said, you must know that I have chased after you for a very long time. If you come to the Gu family, I can decide to give you the best training. Unlike the others in the Dongfang family, TSK. Here to participate in the divine trials, yet not a single martial general in their ranks. Do you all intend on failing the first challenge just like the last time? You, Linlang clenched her fist as her eyes burned with rage. Just as she was about to speak, Dongfang Changjin interrupted them. A cold light flashed across her eyes as Dongfang Changjin emotionlessly replied, young master of the Gu family, you are far too concerned. The disciples of the Dongfang family are doing very well. There's no need for you to meddle in our business. HMPH, you don't know what's good for you. The footman, upon seeing the discourteous manner in which the older woman had spoken to their young master, immediately rebuked her. It's this lady's fortune for having my young master's favor. Such ignorance. Does your Dongfang family still think that you will remain immortal? Look at your current level of power. Once those two martial emperors of the Dongfang family have passed on, who would shield you then? Of course, if you discreetly offer your services to the Gu family, perhaps your lives will be spared. Haha, you think that you're still the Dongfang family of the bygone years. The Dongfang family had lost a genius like Dongfang Yu and will soon be on the path to its downfall. However, the young master of the Gu family has already broken through to the ranks of a high-level martial king. I reckon that the Dongfang family will never have anyone with such gifts in this lifetime. Indeed, the Dongfang family only ever had one genius, Dongfang Yu. Even though Dongfang Shazi's talents weren't bad, but when compared with Dongfang Yu's abilities, the difference was vast. Besides, they've long heard the news that Dongfang Shazi's powers have remained blocked at the rank of a high-level martial king and that he probably wouldn't be able to break the bottleneck within 10 years. The young master, on the other hand, has reached the level of a martial king in, at the very most, a year. Hence, how could the Dongfang family be compared to that? Then I thank you, young Master Gu, for your generosity. However, Dongfang Changjin smiled coldly. I'm afraid such a day will not come for the Dongfang family. The world had heard of Mistress Lan's breakthrough to a high-level martial emperor but did not hear of the consistent slew of breakthroughs amongst the Dongfang family's cultivators. Her young master has already reached the ranks of a martial emperor. By the time they find out about this, the divine trials would be at its end. I certainly hope so. Gu Ling flashed a disdainful smile and wretchedly observed Linlang, who was hiding behind Dongfang Changjin. He curled his lips. Linlang, you know what awaits us in the first challenge. Usually, your Dongfang family will be eliminated in the first challenge. If you wish to reach the second challenge smoothly, look for me in my bedroom tonight, haha. He laughed as he turned around and walked away. Chapter 436, The Trade Fair, 4. The implications behind that last sentence caused Linlang to turn very red in the face. The rest of the Dongfang family's disciples were rubbing their fists, eager to pick a fight. This was simply an intolerable display of bullying. What's so great about the Gu family? The most powerful young disciple was only a high-level martial king. I simply can't understand what they're so pleased about. It's not their place to make thoughtless remarks about the Dongfang family. And he wants to bully Linlang. He simply doesn't place any importance on us. He would only dare to let out this spate of nonsense in Cloud City. If this were anywhere else, he wouldn't have dared to say a word. All right, Dongfang Changjin wrinkled her brows as she swept her gaze across every face of the Dongfang disciples who were ready to pick a fight. Gu Ling's powers are indeed strong. Besides, to be able to become a high-level martial king at such a young age does give him the right to strut around and show off. If you can't swallow the way he speaks, then defeat him in the divine trials. Linlang gritted her teeth, said nothing more. All these years, she has had to endure the humiliation from Gu Ling every time during the divine trials. Unfortunately, her powers were no match for his and she could only choose to tolerate it. She thought, if I could just surpass him. Linlang's eyes hardened with resolve at the thought. She must surpass him no matter what. Otherwise, she would forever remain living with his insults. Xiao Yun, these pastries are delicious. Here, let me feed you. From the start, Chanbei did not seem to have noticed the altercation. He carefully raised a pastry to Gu Ruoen's lips as his eyes filled with a satisfied smile. In his eyes, even the boundless universe could not be compared to the happiness in her every twinkle and smile. However, Gu Ruoen could not understand why, but she seemed to sense a pair of eyes filled with envious hatred staring crystally towards her. But when she turned around, the gaze disappeared. So she quickly retracted her gaze and swallowed the pastry that Chanbei had raised to her lips. In a dark corner, a woman dressed in white coldly watched Chanbei's every move. Her jealousy was like 10,000 ants which were climbing all over her heart. She wished that she could stab Gu Ruoen's skull 100 times over. But she gritted her teeth and suppressed her impulses. Gu Ruoen. She actually had not arrived with the Chia family but had followed the Dongfang family team instead. No wonder the Dongfang family would actually oppose me. It seems that they have an unshakable connection with Gu Ruoen. Shi Yun sneered and spoke hatefully. This Gu Ruoen is truly a bane. She has caused so much harm to me and to such a tragic degree. At least some good came from my disaster, having inadvertently met someone from the Strit sect. As long as I have that silly little boy dancing in the palm of my hand, he will certainly kill Gu Ruan for me. And this trial shall be the place of her death. Gu Ruan, so what if you are a genius? How are you going to oppose the Strud sect with your powers? Even if your elder brother was the heir to the Strud sect, unfortunately, he is unable to make an appearance. And before he emerges, you will already be dead. And she shall die by my hand, she thought. Shi Yun's smile grew increasingly more eerie and sinister. At this moment, she recalled how she had fallen from her status as a dignified fairy into such poverty. If it weren't for this woman, she could not possibly have ended up becoming homeless. Just as Shi Yun was gnashing her teeth in anger, Leng Yanfeng watched her from behind with his eyes filled with resolve. As long as it was something that junior sister Shi Yun desires, I shall fulfill it for her. He thought to himself, even if she were to walk the wrong path, I will help her along the way. All of this was because she had pulled me out of the darkness once. It was her hand that saved me. As such, I will have no regrets even if I have to give her my entire life. Chapter 437, The Trade Fair, 5. The banquet didn't last for very long and ended soon after. However, just as Gu Ruan and the others were about to retire to their lodgings at the guest house, they were greeted by an unfamiliar guest. Gu Ruan frowned as she stared at the woman who was dressed in white robes before her. I have never had any relations with the medicine order. What business do you have with me? A piece of white muslin concealed the woman's face and no one could see her features clearly. She appeared to carry herself in a sweet, fair, and graceful manner. Her movements were refined and it was easy to imagine that a beautiful face was hidden beneath the white muslin. I'm here to ask you something. Is Wei Yi with you now? Gu Ruan raised an eyebrow. That's right, Wei Yi is with me. Really? The woman's voice turned joyful. I haven't introduced myself. My name is Wu Yue, a disciple of Nan Xiao. Wei Yi can be considered as my senior fellow student. Nan Xiao was the only daughter of the previous master of the medicine order and Wei Yi's junior sister. Years ago, when Wei Yi was being forced to surrender the treasury of medicine, it was Nan Xiao who had placed her own life in danger and secretly broke her out of her prison. If it weren't for Nan Xiao, Wei Yi would probably have died at the hands of that wretched couple. So, upon hearing Nan Xiao's name, Gu Ruan felt her heart move and asked, You're Nan Xiao's disciple. May I know why you do not dare show your true face to me? Wu Yue trembled. She looked as if she was hesitating but in the end seemed to make a decision. She slowly placed one hand on the muslin, gently removing it. Upon seeing the face behind the white muslin, Gu Ruan's originally calm smile changed greatly. This was why I did not want to meet you with my true face. Wu Yue smiled bitterly. I know that you're enemies with Shi Yun of the weapon refining sect and as luck would have it, I look exactly like her. That's right, if one were to overlook the great scar running through her face, this woman basically looked just like Shi Yun. But Gu Ruan knew that she was not Shi Yun. Not only was there a vast difference between their auras, the woman before her also did not carry that familiar sense of comfort. The martial art that Shi Yun practices allowed her to give off a gentle and comforting aura, but the person in front of her does not have that feeling. What is your relationship to Shi Yun? Gu Ruan frowned as she asked. Wu Yue smiled bitterly. My real name is Shi Yue. It was Master who had changed my name to Wu Yue. Shi Yun is my twin sister. However, ever since we were young, my gifts had always been more powerful than hers. Later on, I don't know how it happened but she received a new technique. She absorbed my spiritual force which ended up increasing her own powers. She did not like having somebody who looked exactly like her and believed that only her looks alone deserved to be considered as the number one under the heavens. So she destroyed my face and imprisoned me in a dungeon, telling the rest of the world that I had died. Every day she would come and torture me. In the end, I feigned my own death in order to escape. I was thrown into an unmarked grave. Fortunately, Master happened to pass by and saved me. Gu Ruan fell silent. Honestly, she was completely shocked by Wu Yue's words. She never thought that Shi Yun had an identical twin sister. This revelation required a long time for her to digest. Does the sect master of the weapon refining sect know about this matter? She asked after a long, melancholic pause. Wu Yue shook her head indifferently. So what if he doesn't know and so what if he does? That man only prioritizes benefits. Shi Yun is more powerful than I am. Why would he seek justice for my sake? Furthermore, the weapon refining sect has now been destroyed and that man's whereabouts were unknown. I have no need to tell him anything. Now, I only have my master in my life. Lady Gu, if you happen to see Senior Aunt Wei, you must tell her that Master is in a very difficult situation now. Those people are racking their brains for ways to do something to her. I truly hope that Senior Aunt Wei can lend her a hand. Chapter 438, The Trade Fair, 6. This was the Divine Trials, where many powerful organizations have gathered together. Senior Aunt Wei might have even snuck in to join in the fun, she mused. This was her true motive in following the medicine order team into Cloud City. She never thought that she would end up meeting someone acquainted with her senior aunt instead of Senior Aunt herself. That's good too, she thought, as long as the news reaches Senior Aunt, that is enough. Wu Yue, Gu Ruan rose from her seat and said, Tomorrow, I will send someone to escort Wei Yi to Cloud City. You may follow the escort as well so when the time comes you may speak to her directly. However, with your absence, I don't know if the other members of the medicine order would. Do not worry, Lady Gu. I'm not a participant in the trials. Even if I were to leave, the members of the medicine order would not have much to say. Upon hearing that Wei Yi would be arriving soon, Wu Yue's eyes sparkled and she replied hurriedly. All right, then come see me tomorrow. Gu Ruan had nothing more to say after that and yawned, looking slightly fatigued. Seeing this, Wu Yue did not linger any further. She joined her fists and bowed. Thank you, Lady Gu. I shall take my leave. She then turned around and left, closing Gu Ruan's bedroom door on her way out. Under a beautiful, moonlit sky. Along the quiet streets, a woman dressed in white, whose face was concealed by a white muslin, accidentally brushed Leng Yanfeng's shoulder. A peculiar feeling encircled his heart and he did not know why. Leng Yanfeng wrinkled his brows and turned his gaze towards the slowly disappearing figure in snow-white robes under the moonlight. A strange feeling seemed to take over his heart. Wait. Even Leng Yanfeng could not understand why he would call out to a total stranger on the streets. The woman paused in her steps and calmly replied without turning her head, "Do you need something, mister?" Have we met before?" Leng Yanfeng turned silent for half a beat before asking as he stared at Wu Yue's shadow. Wu Yue smiled and replied in the calmest of voices, "No." She then hurriedly took off and disappeared from view, leaving Leng Yanfeng spellbound and in a daze. This feeling was far too similar to what I felt from junior sister Shi Yun's body all those years ago, he mused. Who was this woman? Lost in thought, Leng Yanfeng's eyebrows were deeply creased. He resolved never to allow anyone to influence his junior sister Shi Yun's position in his heart. The trade fair was the most magnificent event in Cloud City. Every year, many skilled cultivators would have their prized treasures displayed in a stall for all to see. If the barterer happens to have a treasure that the vendor happens to be interested in, then a trade will commence. At this moment, in the middle of the Cloud City Plaza, Lin Lang stared curiously at the cat in Gu Ruoan's arms and blinked. This was because she had previously seen a large white tiger turn into this tiny cat before her very eyes. There was only one type of spiritual beast that had the ability to shapeshift at will, the legendary spiritual beasts that had the blood of the divine beasts flowing in their veins. She never imagined that this would have been just like the rumors have said. Lady Gu does indeed have a bold and powerful divine beast in her possession. As long as she was around, the Dongfang family could not possibly lose in the trials this time. After the trade fair, you will all be placed under training for half a year. So if you have any weapons that you consider as your pride, find something to exchange for them. It will be very useful for your training later on. As she spoke, the eyes of the group sparkled and they began to look around, searching amongst the weapons in their surroundings. Suddenly, a flash of white robes caught Gu Ruoan's attention and a cold smile formed on the corners of her lips. She said nothing more to Lin Lang and others as she started walking towards that particular direction. Chan Beiyi, who had been walking by her side, chased after her as well. Chapter 439, The Trade Fair, 7. At an inconspicuous stall, an old man with his eyes closed stayed unmoving like a mountain. He didn't even bother to look at the woman who was standing in front of his stall. "Excuse me, sir," a woman next to Rongyu suppressed her anger and said, "We are from the medicine order and this is the disciple of our order master. Her name is Rongyu and she is also the #1 genius in the medicine order. Can you sell this fruit to us?" When she finished speaking, the old man finally opened his eyes. He lifted his eyelids and said, "It's not for sale." "You." The woman's face changed greatly and her every feature overflowed with rage. Just as she was about to vent her great irritation, a luxurious and jade white hand reached out to her, preventing her impulses. Only then did the woman calm down. No matter the circumstances, this was still a part of Cloud City and not any other place. Not everything that the medicine order fancies can be fought over at will. But this old man certainly does not know what's good for him, she thought. Junior sister Rongyu merely wished to have this holy spirit fruit out of the kindness of her own heart, yet he's acting so unreasonably. "Elder Jew, would you be willing to trade this holy spirit fruit with me? I, Rongyu, shall agree to whatever you wish." Elder Jew. Hearing the way Rongyu had just addressed the man, the expression on the woman's face, which was initially full of contempt with the intention to teach the old man a lesson, changed greatly. She bit her lips forcefully and kept her mouth shut. It would seem that this inconspicuous-looking old man was actually Elder Jew from the courts of hell. If she were to ever offend the courts of hell, not even the order master can save her. "Little girl, you are certainly very sharp. You actually recognize this feeble old man." The old man smiled coldly and his yellow robes fluttered gently in the wind. His eyes were filled with an icy chill. "Since you were able to recognize me, little girl, then I'll give you a chance. You want this holy spirit fruit? It's very simple. Show me something that will move my heart." Rongyu frowned with indifference. Honestly, she had received news that the holy spirit fruit would make an appearance in the trade fair, but she certainly had not expected that Elder Jew of the courts of hell would be the one to put it on display. The courts of hell is part of the three great authorities and has had strained relations with the immortal realm in the past. The medicine order, however, has been trying to establish a good rapport with the immortal realm. It would seem that obtaining the holy spirit fruit would be no easy feat at this time. "Elder Jew, perhaps you could name an object. As long as it is of the same value as the holy spirit fruit, I shall obtain it for you no matter what." He. Elder Jew smiled coldly. "I've heard that the medicine order dedicates itself to the progress of medicinal skills. Coincidentally, I've been suffering from an old affliction. If you are able to cure me of my illness, then this holy spirit fruit shall belong to you." "Elder Jew, are you joking with me?" Rongyu smiled and said, "The previous order master had given you his diagnosis years ago. Your veins are blocked, Elder Jew, and as a result, no power can flow into your system. If even the old order master was unable to cure you, how could I possibly stand a chance? If you can't do it, then you can get out of the way. Don't get in the way of my trade with other people." Elder Jew grew extremely irritated upon hearing her answer. Based on his position as an elder of the courts of hell, the reason why he had joined the trade fair was to use the holy spirit fruit to entice a strong cultivator to heal his affliction. "If I were to remain in this state, unable to break through, my lifespan might end in just 2 years. He thought. For in the current state of the mainland, they cannot afford to lose any more martial emperors. Otherwise, they will no longer be able to resist the infiltration of the demonic spirits. Rongyu was angered by Elder Jew's words. She was hindered by the latter's respective position, so she forcibly suppressed her fury and quietly stood aside, smiling coldly at the passers-by in the plaza. "I'd certainly like to see if anyone can actually cure his affliction," she thought. Chapter 440, The Trade Fair, 8. Holy Spirit Fruit. Those 3 words fell clearly into Yunyao's ear as she was carried around by Gu Ruoan. Her eyes sparkled immediately and she quickly raised her head. Her gaze finally landed on the inconspicuous fruit sitting in Elder Jew's stall. A holy spirit fruit was considered as a sacred object to a cultivator. However, if a cultivator wishes to consume it, it must first be properly processed. One can only activate half of its medicinal effects. In truth, holy spirit fruits were specially prepared for spiritual beasts. Furthermore, an unripe holy spirit fruit can even cause a fight to the death between spiritual beasts, all for the sake of obtaining one holy spirit fruit. She had not expected that they were able to find such a treasure here. Xiao Yun, this holy spirit fruit can help raise this little kitty into the ranks of a martial emperor, said Chanbei Yi as he turned his head to Gu Ruan. You're the little kitty, all of your family members are little kitties. Yun Yao cursed silently. If it weren't for her curiosity towards this trade fair, she would never have disguised herself like this. If she had appeared in the form of the white tiger, she would certainly have caused a huge sensation. So she had no choice but to disguise herself as a cat. Gu Ruan gently raised a brow. This holy spirit fruit is certainly a rare treasure. With the help of this, Bao Bao and Yun Yao's powers will greatly increase. Only one holy spirit fruit will ripen every 10,000 years. Therefore, it can be assumed that there was no one in this world who was ignorant of its great value. However, the holy spirit fruit doesn't look very much different from an average fruit. As such, not many can identify it at all. But what Gu Ruan did not expect was that someone from the medicine order actually knew about the holy spirit fruit. If you like, I can just grab it for you. Chanbei Yi lowered his head towards the young girl next to him and spoke as if it were as easy as having a meal or drinking a glass of water. If she wants something, forget about one holy spirit fruit, he would seize the entire mainland for her sake. Gu Ruan shook her head. Xiao Yi, we are refined citizens. There's no need to use violence to solve our problems. That was bad. Bad. Even though both parties had deliberately lowered the voices, with Elder Ju's cultivation rank even the soft buzz of a mosquito could reach his ears. So, upon overhearing the couple's shameless conversation, the corners of Elder Ju's lips twitched violently. He had to take a deep breath in order to prevent himself from fainting from anger. Refined citizens, he thought indignantly, do refined citizens casually open their mouths to snatch away other people's treasures? If they're refined citizens, then perhaps shameless people were now extinct from the entire mainland. However, Elder Ju fixed his gaze upon the little white cat in Gu Ruan's arms. A strange light flashed across his eyes and left as quickly as it came. He said, you too, are you interested in my treasure? Gu Ruan rubbed her chin and smiled. A while ago, you mentioned that you would be willing to give this holy spirit fruit to anyone who would be able to cure you of your chronic disease. Holy spirit fruit. The passers-by around Gu Ruan could not help but pause in their steps upon hearing her words. They stared in astonishment at Gu Ruan's direction as their eyes filled with shock. Holy spirit fruit. Could it be that this fruit was actually the mythical holy spirit fruit? The holy spirit fruit, it is said that once consumed, it can raise a cultivator's powers over a few levels consecutively. Don't know if that's actually true though. Aren't those members of the Dongfang family? They want to obtain the holy spirit fruit. But their intentions are pretty normal. Without the help of the holy spirit fruit, they couldn't possibly be able to pass the trials. With the help of the holy spirit fruit, they just might stand a chance. The crowd began to whisper into one another's ears and discussed feverishly amongst themselves. Yet, Gu Ruan, who was in the middle of the whirlpool of discussion, only showed a calm smile on her face as she looked serenely back at the old man who was standing behind the stall. Chapter 441, The Trade Fair, 9. That's right. The old man smiled coldly. I have an ailment and my veins are blocked. Because of this, I'm unable to cultivate. If you can cure me of this, I'll give this holy spirit fruit to you. How about that? Hearing this, the woman in white robes next to Rong Yu sneered as she glared at Gu Ruan disdainfully from head to toe. Little girl, even if you wish to go up against our medicine order, you should probably check your own abilities first. Do you really think that you'd be able to cure a disease that even our previous order master could not? Whoa. The already noisy crowd grew increasingly excited as their eyes darted back and forth continuously between Gu Ruan and the disciples of the medicine order. This old fellow seems to have some kind of history. He was actually able to mobilize the previous order master of the medicine order to treat his illness. However, if even the old order master had his hands tied over this ailment, I'm afraid not even the ghost doctor can cure him at all. I know this girl. I think she's actually Gu Ruan from the 100 Herb Hall. She is also the maternal granddaughter of Master Dongfang. This little girl was certainly blessed with good luck to obtain quite a few pills and further utilize their power to reach her current position. But just because she has good luck doesn't mean that she has great medical skills. After all, one can only grow more skilled in medicine as one ages. A person's medical prowess largely depends on undergoing a long period of practical experience. This girl seems to be only around 18 years of age. Based on how this looks, how could she possibly have the ability to cure an ailment that even the previous order master of the medicine order could not? Besides, the relations between the Dongfang family and the medicine order have grown increasingly strained over the years. In a time like this, it really looked as if Gu Ruan was intentionally giving the disciples of the medicine order a chance to embarrass her. Unfortunately, when a person has too much confidence in themselves, they would be the one to suffer humiliation in the end. Yun Yao furrowed her brows and glanced in annoyance at the chattering crowd. A sharp light flashed across her eyes which have now lost their former grace. From the beginning of it all, Gu Ruan did not seem to have noticed the disciples of the medicine order. She smiled faintly at the contemplative old man. With regards to your ailment, I'm not completely sure of my capabilities. I am only 80% certain. Gu Ruan never liked to overpromise. However, just as her words fell, a loud snigger was heard from the sides. The white-robed woman's eyes were filled with mockery as she swept her disdainful gaze across Gu Ruan's calm face. Little girl, you are indeed young and naive. You fancy yourself a genius just because you were able to participate in the trials. Unfortunately, there are countless geniuses scattered around on this mainland. You are only a martial king and that counts for nothing. With powers like yours, you are only fit to dominate a leading role in the secular world. Amongst the ranks of individual sects, orders, and factions, who would even pay attention to you? The sneer on her face grew even more pronounced as if Gu Ruan was some sort of enormous joke. Our junior sister Rong Yu of the medicine order is now a martial emperor. Her medical skills are second only to her own master. You are a person who relies solely on luck in order to reach your current level of strength. How could you possibly surpass a true genius? However, it was very clear that after the woman in white had finished speaking, an eerie aura began to rise in front of her and closely surrounded her. Her chest tightened and her face suddenly turned deathly white. Xiao Yi, Gu Ruan patted Chanbei Yi's hand, pacifying his state of mind. When a dog bites you, would you still want to beat her? Don't you hate it when your hands get dirty? Chanbei Yi felt that her words made a lot of sense. He nodded and slowly withdrew the eerie aura from his body. To him, Xiao Yun was always right. She can never be wrong. And he only needs to listen to her. That was enough. Translator's thoughts. Spinny spinny. Chanbei Yi is pretty. Whipped. Rate translation quality. 89 comments. Join in. Chapter 442. The Eve of the Trials. 1. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. HMPH. The woman in white's face grew increasingly unpleasant. Her beautiful eyes glared hatefully at Gu Ruan. Little girl, I've advised you as needed but unfortunately you weren't listening. Since you insist on doing so, don't blame me for not warning you. If anything were to happen. Having said that, she lapsed into silence. Her mocking gaze was full of disdain. It's not that I look down on Gu Ruan, she reasoned, but this woman was far too young. Based on her age, what abilities could she possibly have? Little girl, Elder Ju finally spoke up after a long pause. I'll let you have a go at it. If you're successful in curing my ailment, the holy spirit fruit will be yours. All right. Gu Ruan raised her head lightly and walked slowly to Elder Ju's side. She gently placed her palms on the latter's shoulders. A stream of spiritual energy then slowly began to transfer from her palm into Elder Ju's body. Elder Ju trembled and closed his eyes gently. He began to feel his entire body relax. Indeed, he hasn't felt like this in years. All the while, his veins had always felt as if they were filled with soil. He has not felt this refreshed in so long. The feeling was like taking a cold shower on an extremely hot day. It was so comfortable that he wanted to moan out loud in bliss. However, just as he was starting to enjoy feeling refreshed, Gu Ruan withdrew the spiritual energy from her palms. Little girl, was that all? Elder Ju blinked and stared in astonishment at Gu Ruan. Seeing the puzzled look on Elder Ju's face, Gu Ruan laughed bitterly and said, do you think that it would be that easy to completely clear out the blockage in your veins? Like I said, I only have an 80% guarantee. Now I know that I can gradually clean it up bit by bit. It would take at least a month for the blockage in your veins to be completely cleared. Actually, if she were the previous Gu Ruan, it would not be an easy feat to clear his blockage completely. But in this life, she could call upon the ancient divine pagoda to aid her in clearing the blockage in Elder Ju's veins. However, the price for this was rather steep. Clearly, Gu Ruan was not willing to pay such a high price for the sake of someone who was insignificant to her. Ha ha. Elder Ju laughed and stroked his beard. He then replied in a satisfied manner, little girl, I can feel the might of your power. How about this, I'll give you a month. I'll also let you have the holy spirit fruit right now. Thank you very much. Gu Ruan smiled and picked up the holy spirit fruit in the vendor's stall. This sudden turn of events was obviously beyond anyone's expectations. No one could have guessed that Gu Ruan truly had the ability to help this old man. This was especially so for the disciples of the medicine order, who had witnessed the scene with extremely ugly looks on their faces. Their expressions looked as if Gu Ruan had snatched away a treasure that was rightfully theirs. Elder Ju, Rongyu frowned and she shot Gu Ruan a look before she turned towards Elder Ju. I think you should wait until your body is fully healed before giving that holy spirit fruit to her. Otherwise, who can guarantee that she is truly capable of healing you? Her words were fair and reasonable and the crowd of onlookers nodded in agreement. Lady Rongyu is right, the crowd thought in unison. This girl hasn't completely healed the old man's body yet. Who can say for sure that she is truly capable or if she was just deliberately creating a fantastical air? After all, she's only a little baby girl who is just over 10 years of age. If she is truly powerful enough to clear the blockages from his veins, it would be a completely outrageous feat. However, just as Rongyu finished talking, Gu Ruan had fed the holy spirit fruit to the small cat in her arms. It had happened so fast that no one had the time to stop her. Chapter 442, The Eve of the Trials. 1. HMPH. The woman in white's face grew increasingly unpleasant. Her beautiful eyes glared hatefully at Gu Ruan. Little girl, I've advised you as needed but unfortunately you weren't listening. Since you insist on doing so, don't blame me for not warning you. If anything were to happen. Having said that, she lapsed into silence. Her mocking gaze was full of disdain. It's not that I look down on Gu Ruan, she reasoned, but this woman was far too young. Based on her age, what abilities could she possibly have? Little girl, Elder Ju finally spoke up after a long pause. I'll let you have a go at it. If you're successful in curing my ailment, the holy spirit fruit will be yours. All right. Gu Ruan raised her head lightly and walked slowly to Elder Ju's side. Chapter 443 of the Trials. 2. This time, it wasn't just the woman in white. Even Rongyu's face turned a particularly unpleasant shade. She glared frostily at Gu Ruan who was feeding the holy spirit fruit to the little cat in her arms and her fists were clenched so tightly that they trembled. Her master had obtained the news surrounding the holy spirit fruit with great difficulty. She had also made many preparations for the sake of acquiring the holy spirit fruit. She never expected that this devil incarnate would suddenly appear in their way. Furthermore, this woman had fed the fruit to a useless spiritual pet with no fighting power. One should know that this was a holy spirit fruit. It's a spiritual treasure that countless cultivators yearn to own. Yet she had given this treasure to a little cat. She's deliberately humiliating me, she thought angrily. That's right, from Rongyu's point of view, it would seem like Gu Ruan had been doing this on purpose, all for the sake of humiliating her. Gu Ruan, are you doing this on purpose? Of course, Rongyu wasn't the only one who thought of it that way. Before Rongyu could even open her mouth to speak, the ashen-faced woman in white next to her stared at Gu Ruan and said, I know that you're only tagging along to Cloud City for the sake of taking revenge for the humiliation we've caused. However, regardless of how great your hatred towards the medicine order is, you should never have resorted to stealing the holy spirit fruit so recklessly. Such actions will cause you to become an enemy to all. Gu Ruoan raised an eyebrow and noticed the hurtful eyes of the crowd which were directed towards her. It was as if she had snatched away their baby. Since this holy sacred fruit belongs to me, I can give it to whomever I wish. Even if I were to burn it, that has nothing to do with any of you. Gu Ruoan smiled coldly and stared at the woman in white whose face was full of hate and rage. But I simply cannot understand this. I'm using something that belongs to me, yet I'll become everyone's enemy. Or is it the fact that the disciples of the medicine order are so shameless that they would put someone off for one's own treasure? Hearing this, the crowd could not help but nod in agreement. Even though the old man may have been hoodwinked by the little girl, he had indeed given the holy sacred fruit to her as a gift. As such, it was the girl's right to give the holy sacred fruit to whomever she wishes. No matter how hurtful everyone else felt about it, they do not have the right to meddle in her affairs. As if feeling the disdain in the eyes of the crowd, the woman in white's expression changed and changed again. She tried to say something but was stopped by Rongyu, who looked at her and shook her head. The woman in white then swallowed her words. Lady Gu, Rongyu slowly opened her mouth to speak. I'm sure you know the current situation of the mainland. I can see that you have pretty good talent. If you had consumed this holy sacred fruit yourself, you might be able to serve the mainland in a positive way. Yet you've given it to a spiritual pet. Isn't that a waste? Yunyao, who had just swallowed the holy sacred fruit and has yet to digest it, heard Rongyu's speech. A glint flashed across her eyes and her normally graceful gaze turned cold. She glared icily at Rongyu with a scornful look on her face. I told you, I'm free to give this holy sacred fruit to whomever I choose. It has nothing to do with you. Besides, my breakthroughs in cultivation are not for the sake of serving the mainland. I'm only doing this for myself, so you shouldn't hold me in such high esteem. Gu Ruoan stared calmly at Rongyu's arrogant face before retracting her gaze. Xiao Yi, let's go have a look at what Lin Lang and the rest are up to. All right. Chanbei Yi nodded gently. His eyes had never left her from the very beginning. Wait a moment. Rongyu tried to say something when suddenly a chilly wind charged sharply towards her. It felt as if a hand had reached out and pushed violently on Rongyu's chest. Before she could regain her senses, Rongyu was flung out of the area. Chapter 444, The Eve of the Trials, 3. At the same time, the man's low and hoarse voice rang out like the god of death himself. Leave. Rongyu trembled. Upon raising her head, she came face to face with a pair of blood-red eyes. His silvery hair was like an immortal's, fluttering in the wind. The man was dressed in blood-red robes and his face was incomparably beautiful. One could even describe this demonic man as a beauty that can cause the downfall of a country. It was fine that such a man could be exceptionally beautiful. There was also the fact that this guy was capable of acting out two extremes at the same time, both as an immortal and as a demon. His every action was completely suffocating. Xiao Yun, Chanbei Yi turned and walked back to Gu Ruoan's side. His originally eerie and somber expression was now filled with smiles. No one will disturb you now. His one smile can cause the heavens and the earth to lose their splendor. It also took everyone's breath away as they were utterly mesmerized by that peerlessly beautiful face. Junior Sister Rongyu, the woman in white hurriedly rushed to her side and asked anxiously, Junior Sister Rongyu, are you all right? Rongyu did not reply. She was staring foolishly at Chanbei Yi's disappearing figure and mumbled to herself, I think I've just met the person whom I've been searching for my entire life. She had already noticed the silver-haired man from the very beginning. Even though the man was incomparably beautiful, she took no notice of him because he had been tagging along with the Dongfang family. Unexpectedly, this man whom she had initially ignored would turn out to hold such power within his grasp. After all the women of this world prefer strong cultivators. A man with only incomparable beauty doesn't count for much, but if he had great power, he could conquer many women too. Obviously, Rongyu was the kind of woman. Junior Sister Rongyu. The woman in white was in a daze. One should know that with her junior sister Rongyu's level of talent and position, there were countless men who were vying for her attention. Even the disciples of the three great authorities have fallen for her endlessly. However, the junior sister had high expectations. No matter how many eligible men would come her way, they had been unable to hold her gaze. She did not expect junior sister Rongyu to fall for a complete stranger. She's even declared him to be the husband whom she'd been searching for. At the bazaar in the plaza, Chanbei Yi followed Gu Ruoan around pitifully and stared hurtfully at the lit person before him. Xiao Yun, why didn't you let me kill her? If Gu Ruoan had not tugged at him, Rongyu might not have only been flung to the ground. Xiao Yi, Gu Ruoan paused in her steps as a cold smile formed at the corner of her lips. I don't have any disputes with the medicine order. However, the medicine order had once caused harm to one of my subordinates. Do you think that I would let him off so easily? Chanbei Yi shook his head. My Xiao Yun has never been a kind person, but this was also why I have grown to admire her more and more. So, Gu Ruoan paused before continuing. I won't let anyone from medicine order who had hurt Wei Yi off so easily. Of course, this matter should be handled personally by Wei Yi herself. Do you understand? She won't let the medicine order get away with everything they've done, but she won't be the one handling it personally. There was only one person who should take care of them. Gu Ruoan was deep in thought when she heard a familiar voice in front of where she was standing. Lin Lang, I never expected you to have such good taste. To find a crippled stride weapon in a place like this, I had nearly missed out on this myself. However, it was I who had taken this crippled stride weapon first. Obviously, it should belong to me. If you really want it, come to my quarters tonight and I'll give this crippled stride weapon to you. What do you say? Translator's thoughts. Spinny spinny. The Gu Ruoan, Chanbei Yi, Shi Yun love triangle just got a lot more complicated. Also, what is it with these women? Rate translation quality. 68 comments, join in. Chapter 445, The Eve of the Trials, 4. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Gu Ling, you may have noticed this crippled stride weapon first, but you didn't want it then. You even threw it aside like it was a useless object. But now that I've noticed this crippled stride weapon, you suddenly want it back. How can you go on in life with such shamelessness? Lin Lang blushed red with anger as she glared furiously at Gu Ling. Hee hee, Gu Ling sneered and stared disdainfully at Lin Lang's flushed face. Even if I were to let you have this crippled spirit weapon, what were you going to use to trade for it? Lin Lang, if you use your body to win my favor, then perhaps I might be amenable to give this crippled spirit weapon to you. There wasn't a single person who doesn't know the value of a crippled spirit weapon. So, why would Gu Ling want to use a crippled spirit weapon to curry favor with a woman? Once I have this woman's body, she'll be nothing but damaged goods, he thought maliciously. Would she still want the crippled spirit weapon? Dream on. Based on who she is, she certainly doesn't have the right to control this crippled spirit weapon. Gu Ling, you've overstepped the limit. The Dongfang family disciples who had been watching the scene could not stand it any longer. They stood up and glared angrily at Gu Ling. If it weren't for the fact that they were not allowed to have personal scuffles before the trials, they would certainly have beaten this beastard to a pulp. He had dared to devise plans on Lin Lang. He's completely disrespecting the Dongfang family. The members of the Gu family stared back at the disciples of the Dongfang family and took one step forward, glaring like tigers watching their prey. Instantly, the atmosphere grew extremely intense as if the two parties were ready to fight at any minute. The air had turned icy and every eye was fixed upon this direction, anticipating the fight. Suddenly, a calm voice sounded from behind the crowd, falling into each and every ear. Lin Lang, what are you all doing here? How goes your weapon selection? The expressions of Lin Lang and the rest shook upon hearing that voice. They turned to face its source. The sunset glow poured down on the entire trade fair plaza. Under the light of the setting sun, the young girl's fine hair shone with brilliance. She walked slowly towards the crowd while carrying a small cat in her arms. Her face shone with a calm light and her dark eyes were like black pools of water as they swept the gaze across the faces of the crowd, causing their hearts to tremble. But what shocked the crowd most was the silver-haired man in red robes who walked by her side. He was so beautiful that he could overturn all living beings. However, the eyes of such an incomparably beautiful man were filled with a murderous bloodlust. Taking no notice of the eyes of the crowd, Gu Ruan walked directly towards Lin Lang and asked, if you've selected your weapons, then it's time for us to leave. As she spoke, her gaze fell upon the sword in Lin Lang's hands. This was a rapier. Its surface was slightly uneven but it emitted vague fluctuations of spiritual energy. Not a bad sword. Gu Ruan praised sincerely. Honestly speaking, a crippled spirit weapon was not a spiritual weapon. Most crippled spirit weapons were either failures from the smelting process or were weapons which had lost their original spiritual energy. All that's been left was a nearly unnoticeable portion, so it was easily discarded as a useless piece of metal. She didn't expect Lin Lang to have such sharp eyes. She was actually able to pick out a crippled spirit weapon, Gu Ruan mused. However, crippled spirit weapons no longer attract Gu Ruan's attention. Hearing this, Lin Lang bit her lip and made no rebuttal. Actually, Gu Ling was right, she thought. So what if I've found a crippled spirit weapon? Based on my fortune, I have nothing of worth to trade for this crippled spirit weapon. She put the crippled spirit weapon back in its place at the thought of this and shook her head. So what if the sword is good? At the end of the day, it does not suit me. Lady Gu, let's go. Hee hee. Gu Ling glanced at Lin Lang and sneered. Lin Lang, at least you're still clear of the situation. You understand that you have no way of obtaining this crippled spirit weapon. However, I stand by what I've said. As long as you're willing to give yourself to me, this crippled spirit weapon shall belong to you. The Eve of the Trials, 4. Gu Ling. Chapter 445. The Eve of the Trials, 4. Gu Ling, you may have noticed this crippled spirit weapon first but you didn't want it then. You even threw it aside like it was a useless object. But now that I've noticed this crippled spirit weapon, you suddenly want it back. How can you go on in life with such shamelessness? Lin Lang blushed red with anger as she glared furiously at Gu Ling. Hee hee. Gu Ling sneered and stared disdainfully at Lin Lang's flushed face. Even if I were to let you have this crippled spirit weapon, what were you going to use to trade for it? Lin Lang, if you use your body to win my favor, then perhaps I might be amenable to give this crippled spirit weapon to you. There wasn't a single person who doesn't know the value of a crippled spirit weapon. So, why would Gu Ling want to use a crippled spirit weapon to curry favor with a woman? Once I have this woman's body, she'll be nothing but damaged goods, he thought maliciously. Would she still want the crippled spirit weapon? Dream on. Based on who she is, she certainly doesn't have the right to control this crippled spirit weapon. Gu Ling, you've overstepped the limit. The Dongfang family disciples who had been watching the scene could not stand it any longer. Chapter 446. The Eve of the Trials, 5. Pa. Lin Lang spat at him just as he finished speaking. Her small face was filled with anger. Gu Ling, hear this, give up on your illusions already. I, Lin Lang, will never have illicit sexual relations with such a vile character even if I become a good-for-nothing. You can have this crippled spirit weapon. Even if you were to use it, you'll never be able to defeat our Dongfang family anyway. Gu Ling's expression turned increasingly stormy. He raised his hand to wipe off Lin Lang's spit from his face. He glared coldly at her furious and flushed little face and spat, Lin Lang, don't forget your original rank. Your parents were merely servants of my Gu family and you will never escape the fact that I'm your master. But your ignoble parents refused to let me make you my concubine and secretly had you given away. I never imagined that the old man from the Dongfang family would take a liking to you and accept you as a disciple. But your ignoble parents still belong to my Gu family. Now, I want you to kneel before me and apologize. Otherwise, when I return to the Gu family home, I will ensure that your parents shall be thoroughly tortured and I will make sure that they know that they've brought up such an ungrateful daughter. This speech caused Gu Ruan to tighten her brows even more. She didn't think that Lin Lang would be connected to the Gu family in that way. It wasn't just her. Even the members of the Dongfang family had not expected this. They all stared in astonishment at Lin Lang. You. Lin Lang trembled in fury and her eyes filled with tears. She would never have thought that Gu Ling would reveal her origins in such a public place. The more she thought of this humiliation, the paler her face became. Tears now overflowed her eyes. Gu Ling had done it on purpose. He had purposely exposed her origin as a servant so that the Dongfang family members would know where she came from and completely humiliate her at the same time. This was the consequence of her actions in rejecting him. Just as Lin Lang began to feel a wave of panic in her heart, she felt a hand on her back. The warmth it emitted brought Lin Lang a small sense of calm. Seeing as Lin Lang has already been accepted as Elder Changjin's disciple, she is a member of the Dongfang family. The Gu family does not have the right to address a disciple of the Dongfang family as a servant. Gu Ruoan lifted the corners of her lips and smiled calmly. As for Lin Lang's parents, we, the Dongfang family, will not make any demands towards the Gu family. I only ask that the Gu family would treat them with honor and have them personally sent to the Dongfang family. Lin Lang was in a daze as she raised her tear-filled eyes towards Gu Ruoan. Honestly, all these years, she had missed her parents who had remained in the Gu family residence. However, it was the Dongfang family who had taken her in when she was in dire straits and given her the opportunity to expand her abilities. So, she had never thought of troubling the Dongfang family to invite her parents to join her in the family. Seeing as the Gu family was so powerful and was equally matched with the Dongfang family at the time, how could she drag the Dongfang family down with her personal issues? Hence, even her master knew nothing of her past and she had endured the longing she had for her parents all on her own. But now, Gu Ruoan's words brought a warm surge of current through Lin Lang's heart. She could no longer hold back her tears. She hurriedly covered her face, trying to stop the overflowing tears from rolling down her face. This crippled spirit weapon is indeed pretty good, but as you said, it does not suit you. When the time comes, I'll give you an even better weapon, said Gu Ruoan, who had turned towards Lin Lang. Lin Lang wiped the tears off her face and nodded. Thank you, Lady Gu. I don't need anything especially good as long as it can be wielded easily. Chapter 447, The Eve of the Trials, 6. A weapon better than a crippled spirit weapon can only be a full-fledged spiritual weapon. However, there were precious few of those in the world, so, even if Lady Gu had a few of them in her possession, she would not casually give them away to just anyone. Because of this, Lin Lang's heart was completely moved. Gu Ruoan had been the only one besides her master and her parents who would step up and have her back. HMPH, Gu Ling scoffed and replied disdainfully, then I'd like to see just how you're going to get me to send Lin Lang's parents back to her. Besides, I'm afraid you may not have a weapon that's actually better than a crippled spirit weapon. Whatever it is, I'll leave you with this, don't act like a pretentious prick or you might end up struck by lightning. Don't think that you can scare me just because you're some master of the 100 Herb Hall. Honestly, the only people of the same age as me who can actually strike fear into my heart are Rongyu and Zhao Shangchen. You don't count for much. Gu Ruoan smiled calmly but did not respond. She waved her hand and said, let's go. We only have half a month before the trials. We must work hard and train well within this half a month. After she spoke, she left the scene with Chan Beiyi. Just as she left, the Dongfang family disciples surrounded Lin Lang immediately and erupted into a cacophony of discussion. Lin Lang, why did you not tell us your origins? No wonder Gu Ling had looked at you with such surprise a few years ago and would constantly clash with you. I didn't think that you would be connected to the Gu family in that way. This Gu family has crossed the line. After all, you are part of the Dongfang family. As a disciple of Elder Changjin, your status can't be any worse than those disciples of the Gu family. What right does he have to call you a servant? Lin Lang, like Lady Gu said, we will make the Gu family personally send your parents back to you. Lady Gu is such a great person, she'll definitely get it done. Let's trust in her and you'll be reunited with your parents very soon. Honestly, you should have mentioned this to Master a long time ago. Why quietly endure this on your own? You didn't even tell us, are we even friends? After her identity had been revealed, Lin Lang was worried that the Dongfang family disciples would look down on her. But upon hearing their voices of criticism and concern, her eyes grew red and tears streamed down her face once again. Thank you, all of you. I really. As she tried to speak, she found that she could no longer spit out the words. She felt as if something was choking her throat and she looked tearfully at the group. Alright, let's not waste any more time with talking. We should hurry off now. One of the Dongfang family disciples, a man dressed in green robes, stepped forward and patted Lin Lang on her shoulder. Your parents will be fine. Trust Lady Gu. Lin Lang nodded. At this very moment, her heart was filled with warmth. Only half a month had remained until the start of the divine trials. Within this half a month, every single one of the Dongfang family representatives worked hard in their training. It soon became obvious that every person in the group rapidly grew in strength. Some have even broken through to new ranks. Prior to this, they never would have dared to imagine any of this. In the midst of their hard training sessions, the person Gu Ruoan had been waiting for finally arrived. Master. Upon seeing Gu Ruoan, Wei Yi flew straight towards her with a big smile on her seductively charming face and rendering Wu Yue, who had been following closely behind her, to become completely dumbstruck. Master, she thought, if Senior Aunt Wei addresses Lady Gu as her master, then shouldn't I be addressing her as a senior great aunt? Wu Yue looked utterly confused at the thought of having to address a girl younger than herself as a senior great aunt. She wondered how her own master would have reacted to this situation. Bai Xuan, who had been following behind them, showed no reaction. His adorable doll-like face was staring curiously at his surroundings before his gaze finally landed on Gu Ruoan's fresh and beautiful features. Chapter 448, The Eve of the Trials, 7. Master, I've heard everything now. This is one match that I will not lose. Wei Yi raised her head and fixed her gaze upon Gu Ruoan. Her usually charming face now held a never-before-seen resolve and a long-restrained hatred. How many years has it been? She wondered. How many years have I awakened from countless nightmares? Every time she thought of all that had happened years ago, she would feel a pain as if her heart had been torn out from her chest. But now, she finally had the power to face the medicine order and no longer needed to live a life of hiding. All right. Gu Ruoan nodded. Wu Yue, you should first return to the medicine order. Wei Yi, Bai Xuan, follow me. Yes, Wu Yue hesitated for a bit, then replied with a confused look on her face, I will obey your order, senior great aunt. Let's go. Gu Ruoan did not say anything more as she led Wei Yi and Bai Xuan to the Dongfang family disciples' training area. At this moment, most of the disciples had kept their heads high and puffed out the chests as they awaited the new arrivals. The eyes of many disciples brightened up upon seeing the two people who have arrived with Gu Ruoan, but they remained still. After training for over half a month, they have all shirked off their squeamishness as disciples of an aristocratic family and acted a lot more like soldiers who strictly observe discipline. In just half a month, most of the disciples have had the breakthroughs. We even have a few high-level martial kings now. The rest are mostly at mid-level. Gu Ruoan nodded in satisfaction and her gaze finally landed on Linlang. Linlang shook and lowered her head in embarrassment. Lady Gu, I'm sorry. I was unable to break through. Over the past half a month, she had worked extra hard, probably even more than the rest. All for the sake of gaining enough power to defeat Gu Ling. But no matter how much energy she devoted to her training, it seemed that something was blocking the bottleneck and she had been unable to break through at all. She clenched her fists tighter and tighter at the thought of this. Countless emotions appeared from within her chest, making her feel suffocated. She understood that if she missed this opportunity, she would never have the chance to defeat Gu Ling ever again. Linlang, this was not your fault. After all, you have only just broken through to a low-level martial king not too long ago. Your next breakthrough shouldn't be so soon. One man, afraid that Gu Ruoan would blame Linlang, quickly stepped out to explain things on her behalf. Gu Ruoan did not say anything, she only observed Linlang quietly. Linlang lowered her head even more as if she could feel Gu Ruoan's gaze, wishing that she could bury herself in the dust. I've once mentioned that I will bring a few cultivators to substitute some of you. This time, I've brought along 2 and they will be replacing 2 of you. Does anyone have any objections? The group was shaken as they all stared at the 2 people behind Gu Ruoan. When the gaze fell on Bai Xuan's cute little face, the disciples of the Dongfang family were utterly shocked. Lady Gu wants to allow a little boy no more than 10 years of age to replace one of us. They thought, was this boy even capable? However, even though most of them were suspicious, they stayed silent. They respected Gu Ruoan's decision. Lady Gu, please give me a chance, exclaimed a now anxious Linlang. The rest have already reached the rank of a mid-level martial king. Only she and another disciple had remained stuck as low-level martial kings. If anyone should be replaced, it would be them. I may not have been able to break through, but I won't lose. Please give me a chance to fight. Gu Ruoan fell momentarily silent and slowly replied, all right, I'll give you this one chance. If anyone is willing to be replaced in your stead, I'll let you fight. Chapter 449, The Eve of the Trials, 8. Just as she spoke, the young man in green who had spoken up for Linlang hurriedly stepped forward and said, Lady Gu, I'm willing to substitute for Linlang and step out of the trials. Dongfang Hen, thank you. Linlang stared in gratitude at Dongfang Hen and replied. Dongfang Hen blushed at the sight of the girl's grateful-looking eyes and quickly stepped back. He shook his head and replied, Linlang, you don't have to thank me. Remember to hit the Gu Ling kid hard, we're all rooting for you. He shook his fist and smiled at Linlang. Linlang began to choke with emotion but said nothing more, placing all her gratitude in her heart. Seeing as we've pretty much decided on the team members, then let us welcome tomorrow's trials with open arms. Today, you will all go back and train well. Linlang, come see me after this. As she spoke, she left the place without a second glance. Seeing this, Linlang hurriedly followed Gu Ruoan. Her eyes were shining with the light of resolution. Inside the room, a gentle breeze stirred the bed curtains, causing them to flutter. Gu Ruoan was seated in front of a table. She gazed at the girls standing before her and said, all of them had obtained the weapons of their choice during the trade fair. Only you have not. At that time, I mentioned that I would give you a weapon that is far better than a crippled spirit weapon. This sword has been specially prepared for you. Have a look and see if you can wield it. Then, she produced a rapier before Linlang's eyes. Just as she presented the rapier, a strong wave of spiritual energy flourished from the sword, giving off the sense of strong power. Linlang was dazed and stared in shock at the rapier in Gu Ruoan's hands. Her lips trembled, unsure of what to say. A spiritual weapon, she thought in astonishment. That's right, only a spiritual weapon can give off such thick spiritual energy. When she told me that she would give me a much better weapon, she wasn't lying. Lady Gu, this is far too valuable. Linlang bit her lip fiercely and stared at Gu Ruoan in complete gratitude. I can't accept this. A spiritual weapon. If news of this were to get out, I'm afraid that even the 3 great authorities will be shaken, she thought. Yet she's actually giving it to me. I may never be able to return this favor, not even if I were to use my entire life. You may hold on to this spiritual weapon on one condition. You must only use it as a last resort. The young girl's calm voice made Linlang's heart tremble. She gazed at the spiritual weapon before her and slowly took a deep breath. All right, Lady Gu, this spiritual weapon is your gift to me, so I shall accept it. But I will not use it in the trials this time. I want to rely on my own abilities to defeat Gu Ling in the trials. At this moment, a new form of determination stemmed from her heart. No matter what, she will never use the spiritual weapon. Also, she would not cause trouble for Lady Gu. Even if she has to rely on her own capabilities, she will not lose. Gu Ruoan smiled. The reason why she had allowed Linlang to participate in the trials was because she could see her determination. With such a strong resolve, perhaps Linlang will be able to change her fortunes in the trials. Make your preparations for the trials tomorrow. Our Dongfang family must obtain first place in the divine trials no matter what. As she said this, Gu Ruoan narrowed her eyes and a glint of light flashed across them. Big brother, wait for me. Wait for me to find you in the spirit sect, she thought. When that time comes, no one in the entire spirit sect will dare to lay a single hand on you. But I don't know where Yue is at the moment. Every time she thought of Chia Linyu, a small hint of anxiety would appear on Gu Ruoan's face. They only managed to see each other for such a short period of time and who knows when they'll meet again. However, Gu Ruoan believes that he was somewhere on the mainland, alive and well. Once the trials end, she will find him even if she has to journey to the ends of the earth. Chapter 450, The Meeting of Old Friends, 1. In the plaza above the clouds, one could see a large crowd of human heads from a distance. In the area surrounding the plaza, a number of chairs had been properly set out and the city governor of Cloud City was seated at the very front. Next to the governor sat three guests, one of which was actually Gu Ruan's old acquaintance, the Honorable Sir Tianqi, while another, elder Jew, was also someone whom she'd just met half a month ago. As for the old man in white who had remained silent the entire time, one does not need to guess too much to know that he was from the immortal realm. Gu Ruan. Gu Ruan was deep in thought when a disdainful voice cried out from behind her, "I will ensure that you understand the distance between the Dongfang family and our medicine order in today's trials." Gu Ruan frowned and turned to face a white-robed woman behind her. She immediately recognized her as the person who had followed Rongyu around half a month ago. "King Ling, what's going on?" Before Gu Ruan could speak, Zhu Wei, who was dressed in white robes as well, slowly approached them. Don't judge her by her age, she was more than 50 years old, but due to a well-maintained body, she looked like a 30-something-year-old woman at first glance. She had intended to mock Gu Ruan as well when suddenly, her eyes narrowed and fixed their attention on the charming and seductive-looking woman behind her. "Wei Yi, it's you." "Impossible," she thought in disbelief. "This woman has had her face scarred by the Order Master, how did she fully recover looks?" "Elder Zhu Wei, long time no see." A cold smile appeared on the corners of Wei Yi's attractive lips. "It's been 10 years since we've last seen each other. Do you not recognize me anymore?" Zhu Wei's facial expression changed many times but eventually settled into a particularly ugly color. She glared hatefully at the woman whose smile was as beautiful as a flower. "Wei Yi." The woman in white who was addressed as King Ling was astonished. She then spoke mockingly, "Wei Yi, weren't you merely a traitor of the medicine order? Not only had you abused our teacher and murdered our forefather, you've even forcefully harmed your senior brothers and junior sisters. You've been listed as a fugitive long ago. I didn't think that anyone in this world would be daring enough to shelter this woman." "What, Wei Yi, you'd want to butt into the trials too? I've heard that your powers have long been destroyed though, you're simply a useless good-for-nothing." King Ling has heard some part about the events that had occurred that year. According to the rumors, Wei Yi's power had degenerated by a few levels and it would be difficult for her to improve again. So, what could a good-for-nothing hope to gain by coming here? Because King Ling did not lower her voice and everyone present were strong cultivators, they all heard her words very clearly. All eyes instantly fell upon Gu Ruan and Wei Yi. "Wei Yi, I've heard of her situation. Rumor has it that she was a traitor of the medicine order. I didn't think that the Dongfang family would be so daring to even accept a traitor. Wasn't this a clear display of going against the medicine order? Even though the Dongfang family is indeed great in power, the medicine order, by comparison, are more powerful. Do they want to become enemies with countless powerful cultivators?" That's right. That year, the old order master of the medicine order had established connections with the strong cultivators of the world. He had many good friends and he even had good alliances with strong cultivators from the three great authorities. This Wei Yi killed her own master and stole the treasury of medicine. She's definitely a traitor of the medicine order. The crowd began to discuss amongst one another and eyed Wei Yi with scorn and mockery. But some recognized her as the famous ghost doctor and did not say anything. They only sent friendly smiles in her direction. Suddenly, a melodic sound that could pierce through one's soul was heard. The sound came closer and closer, slowly falling into every ear. Peach blossom flowers rained from the heavens and paved the way. A group of red-robed maidservants carried a sedan chair as they slowly made the descent. Their incomparably beautiful figures drew everyone's attention, especially the two women at the front of the group who were holding a jade flute each. These were such outstanding beauties. Chapter 451, The Meeting of Old Friends, 2. Seated in the sedan chair was a person with a head full of inky black hair which fluttered in the wind. The man was leaning lazily against the back of the chair. He was dressed in peach blossom pink robes which did not look tacky on him at all. His beauty could be described as one of an evildoer that could enrapture an entire city. He held a jade fan in one hand and his phoenix-like eyes were filled with smiles. The curl in his lips seemed to hold some sort of power and drew everyone to him. His face was as beautiful as a peach blossom. His features were exceptionally magnificent. Instantly, one thought appeared in the hearts of the crowd. The man before them was so beautiful it was almost evil, like the exceptionally breathtaking view of 10 miles of peach blossoms in full bloom. "Xiao Yunsa, long time no see. I've really missed you to death. Come, give this prince a hug." Zhao Shangchen ignored the crowd's gloomy stares as he stretched out his hands towards Gu Ruan with a big smile on his face. His languid mannerism and flirtatious tone of voice caused an indignant jealousy amongst the women in the crowd. All of them glared hatefully at Gu Ruan, wishing that they could tear her into mincemeat. She already has one man following her around, they fumed. What right does she have to fight for the young master of the Dark Yin Palace's attention with us? Women like her who only know how to use their innate charm should be struck by lightning and split into two halves. They should not have an easy death. This mischief maker, is there really a need to display such flirtatious behavior upon your appearance? 3 black lines immediately appeared on Gu Ruan's face. She was completely at a loss for words towards the mischievous man whose arms were still open wide. "You're not allowed to go." Suddenly, a hand reached out from beside her and pulled her into an embrace. Gu Ruan's face was filled with surprise as she felt the warmth from the man's chest. She turned her head to look at the man's peerlessly beautiful face and blinked. "Xiao Yi, are you jealous?" Furthermore, when had this guy arrived? She wondered. "I don't recall telling him about my participation in today's trials." Chanbei Yi blushed and stared pitifully at Gu Ruan. "Xiao Yun, I don't like him. Let's ignore him, okay?" "Okay." Gu Ruan nodded, "Then we'll ignore this flirtatious fox." Their conversation leaked into Zhao Shangchen's ears. As a result, his expression turned as black as the bottom of a cauldron. "Flirtatious fox," he fumed. "Are they talking about me?" Actually, Gu Ruan can't really be blamed for saying this. After all, Zhao Shangchen's appearance, especially with those petals strewn all over the ground, has been far too flirtatious. It was simply a nauseating sight for her. "Sigh, Xiao Yunsa, what a loss for me. I've thought of you day and night. I didn't think that you would have forgotten me so quickly. You're not even taking responsibility for me. What? Zhao Shangchen's words were far too sensational and caused the crowd to explode into a cacophony of discussion. King Ling's face was an especially ugly sight to behold. One should know that her admiration for Zhao Shangchen was not a 1 to 2 day thing. She never expected the powerful Zhao Shangchen to turn out to be that sort of man, and she had admired him greatly. She simply could not understand what was so charming about this woman. Feeling the stir of murderous intent from Chan Beiyi, Gu Ruoan gently patted his arm to calm him before raising her head towards Zhao Shangchen. I have no interests in homosexuals. Zhao Shangchen's expression was greatly shaken, but he quickly regained his composure and raised an eyebrow lazily. Xiao Yun sir, this prince was only jesting. However, even if I have had relations with you, I won't make things easy for you in the trials just because of that. Of course, Gu Ruoan smiled. I'll be going all out as well. Soon, all the powerful organizations have arrived and the trials were about to begin. But someone, it was unknown who that person was, had been sharp enough to notice the little lord standing next to Gu Ruoan and cried out in alarm. A kid? How could a kid participate in this sort of competition? Is something wrong with the Dongfang family's brains? They already had a foundation, yet now they're allowing a child no more than 10 years of age to join the competing team. Chapter 452, The Group Battle 1. It would seem that the Dongfang family knew that they would undoubtedly lose, so they wanted to lose even faster. Has this little boy reached the rank of a marshal general yet? Such a weak presence, anyone could easily kill him off. The people who already had bad blood with the Dongfang family could not help but open their mouths and spout mockery as they stared at Bai Xuan's young and tender little face. Even the Cloud City governor who was seating in the seat of honor wrinkled his brows. Though the rules of the trials did state that all participants must be below the age of 30. However, for a wimpy little brat who was just over 10 years old to come and join the trials, this was certainly an act of making a farce out of the trials. However, because they never specified a definite age, the governor couldn't really say very much against this. It seems that the Dongfang family is growing increasingly weak, sneered the old man in white who was seated next to the governor. However, one could say that they're now reaping what they've sown. Had Dongfang Yu joined the immortal realm long ago, she wouldn't have had such a tragic death and the Dongfang family would never have fallen. At the end of the day, they've dug their own graves and can't blame anyone else for their misfortune. The immortal realm has never been magnanimous. All kindness displayed was simply hypocritical and would only be shown when in public. Hence, even to this day he has never forgot his hatred when Dongfang Yu rejected the immortal realm's offer. Of course, Dongfang Yu also rejected the offers from the courts of hell and the Strut sect. This lessened the blow for him. Just what is this girl doing? The Honorable Sir Tianqi shook his head helplessly and sighed. What does she want to achieve by letting a child participate in the trials? Could it be that this kid has surpassed the others in some way? Elder Ju stayed silent. After all, the two men next to him were martial honors and he was only a high-level martial emperor at the moment. This time, he had personally requested to come to Cloud City since the courts of hell was a part of the three great authorities. But as a martial emperor, his words do not carry as much weight when in front of the two martial honors. However, even when faced with the skeptical stares of the crowd, Bai Xuan remained silent. His adorable face held a maturity far beyond his years. Cough, cough. The governor cleared his throat awkwardly. Honorable Sir Xiangshan, Honorable Sir Tianqi, and Elder Ju. May we begin? Begin. Bai Xiangshan nodded his head lightly as he coldly replied. As you command. The governor slowly rose from his seat and faced the crowd before him. First of all, welcome everyone to this year's divine trials. You all know the rules. No weapons are allowed near the eyes. Since all participants are geniuses from their own organizations, I hope that you will all show some restraint. Now, let the trials begin. As she heard the governor's words, Gu Ruoan wrinkled her brows and scanned her surroundings. She then sighed. The competition has already begun, but the members of the Chia family are not here. It seems that this would be the first trial that the Chia family will not participate in. Actually, she had been holding on hope that she would see Yue in Cloud City from the beginning. Since no one from the Chia family was participating this time, this proves that Yue was still missing. The first round is a group battle. Every organization shall assign a group of 5 to the stage. The first group to be kicked off the stage shall be eliminated. The last one standing will win first place. However, since this is a group battle, we emphasize on teamwork. So it is only considered a victory if all members remain standing on the stage. As long as one person falls off the stage, the entire team is eliminated. Chapter 453, The Group Battle 2. What he meant was that if one person was defeated, the entire group would lose as well. Every member must remain standing on the stage for it be considered as a win. Usually, the Dongfang family would be quickly eliminated during the first round. This time might not be any different. King Ling sneered and glanced at Gu Ruoan and Wei Yi. This is a fate that the Dongfang family can never escape, to forever face elimination in the first round of the trials. Then, she raised her head arrogantly and walked towards Rongyu. But when she was in front of Rongyu, she quickly changed her insufferably arrogant expression into that of a compliant and respectful servant. Merely a dog that threatens based on its master's power. Wei Yi curled her lips and turned towards Gu Ruoan. Master, I'd like to compete in this round. Very well. Gu Ruoan gently nodded. All right, you, King Yun, Lin Lang and Tian Yun shall represent us this round. Amongst the team members, Wei Yi has reached the rank of a high-level martial king and was only one step away from becoming a martial emperor. The rest had only reached the level of a martial king during the past half a month and only Lin Lang remained as a low-level martial king. Of course, with Wei Yi around, Gu Ruoan wasn't too worried about Lin Lang's safety. Every organization sent their 5 representatives to the center of the plaza to participate in the battle. However, they did not send out their most powerful military strength. Even though the elimination round was extremely crucial, everyone wanted to save their trump card. Wei Yi, even though you are a traitor of the medicine order, you are still at the rank of a senior aunt. Do you not feel embarrassed when competing with people younger than you? A disciple of the medicine order pointed at Wei Yi and shamed her. Wei Yi pursed her lips. If I remember correctly, the competition rules state that participants should be aged 30 and below. Since it includes those in their 30s and as it happens, I have only just managed to fulfill that condition. I am not breaking the rules, so why can't I participate in the competition? You really don't know the meaning of humiliation, sneered the medicine order disciple. You're nothing but a traitor. Do you still think that you're the Wei Yi of the past? You were poisoned by our order master and so many years have gone by. You should have lost your powers long ago, so what makes you think that you can go up against our medicine order? Wei Yi's gifts were not like Rongyu's, who had risen to the level of a martial emperor at a young age. But if she had not been poisoned, based on her skill in cultivation in the past, she would have been at least a mid-level martial emperor by now. Unfortunately, she was poisoned and she lost her power long ago. Where did she get the courage to appear in such a place? Wei Yi curled her lips. Traitor. I believe that only some, deep down, know who the true traitor is. I will return to the medicine order sooner or later. Not only will I return, but I will reorganize the order in the previous order master's stead. She will never forget what that wretched couple did to her all those years ago, and she will never rest until she has had her revenge. Wei Yi clenched her fist at the thought of this, and took a deep breath. A chill enveloped her beautiful face. Whoosh. The disciple of the medicine order finally made her move. Her blade work was swift and pierced towards Wei Yi's face like a strong gust of wind. At the same time, the rest began to act as well. They only have one target, to attack Wei Yi. Elder Zui, what do you think? Rongyu frowned as she observed the battle and asked, this Wei Yi sure has a lot of courage to come here and participate in the trials. Could it be that she had regained her powers? Knowing Wei Yi, she would never send herself to death's door so foolishly. Chapter 454, The Group Battle, 3. That's very unlikely. Zui shook her head. No one can cure the Order Master's poison, and at the time of her escape, her powers were already degenerating. If it weren't for that worthless little girl who had set her free, this woman should not even be able to walk by now. Unfortunately, that worthless girl was the daughter of the previous Order Master. In order to avoid a rebellion from those old fellows, she cannot be touched. However, it's been 10 years since Wei Yi left. Her powers would have degenerated to the rank of a martial warrior by now. Rongyu stayed silent. Although she was barely even 10 at the time, no one else knew better than her of the events which had transpired that year. As her master's disciple, she had tagged along with her master everywhere she went. Watch, Wei Yi will be thrown off the stage very soon. Elder Zui smiled disapprovingly and swept her disdainful gaze towards Wei Yi. However, what happened next caused her expression to change greatly, and she widened her eyes in shock. Boom. The aura from Wei Yi's entire being stirred, and her seductive face was filled with such a cold chill that it was terrifying. Her eyes glared coldly at the swords aimed towards her. A high-level martial king. Impossible, her poison could not be cured. Based on Wei Yi's talent in the past, it would not be difficult for Zui to believe that she would successfully break through to the rank of a high-level martial king. But the problem was, Wei Yi had been poisoned in the past. Forget about breakthroughs, it would not even be possible for her to stop her powers from degenerating. How? She wondered. How was she able to cure the poison? The treasury of medicine. It must be the treasury of medicine. Elder Zui gritted her teeth and fixed a furious glare on Wei Yi. That's right, she fumed. This must be due to the treasury of medicine which allowed her to cure herself of the poison. This Wei Yi cannot be spared. A murderous intent flashed across Rongyu's eyes as she mumbled to herself. Wei Yi must die no matter what. She fumed. Otherwise, if she were to return to the medicine order and unite the old fellows who still do not believe that she betrayed us, it would definitely bring danger to my master. As for that Gu Ruan who had taken her in, she must die too. Rongyu suddenly remembered the person who had visited her yesterday in the middle of the night, and she instantly felt calmer. That person had guaranteed to her that the medicine order will be the champions of the divine trials this year. Furthermore, even if she were to murder the Dongfang family team on the spot, he assured her that the medicine order would not receive any repercussions. Bang! Wei Yi quickly leaped into the air and stepped onto the swords. Then, just as the medicine order disciples were recovering from the shock of seeing her true power, she drove her heel in and shattered the blades, causing the shards to fall to the ground with a loud clang. She then slowly descended to the ground. Kill her. The medicine order disciples exchanged a look and charged towards her with murderous intent in their eyes. These disciples of the Dongfang family must all die here. During Wei Yi's duel with the medicine order disciples, the eliminations were already in motion. Even if the Dongfang family team were pushed off the arena now, they would at least be placed last in the trials and would not be eliminated. Since that was the case, it's best to kill them now. Watch out. Dongfang Qingyun wrinkled her brow and joined the other disciples surrounding Wei Yi. Even though they have had the breakthroughs, the opposing team members were all high-level martial kings. They cannot afford to slack off in this competition. Rongyu, did you say that that person can guarantee that the medicine order won't face any punishment even if we end up killing someone? Zui still found this hard to believe. She wanted to kill them all off too, but she did not dare commit such a crime out of fear that the three great authorities would punish them severely for it. But can the person who had paid Rongyu a visit last night really guarantee that? That's right, Rongyu nodded. That person held a token from the Spirit sect and is not of a low rank in the sect either. Furthermore, our medicine order has vowed our loyalty and devotion to the immortal realm. Now that both the Spirit sect and the immortal realm stands with us, we need not worry about the courts of hell. Besides, the representative from the courts of hell this year is the high-level martial emperor, Elder Ju. Chapter 455, Gratitude and Resentment 1. Zui began to feel calmer upon hearing her reassuring words. As long as they had the person's promise, they need not fear the consequences. There weren't many people left standing in the arena. The Dongfang family team stood together in a circle and stared alertly at the medicine order disciples who were advancing towards them. Wei Yi's expression had remained the same from the very beginning, but no one knew of the earth-shattering emotions she was feeling within her. It has been over 10 years. During these past 10 years, how many times had she dreamt of this scenario and thought about how impossible it was that she would have the chance to duel with the disciples of the medicine order at the trials. She will not let her master down, no matter what. All of you, stand down. Let me handle them. Wei Yi took a deep breath and a thick murderous intent appeared on her charming face. The crowd went into a daze. Forget about the disciples of the medicine order, even the Dongfang family disciples did not know what Wei Yi was up to. After all, she was up against 5 martial kings. Even though she was a martial king as well, she was heavily outnumbered. How could she possibly be a match for them? Lady Wei, isn't it a bit far-fetched for you to face them alone? King Yun frowned as she asked. This is a grudge between me and the medicine order. Wei Yi raised her head and her eyes filled with an unusual determination. I will not lose to the medicine order here. This is my fight with them and it has nothing to do with any of you. All of you, watch from the sides. Realizing that the disciples of the Dongfang family were about to speak further, Wei Yi no longer gave them the opportunity to speak and charged immediately towards the group of 5. You're overestimating your abilities. The disciples of the medicine order sneered. Do you still think that you are the senior Aunt Yi of days gone by? Now, you are no different from us and still, you want to face all 5 of us alone. You'll be the first to die. Whoosh. His cold blade flashed as he brandished it at Wei Yi. Wei Yi's expression grew serious at the sight of the lightning-fast blade coming towards her. That woman was only a martial king and she thinks that she can defeat all 5 of them on her own. Bai Xiangshan deepened the crease in his brow and shook his head. The Dongfang family has certainly gotten more and more useless, producing such an egotistical disciple. Unless this woman holds a treasure equivalent to a spiritual weapon, she wouldn't stand a chance against the odds. He thought. Furthermore, the disciples of the medicine order are no weaklings. Lady Gu, this. Dongfang Changjin looked doubtfully at Gu Ruoan. She had faith in her but one martial king against 5. No matter how you look at it, it was simply outrageous. If the Dongfang family was eliminated from the competition, they won't get a second chance. Gu Ruoan did not reply and only stared silently at the shock of red robes in the arena with an unreadable expression on her beautiful face. No one knew how Wei Yi had managed to endure the past 10 years. If it were not for her thirst for revenge that pushed her forward, she would not have progressed to this day. She would support Wei Yi's decision in whatever she does. The medicine order. Wei Yi's robes fluttered against the violent winds as a disdainful smile hung on her beautiful and seductive face. She swept an intimidating gaze across each and every face of the disciples of the medicine order. Are you really fit to be the disciples of the medicine order? The medicine order under that woman's control. I don't think that there's much to shout about. Today, I, Wei Yi, shall clean up the organization in my previous master's place. Chapter 456, Gratitude and Resentment 2. Bang! At this moment, her aura stirred from within. Wei Yi did not seem to feel the dangers which were heading towards her from all directions as she quickly pulled out a soft strip from her waist and lashed out fiercely at the people surrounding her. Wei Yi, you're looking for death. You're nothing but a traitor. The one who should be wiped out is you. The 5 disciples of the medicine order made their move and aimed their swords at Wei Yi's throat at the same time. High-level martial kings' auras erupted from within them and a murderous intent stirred recklessly around the plaza. Everyone began to grow anxious as if they could almost see that woman, as beautiful as a rose, lying dead in a pool of blood. Some of them were shaking their heads hopelessly. This was the consequence of her arrogance. If the Dongfang family members had attacked as one, they probably wouldn't be losing so badly even if they ended up pushed off the arena. Unfortunately, these people were far too savage. Whoosh! The soft strip in Wei Yi's hand was like a sword that cut sharply across the surroundings. A loud slashing noise could be heard as if something had torn through the air. However, the 5 disciples of the medicine order had leaped back and dodged the attack. Their swords were like a rain of blades that pierced towards Wei Yi. Even the people around her spread out and some even rolled off the arena out of fear that the battle would wound them as well. Soon, only a few organizations remained on the arena stage. Just as Wei Yi managed to dodge the rain of swords, a sharp wind came slicing towards her back. Before she could avoid it, the sound of a blade piercing through the skin could be heard. The blade had stabbed her arm and blood began to trickle down from the wound. Gradually, more and more blood started to flow and her entire arm was soon stained with blood. Hee hee. Wei Yi licked the blood from her arm. She swept her alluring gaze towards the medicine order disciple and spoke seductively. Was that all you've got? As a disciple of the medicine order, when have you all become so disappointing? Want me to teach you? Bang. He didn't know why, but upon locking eyes with Wei Yi's seductive gaze, the disciple's mind went blank and he began to hum to himself. The art of seduction. Seeing the dazed look on the male disciple's face, Zuei's expression changed greatly. That demon woman Wei Yi has actually learned the art of seduction. This was bad. Just as she spoke, Wei Yi made her move. She lifted her long, snow-white thigh and aimed it straight towards the male disciple's lower abdomen, sending him flying out of the way in one kick. He landed on the very edge of the arena with a loud crash and his head made contact with a pillar, causing the male disciple to faint. Now it's your turn. Wei Yi slowly turned her gaze. Her seductive face was devoid of emotion. She had kicked the male disciple to the edge of the arena on purpose. If one person was pushed off the arena, the medicine order will have lost. And she will, of course, never be able to vent her frustrations this time. Hence, she was not going to allow such a swift defeat for the medicine order. Whatever happened next shocked the crowd so much that their eyeballs nearly fell to the ground. Initially, the medicine order had 5 high-level martial kings and Wei Yi would face some difficulty in her fight against them. But after taking care of one, it was easier for her to take care of the rest. Don't judge Wei Yi just because she was a high-level martial king, as there were no more levels that can outmatch her in that particular rank. Unless the opposing team suddenly breaks through to the rank of a martial emperor, they cannot possibly defeat her. But really, under these circumstances, who could possibly break through to the rank of a martial emperor now? Hence, under Wei Yi's powerful attacks, the opposing team was forced to concede even with 4 martial kings on their side. Some had been pinned to the ground and treated to a thorough punching session from Wei Yi. They were hit so many times that they did not even have the chance to beg for mercy. Chapter 457, A Wager 1. The medicine order has lost. Gasp. The crowd was astounded. They were all martial kings, but only one from the Dongfang family had gone up against 5 from the medicine order. Yet the 5 could not defeat 1. Had they not seen this with their own eyes, they would never have believed it. Elder Zuei, there's no need to worry, said Rongyu soothingly upon seeing Elder Zuei's ugly expression. This Wei Yi may have gotten rid of the poison and broken through to the rank of a high-level martial king, but so what? A martial king, when compared to a martial emperor, is an entire level apart. The Dongfang family could not possibly win. It is only the elimination round, so what if they passed? I'll show the Dongfang family what a true nightmare looks like in the rest of the trials. Gu Ruan, was it not enough for you all to admit defeat in the elimination round like obedient little children? She thought, yet you stubbornly insist on showing off. Since that's the case, don't blame me for whatever happens next. Rongyu swept her gaze towards the peerlessly beautiful man next to Gu Ruan, and a sense of determination to win flashed across her eyes. When the time comes, I will show that man that when compared to me, Gu Ruan was a good-for-nothing with no redeeming qualities. As if sensing her gaze, Chanbei wrinkled his brows and turned his bloodthirsty yet ethereal gaze towards Rongyu. A cold light flashed across his eyes. She didn't know why, but when Rongyu's eyes met Chanbei's, she felt her heart tremble. His blood-red eyes were cruel and fearsome, there was an arrogance in his expression as if everyone was beneath him. It was hard to believe that anyone would have a gaze that looked as if he viewed the people of the world as tiny individuals with no power. Yet, in front of that Gu Ruan woman, he presents such gentleness and listens to her every word. Why was it that when he looks at me, it was always with such cruelty? No. I must make it such that I will be the only one in that man's eyes. And only I shall receive his gentleness. Xiao Yun, I don't like the way her eyes look. Chanbei wrinkled his brow. She looks at me with too much greed, it's disgusting. Gu Ruan noticed Rongyu's gaze as well and furrowed her brow. A cold light flashed across her clear eyes. If you don't like her eyes, then I'll dig out her eyes in the end for you, alright. Alright. Chanbei's face lit up with a smile. In that instant, it was as if every living thing had lost their color. Xiao Yun was willing to dig out this woman's eyes for me, he thought. Does this prove that I'm in Xiao Yun's heart? This new piece of information put Chanbei in such a great mood that even the gloomy aura from his body dissipated by quite a bit. In the plaza's arena, the disciples of the medicine order had all been flung onto the ground. They panted as they stared at the woman in red. Their eyes were filled with hatred as one spoke, Wei Yi, you will not have an easy death. Bang! Wei Yi threw her leg forward and fiercely flung the medicine order disciple who had spoken off the arena and into the crowd of spectators with one swift kick. You'd better report to that SLT and tell her that I, Wei Yi, will soon storm the medicine order and have my revenge. Wei Yi touched her red skirt and smiled coldly as she spoke, in this elimination round, I'll let you off for now. But next time, for the rest of the trials, I will kill any disciple of the medicine order that comes my way. Even if you were to send 2 at a time, I'll kill them both. What are you still doing here? Leave. The disciples of the medicine order scrambled to their feet and quickly jumped off the arena. Just before they left, they glared hatefully at Wei Yi. Chapter 458, A Wager 2. This woman's schemes do not seem to be in the right place. At the judge's seat, the elder of the immortal realm, Bai Xiangshan stared coldly at Wei Yi in the arena and slowly spoke. The medicine order had lost long ago, yet she would not allow him to leave the arena. She didn't even give them the chance to surrender. A woman like this will be the bane of the mainland sooner or later. The Honorable Sir Tianchi laughed coldly. When compared to Wei Yi, I'm afraid that the disciples of the medicine order were far crueler. They clearly used killing attacks. Anyone with subpar powers would have died by their sword immediately. If that were to happen, would you still say this? Even though the Honorable Sir Tianchi did not know Wei Yi personally, she was still a member of the Dongfang family team. He would certainly provide help at a time like this. Honorable Sir Tianchi, don't think I don't know your relationship with the Dongfang family. You've kept this from many people, but you can't keep this away from the eyes and ears of the immortal realm. Sneered Bai Xiangshan, so that's why you would stand on the Dongfang family's side, but unfortunately, those from the younger generation of the Dongfang family are unable to support the mud on the walls and are no match for the geniuses of the medicine order. The Honorable Sir Tianchi's eyes flashed as he smiled. Honorable Sir Xiangshan, if that's the case, how about we make a little wager? A wager? Bai Xiangshan sneered. How would you like to make this wager? It's very simple. Honorable Sir Tianchi's elderly face was plastered with smiles. He stared cunningly at the old man in white next to him. I bet that the Dongfang family will be the champions of this year's divine trials. I have also heard that your immortal realm has obtained the historical remains of an ancient folk remedy. If you lose, you'll give that folk remedy to me. If I lose, I will give this low-class spiritual weapon in my possession to you. Bai Xiangshan fell silent. This old man may be quite shameless on a regular basis, but he wouldn't possibly make a wager with me, knowing that he would lose, he thought. Especially since this fellow can be quite petty, he wouldn't risk anything if he wasn't 100% sure. Could it be that there's something in this that I don't know about? Honorable Sir Tianchi, I have no interest in making wagers. Just as Bai Xiangshan was about to reject him, he noticed that the Honorable Sir Tianchi was letting out an obvious sigh of relief. His expression was as if he had regretted his proposal and, upon seeing that the opposition did not agree to it, felt immediately more relaxed. However, after seeing the Honorable Sir Tianchi's expression, Bai Xiangshan quickly changed his tone. If you, Honorable Sir Tianchi, is interested in this sort of thing, then I am willing to keep you company. What? The Honorable Sir Tianchi cried out anxiously and stared in panic at Bai Xiangshan. He looked as if he was thoroughly regretting this. This is, he let out a heavy sigh. For such a pure and virtuous person like me, since the words have been spoken, then I cannot take them back. All right, let's make a wager. The Honorable Sir Tianchi seemed to have used all his might to spit out those words, and his entire body leaned softly against his chair. Bai Xiangshan smiled disdainfully at the sight of his pale face. This old man actually dared to scare me. He nearly saw through my moralities. He thought, luckily, I've managed to call his bluff and agreed in time. The Dongfang family could not possibly defeat the medicine order in the trials this time. And as for the spiritual weapon in this old man's hands, it will soon be mine. Bai Xiangshan smiled in satisfaction at the thought of this. In that moment, he did not notice that the Honorable Sir Tianqi was also grinning from ear to ear. Rate translation quality. 97 comments, join in. Chapter 459, Cheating 1. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. That pill formula is far more valuable than a spiritual weapon, thought the Honorable Sir Tianqi. Nowadays, pill formulas have all vanished from the face of the mainland, but the old man from the immortal realm seemed to have had a stroke of luck to discover pill formulas at an archaeological site. And I have long coveted that pill formula. As if he could almost see that pill formula in the palm of his hand, the Honorable Sir Tianqi nearly laughed out loud, but he held it back as he was afraid that Bai Xiangshan, who was right next to him, would notice. In the plaza, Zhao Shangshan lightly curled his lips and shot a look at the disciples of the Dark Yin Palace who was still in the arena. Then, he turned towards Gu Ruoan and smiled with magnificence. Xiao Yun sir, the Dark Yin Palace will not quibble with you over the first place in this elimination round. Whatever comes next in this competition, we won't go easy on you. Whoosh. In that instant, the crowd began to scuttle away. Even though the Dark Yin Palace disciples had forfeited the elimination round and accepted the second place, based on the Dongfang family's current level of strength, not only were they not eliminated from the divine trials, but they've even defeated the medicine order. This has shocked the entire crowd. Cough, cough. Seeing that the competition was over, the city governor glanced at the old men next to him before letting out a dry cough and said, "The elimination round is over. We will arrange the ranks based on the results of the elimination round. Please get some rest now, everyone. Let us all gather at the plaza again tomorrow." After the city governor spoke, the crowd began to disperse. The participants in the arena also returned to their respective teams. Amidst the crowd, Rongyu made her way to the Dongfang family's domain. Her eyes swept past Gu Ruoan and landed on Wei Yi's charming face. "Senior Aunt Yi, long time no see. Master and senior uncle have missed you. Why don't you visit them?" Wei Yi laughed charmingly, but her smile did not reach her eyes. "Far more than their thoughts of me, I miss them dearly as well. Once the trials are over, you can go back and report to that SLT and B-star that I, Wei Yi, will soon pay them a visit to reminisce about the good old days." A cold light flashed across Rongyu's eyes, but her arrogant and cold face maintained its smile. "All right. Then we'll await your arrival, senior Aunt Yi, in the medicine order. I will take my leave now. One more thing." As she spoke, she paused, then stared down at her in an arrogant manner. "Even though you are my senior aunt, I won't go easy on you in the trials." Then, she said nothing more as she led the medicine order out of the area. From the start of the altercation to the end, Rongyu did not even look at Chan Yi. It was as if she did not see him at all. The second round of the competition was held the following day and was filled with more excitement than the elimination round. Many powerful organizations have gathered and some were still discussing Wei Yi's heroic feat as a one-woman show against a group of enemies. However, the Dongfang family's performance yesterday was particularly shocking. It still does not mean that the crowd fully believed in their strength yet. As long as they did not even have one disciple with a breakthrough to the rank of a martial emperor, they could not possibly achieve victory in the trials. Cough, cough. Under the gaze of the crowd, the governor of Cloud City brushed his robes and took his seat. He let out a dry cough and spoke, "Everyone, quiet please." It was as if his voice held power. The crowd became absolutely silent in an instant. Based on yesterday's elimination round, the official trials will begin today. We will follow the sequence of the ranks obtained during yesterday's elimination round. Furthermore, I want to declare this beforehand. In the subsequent competitions, every winning team shall accumulate 10 points while every losing team will only receive 5 points. The team with the most accumulated points will be the final victors. Chapter 459, Cheating 1. That pill formula is far more valuable than a spiritual weapon, thought the Honorable Sir Tianqi. Nowadays, pill formulas have all vanished from the face of the mainland, but the old man from the immortal realm seemed to have had a stroke of luck to discover pill formulas at an archaeological site. And I have long coveted that pill formula. As if he could almost see that pill formula in the palm of his hand, the Honorable Sir Tianqi nearly laughed out loud, but he held it back as he was afraid that Bai Xiangshan, who was right next to him, would notice. In the plaza, Zhao Shangshan lightly curled his lips and shot a look at the disciples of the Dark Yin Palace who was still in the arena. Then, he turned towards Gu Ruoan and smiled with magnificence. "Xiao Yun sir, the Dark Yin Palace will not quibble with you over the first place in this elimination round. Whatever comes next in this competition, we won't go easy on you." Whoosh. In that instant, the crowd began to scuttle away. Even though the Dark Yin Palace disciples had forfeited the elimination round and accepted the second place, based on the Dongfang family's current level of strength, not only were they not eliminated from the divine trials, but they've even defeated the medicine order. This has shocked the entire crowd. Cough, cough. Seeing that the competition was over, the city governor glanced at the old men next to him before letting out a dry cough and said, "The elimination round is over. We will arrange the ranks based on the results of the elimination round. Please get some rest now, everyone. Let us all gather at the plaza again tomorrow." After the city governor spoke, the crowd began to disperse. The participants in the arena also returned to their respective teams. Amidst the crowd, Rongyu made her way to the Dongfang family's domain. Her eyes swept past Gu Ruoan and landed on Wei Yi's charming face. "Senior Aunt Yi, long time no see. Master and senior uncle have missed you. Why don't you visit them?" Wei Yi laughed charmingly, but her smile did not reach her eyes. "Far more than their thoughts of me, I miss them dearly as well. Once the trials are over, you can go back and report to that SLT and B-star that I, Wei Yi, will soon pay them a visit to reminisce about the good old days." A cold light flashed across Rongyu's eyes, but her arrogant and cold face maintained its smile. "All right. Then we'll await your arrival, senior Aunt Yi, in the medicine order. I will take my leave now. One more thing." As she spoke, she paused, then stared down at her in an arrogant manner. "Even though you are my senior aunt, I won't go easy on you in the trials." Then, she said nothing more as she led the medicine order out of the area. From the start of the altercation to the end, Rongyu did not even look at Chanbei. It was as if she did not see him at all. The second round of the competition was held the following day and was filled with more excitement than the elimination round. Many powerful organizations have gathered and some were still discussing Wei Yi's heroic feat as a one-woman show against a group of enemies. However, the Dongfang family's performance yesterday was particularly shocking. It still does not mean that the crowd fully believed in their strength yet. As long as they did not even have one disciple with a breakthrough to the rank of a martial emperor, they could not possibly achieve victory in the trials. Cough, cough. Under the gaze of the crowd, the governor of Cloud City brushed his robes and took his seat. He let out a dry cough and spoke, "Everyone, quiet please." It was as if his voice held power. The crowd became absolutely silent in an instant. Based on yesterday's elimination round, the official trials will begin today. We will follow the sequence of the ranks obtained during yesterday's elimination round. Furthermore, I want to declare this beforehand. In the subsequent competitions, every winning team shall accumulate 10 points while every losing team will only receive 5 points. The team with the most accumulated points will be the final victors. Chapter 460, Cheating 2. That also meant that in the subsequent rounds of the competition, one winner or loss doesn't really count for much. Only the team with the most accumulated points will become the champions of the trials. This caused a lot of added pressure to the crowd and they grew increasingly anxious. Soon, the city governor's servants began to hand out tokens to every organization. As the Dongfang family was in first place during the elimination round, they got the first number, followed by the Dark Yin Palace and the Medicine Order. As for the Gu family, they were in the 6th place, the last place. When he received his number, Gu Ling's expression turned into a particularly ugly shade as he glared at the Dongfang family with gloom and ferocity. HMPH, that was merely an elimination round. You guys can have it. Next time, my Gu family will fiercely devastate your Dongfang family. I'll make you understand the consequences of sheltering a person who belongs to me. No matter what, he wanted to destroy the Dongfang family in the competition so that they would understand that he was not the kind of person who should be provoked. Seeing as everyone has already received the numbers, then let the trials officially begin. Allow me to first introduce the teams. The city governor glanced at the crowd before him and let out a dry cough. Number 1 will go up against number 3, number 2 will go up against number 4, and number 5 against number 6. All teams mentioned shall send one representative to participate in the competition. Now, you may all discuss on whom you wish to send as a representative, then write it on a piece of paper and hand it to me. There were 3 arenas in the plaza. In order to save time, all 6 team members will be put through the trials at the same time. Of course, in order to ensure a fair match, the teams will not be allowed to know the opposition's chosen representative. At the same time, members who have already competed were not allowed to enter any subsequent matches. However, no one expected the Dongfang family to go up against the Medicine Order so soon. Guess, who do you think will win this round? It goes without saying that it's going to be the Medicine Order without a doubt. Based on the Medicine Order's powers, they cannot lose. I think so too. The Dongfang family cannot be compared with the Medicine Order. The crowd shook their heads, obviously looking down on the Dongfang family. Meanwhile, in the Dongfang family team, Dongfang Changjin turned towards the group and asked, "We'll be going against the Medicine Order in the first round. Who amongst you is willing to go first?" "Elder, El will go." Hearing this, King Yun quickly stood up and said, "I am willing to fight the Medicine Order." "All right." Dongfang Changjin paused in silence, then nodded her head. "King Yun, your powers are at the rank of a high-level martial king. It would be safer for you to go. Hence, you shall represent us in the match against the Medicine Order. Furthermore, you must be careful. If you really cannot go on, admit defeat. Don't worry, Elder, I won't lose." How many years has it been? How many years has it been where the Dongfang family was forfeited in the elimination round? All of this has been due to the machinations of the Medicine Order. Now, with great difficulty, we finally have the chance to vent our frustrations. I will not give up. Soon, the other teams finished choosing their respective representatives and the eyes of the crowd slowly drew their attention to the arena. Rongyu observed King Yun who was making his way onto the arena and a peculiar glint flashed across her eyes. The Dongfang family is sending him. Since that's the case, King Ling will not lose. In the arena, King Ling's disdainful gaze swept towards the man's face and laughed scornfully. "King Yun, we meet again. What, you, a warrior vanquished by my hand, would actually have the guts to fight with me? Are you not afraid of me beating you like a dog once again?" Fun fact, King Ling is actually written as King Ling, which means quick and agile. King Yun is written as King Yun, which means clear skies. They are in no way related to one another. Chapter 461, Cheating 3. King Yun's expression changed. "That was last year. This time, I won't lose to you. A defeated opponent is a defeated opponent, nothing will ever change that fact." King Ling sneered and without warning, an aura burst from her entire body. If this was the mid-level martial King King Yun, he would be cowering in fear under my coercion, she thought. And then I will have the opportunity to trample all over him. Of course, this time should be no different. But just as her aura burst towards King Yun, another burst of energy which was not her own erupted from the other's body. Upon feeling the strong coercion, King Ling's face changed greatly and she cried out with an ugly expression on her face, "A high-level martial king. You've had a breakthrough." If I remember correctly, King Yun seemed to have been stuck as a mid-level martial king for the longest time, she thought. I didn't think that he would have his breakthrough before the divine trials. "King Yun, do you think that you can defeat me just because you've broken through to the rank of a high-level martial king? Stop dreaming, I will never lose to you." Bang! The aura from both sides clashed and dispersed throughout the surrounding area, causing the both of them to stumble a few steps back. King Ling drew her sword and with a magnificent flash of the blade and the light of the sword came piercing towards King Yun. Then, with one quick wave of her sword, countless rays from the sword shot towards King Yun like a meteor rain. King Yun leaped back to dodge the attack and just as he retreated, the rays from the sword fell onto the arena, carving out endless deep crevices on the ground. They were so deep that it was absolutely shocking. Kingling, previously my powers were no match for yours, so I had to suffer your humiliation. Now, I will no longer give you any chance to humiliate me. Give me an explosion. Kingyun pointed a finger at Kingling and suddenly a golden light shot out from his fingertip. A deafening thunderbolt exploded towards Kingling, but just as the golden ray of light fell, Kingling had already dodged its attack. Boom. A loud, blaring sound was heard. At the same time, a large hole was chiseled into the place where Kingling had once stood, drawing the attention of the rest of the spectators. Kingling's expression turned into an extremely ugly shade. She had never anticipated that she would not be able to get rid of her opponent so quickly. She'll never live this down. Kingyun, initially I had not wanted to attack you too brutally on account of the fact that we were old acquaintances. Unfortunately, you are far too insensitive. If you could only stand there quietly and remain still, wouldn't that have been much better for you? Yet you stubbornly insist on opposing me. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being vicious and merciless. In Kingling's eyes, this Kingyun was nothing but an idiotic moron. If only he could have stayed obediently still, I might even have spared his life, she thought. Yet he stupidly insists on fighting back. This was simply the act of committing a foolish crime. All right then. Since he's insisting on being that way, then I will show no mercy. In the judge's box, Bai Xiangshan wrinkled his brow as he observed the arena and calmly declared, the Dongfang family will lose this round. What makes you think so? The Honorable Sir Tianqi raised an eyebrow and asked. It's easy. Kingling has already broken through to the rank of a high-level martial king long ago, but the Dongfang boy has only reached that rank just a few days ago. So, it would seem that he hasn't accumulated enough stamina. Even though he may be able to defend himself with a few techniques, his spiritual energy will soon deplete and he will soon fall into a losing end. While both sides seemed to be evenly matched, some could already tell that Kingyun was at a disadvantage. Especially since he'd only just had his breakthrough, and doesn't have enough control over his powers within this new rank. So, obviously, he was no match for Kingling. Chapter 462, Cheating, 4. Even the Honorable Sir Tianqi could not help but frown, clearly feeling mildly troubled. Noticing the expression on his face, Bai Xiangshan was even more confident of the result. His initially arrogant and cold old face was now painted with an utterly complacent color. Time rolled on, and soon one burning incense was about to be burned out. The two opponents in the arena began to pant in exhaustion. By this time, Kingyun was not as capable of resisting Kingling's attacks as he had been during the start of the battle. He was forced to defend himself and did not have the chance to fight back. This was the difference between a long-time high-level martial king and one who had just recently broken through to the rank. Sigh, let's just watch the other arenas. It's not even the least bit unclear on who will win or lose here. It's not interesting at all. The spectators shook their heads and turned around to watch the other fights. Just at that moment, Kingyun suddenly took out a pill from his lapel and swallowed it. His tired and wounded body recovered visibly in an instant. Then, he took out another pill and swallowed it as well. His exhausted spiritual energy began to rejuvenate, filling to the brim. Again, said Kingyun as he wiped the sweat from his brow and stared at Kingling. Boom. The crowd was in a sensation and all eyes stared in disbelief at that handsome face. They looked as if they had all discovered a new mainland and were completely shocked to the core. What was that thing that he just swallowed? How did he manage to heal all his wounds in an instant and refill his spiritual energy? Heavens, I've heard that the maternal granddaughter of the Dongfang family is the master of the 100-herb hall, Gu Ruoan. Could it be that that candy-like object he had swallowed was actually a pill? A pill? You mean the pills that have long vanished from the face of the earth for over 10,000 years? My god, this pill was simply too miraculous. No wonder so many in the mainland are fighting for one. In that instant, Kingling's expression turned extremely ugly. Her pale face was drenched in sweat as she gritted her teeth and glared at Kingyun. You're cheating. Kingyun curled his lips scornfully. How am I cheating? If it's cheating to heal myself during battle, then you may use this method to cheat as well. Are you not a disciple of the medicine order? I've heard that the medicine order is quite excellent. Could it be that you can't even do this one thing? TSK, if that's the case, then you guys shouldn't be named the medicine order anymore. It's best that you change your name to the ghost order and be done with it. Ha ha. Just as he spoke, the audience laughed. The ghost order, in this entire world, he's probably the only one who would dare to spew such words, they thought in unison. You're looking for your own death. Kingling was thoroughly enraged and her eyes seemed to be spitting fire. My medicine order is holy and sacred, how can someone like you insult us? Anyone who dares to insult the medicine order must die. Whoosh. Kingling gripped the sword in her hand and charged like a lightning bolt towards Kingyun. Her eyes were filled with the intent to kill as she gathered her spiritual energy into the palm of her hand. She then dispersed it into her sword and slashed it towards Kingyun with all her might. Due to her loss of spiritual energy, Kingling could only struggle with everything she had left. Win or lose, everything depended on this one attack. She believed that even though Kingyun had broken through as a high-level martial king, he would not be able to withstand her last attack. Go to hell, you go to hell. Bang. Both swords clashed against one another and a strong light exploded from the collision. Kingling widened her eyes as she looked at Kingyun who had blocked her attack. Her face turned pale. How could this be? She wondered. The attack that I gave everything that I had was blocked. I have now exhausted all of my spiritual energy. What can I do now? Anger, hatred, and humiliation. These three feelings appeared within Kingling's expression at the same time, especially when she thought of how she would soon be defeated by Kingyun in front of the entire crowd. Her heart trembled violently as she gritted her teeth and stared hatefully at him. Chapter 463, Cheating, 5. I can't take this. I really can't take this. My powers were clearly stronger than Kingyun's. It's only because he had used that pill to regain his spiritual energy that caused me to lose by his hand. How could I possibly concede to this? These medicine order disciples are truly useless. From not too far away, a white-robed Shiyun coldly stared at the fight in the arena as she lightly stroked the back of her snow-white jade-like hand with one finger. A sneer hung from the corners of her lips. No matter what, I cannot allow the medicine order to lose this round. As she spoke, she lowered her pupils and calmly raised the corner of her lips. But if I made a move to cheat, Guru Ruan and Chanbei will notice it in time. So this time, I'll have to rely on you. Whoosh. A shapeless form shot out from Shi Yun's body and flew towards King Yun in the arena. In that instant, because everyone else was too far away from him, no one noticed a thing. Xiao Yun, watch out. Suddenly, Chanbei seemed to have noticed something and reached out to pull Guru Ruan into his embrace. His blood-red eyes were filled with terrifying bloodlust as an air of ruthlessness erupted from his entire being. His silvery hair entangled in the wind and his demonic yet peerlessly beautiful face was suddenly filled with murderous intent. Xiao Yi. Guru Ruan was dazed, but when she regained her senses, a powerful explosion erupted from the arena. The next thing everyone saw was King Yun's body exploding like a firecracker with a crackling and rattling sound. Bai Xiangshan's nervousness suddenly disappeared. It seems that King Ling's attack was effective at the last minute. The Dongfang family loses. The Honorable Sir Tianqi's elderly face changed completely. His sharp eyes searched the surroundings as a thick, gloomy anger stirred from within his body. The medicine order has cheated. That's right. At that moment, I could feel an external energy from outside the arena, he mused. That energy did not belong to King Ling, but just when I wanted to investigate it, that energy had disappeared. Hee, Bai Xiangshan sneered. Honorable Sir Tianqi, just admit it. They've lost. Besides, everyone saw how King Yun had lost to King Ling. You would disregard your honor as a judge for the sake of the Dongfang family and spew such accusations. If you say that the medicine order has cheated, then show us the evidence. Actually, Bai Xiangshan had also sensed the distinct energy, but he would never admit it. As long as the Honorable Sir Tianqi has no evidence, the medicine order will win this round. Pop. Pop, pop, pop. Explosion after explosion went on, destroying every inch of King Yun's body as the crowd watched. The blood gushed out of his now limp and lifeless body. It was a dreadful sight to behold. King Ling had been initially stunned but quickly let out a loud laugh. I told you, you were no match for me. How could anyone like you defeat me? I was only toying with you in the beginning. This was my true power. Ha ha ha. Even though King Ling knew that someone was helping her from behind the scenes, nothing could stop her from taking all the glory. Besides, who could possibly know that someone was pulling the strings behind the scenes for her? The audience only saw her defeating King Yun. So, as it turns out, Lady King Ling was taking it easy on King Yun. Otherwise, she wouldn't have taken so long to defeat him. If Lady King Ling had utilized the scale of this power from the start, she probably would have killed her opponent in one blow. Clearly, the disciples of the medicine order were too kind. They didn't want their opponent to lose too badly. TSK, this Dongfang family is still too weak. No one noticed that at this very moment, Guru Ruan's face was as black as the depths of the ocean. A murderous intent flashed from within her once clear and calm gaze. Chapter 464, Guru Ruan's Rampage 1. Xiao Yi, do you know who's behind this? Furthermore, that person's powers were at least one level above hers. Otherwise, she would not have been unable to detect her movements. A blood-red light flashed across Chanbei Yi's crimson gaze and he replied gloomily, it was that man who had whisked Shi Yun away back in Heaven City. I initially thought that he was targeting you. I didn't think that it would be King Yun. Shi Yun, she's here. Guru Ruan smiled icily and raised her head. Her fine, black hair danced against the wind. Her cold, clear eyes held a thick murderous intent as she said, Xiao Yi, please help me. Conceal yourself in the dark and investigate for the rest of the trials. Catch Shi Yun. Understood. Chanbei Yi nodded, leave it to me. You can concentrate on the trials in peace. Guru Ruan said nothing more, staring coldly at the arena with an unreadable expression on her fair visage. The medicine order, Shi Yun. When the time comes, I will make you pay for everything you've done. In the arena, King Ling slowly approached King Yun and sneered as she observed him. She stared down upon with arrogance, seeing as you were so great earlier on, come and get me. Hit me if you can. Ha ha ha, King Yun, you are a good for nothing from head to toe. Your Dongfang family members are all good for nothings. Even after you've broken through to the rank of a high-level martial king, you're still no match for me. King Yun clutched his chest as he raised his head and glared fiercely at King Ling. His face was dripping with blood. The expression set off on his bloodied face was an absolutely terrifying sight. You're despicable. Despicable. King Ling replied contemptuously. Everyone on earth knows the kind nature of our medicine order. The word, despicable, can never be used to describe us. King Yun, had you obediently stayed still instead of resisting, you would have been much better off. You deserve this. Stomp. King Ling drove her foot fiercely onto King Yun's head. He let out a muffled groan as blood overflowed from his mouth. You. King Yun wanted to curse and swear at her, but before the words could come out of his mouth, King Ling grabbed his hair and bashed his head against the ground. Gasp. The crowd was shocked. No one thought that King Ling would have treated a defeated man in such a manner. Stop it. The Dongfang family members' eyes filled with red-hot rage at the sight of King Ling's actions. They roared madly, clamoring to rush into the arena and beat her to a pulp. However, King Ling, who had clearly heard their angered cries, drove her foot into King Yun deeper and kicked him a meter away from her. The extreme force of it caused King Yun to spit out a mouthful of blood. The man was in such agony that he no longer had the strength to speak. I'm going to beat you until you beg me for mercy. Are your bones not strong and hard? I want to see which one breaks first, your bones, or my leg. Bang! King Ling's leg landed on King Yun's head once again and King Yun spat out another mouthful of blood. At that moment, his vision began to grow blurry and the piercing rays of the sun greatly tired his eyes. He felt a strong urge to drift into sleep. Enough. The Honorable Sir Tianqi could no longer sit still. He rose from his seat with one swift move and spoke with fury burning in his eyes. Medicine order girl, Dongfang King Yun has lost. The results of the trials are already out. You can leave now. Lost. King Ling sneered. He hasn't been thrown off the stage nor has he begged for mercy. How can this be considered defeat? I gave him the chance to beg for mercy. He chose not to take it. Who was to blame now? Chapter 465. Guru Ruan's Rampage 2. Honorable Sir Tianqi's expression changed greatly. You've beaten him to such a degree, how is he supposed to admit defeat? Seeing as the results are out, then I can declare that the victory of this round goes to the medicine order. He. As he spoke, Bai Xiangshan stared mockingly at the Honorable Sir Tianqi. I believe that the medicine order girl makes sense. The rules of the trials state that as long as the opponent does not admit defeat, the competition is not over. Honorable Sir Tianqi, you cannot show favoritism. You. The Honorable Sir Tianqi was so angered that his face turned black. He clenched his fist tightly as his heart filled with rage like waves crashing in turmoil in the ocean. He gritted his teeth and spoke, Bai Xiangshan, don't you ever king act so shamelessly. Whether the medicine order truly cheated, you know the truth deep down in your heart. Bai Xiangshan sneered and turned around, not even bothering to look at the Honorable Sri Tianqi's ashen face. So what if the medicine order had cheated? As long as there was no proof, the victors in this round will not be the Dongfang family. King Yun. In the arena, King Ling took one step forward, and looked down at the motionless man on the ground with a smile filled with great contempt. You should rejoice that you're going to die at the hand of a genius like me. Well, it's your Dongfang family's fault for being on the same team as that traitor, Wei Yi, of all people. So when you die, you shouldn't blame me. If there's anyone to blame, blame Gu Ruoan and Wei Yi. It's their fault for causing your death. Then, King Ling lifted her leg once again and aimed it towards King Yun's head. Once her leg lands on his head, King Yun's skull will certainly crack open and he will die tragically beneath her feet. The Dongfang family members were enraged and glared with reddened eyes at King Ling. They could not stand by idly and watch King Yun die so violently, and some wanted to rush into the arena, even if they had to break the rules of the trials or face elimination. Just as King Ling's foot was about to land on King Yun's head, a hand grabbed onto her ankle and with one swift move, flung King Ling a few steps back. A murderous intent flashed across her slightly narrowed eyes. What are you doing? Bai Xiangshan's expression fell. He rose from his seat and stared at the green-clothed young girl and bellowed coldly, who gave you permission to enter the arena? Underneath the wild winds, the young girl lightly raised her lovely face. Her clear and cold voice rang aloud against the whistling sound of the wind in a lukewarm manner. King Yun has already lost this battle. I'm here to escort him off the arena. This honored one has spoken. The participant has yet to admit defeat. Hence, the competition has not yet ended. Continue. Bai Xiangshan wrinkled his brow and coldly declared. Oh, really? Gu Ruoan smiled calmly as a frosty light flashed across her clear, cold eyes. I'd like to see who dares to lay a finger on my Dongfang family member. I'd like to see who dares to lay a finger on my Dongfang family member. This one sentence was spoken with such clear dominance and arrogance that it moved the hearts of every member of the Dongfang family. Gu Ruoan. Bang. Bai Xiangshan slammed his hand onto the table in front of him and spoke with a cold glare in his eyes. Do you want to be stripped of your right to participate in the trials? If every judge was as blind as you, then what does it matter if I forfeit the trials? Said Gu Ruoan as she lightly raised her head. At this moment, her body seemed to radiate a kind of aura that none could match. Furthermore, I won't let anyone harm the Dongfang family members even if I have to be forfeited from the trials. This is not the only way for me to enter the spirit sect and help my brother, Gu Shangshao, she thought. This was merely the simplest way. Just because I lose the chance to compete in the trials does not mean that I have no other way to help my big brother. Bai Xiangshan, I seem to remember another rule in this competition. The Honorable Sir Tianqi glanced at Bai Xiangshan as he said, if the participant in the arena is unable to admit defeat, then his team member can admit defeat in his place. If the Gu girl is admitting defeat in his place, then this competition has now ended. Chapter 466, Gu Ruoan's Rampage 3. That's correct. Elder Ju, who had remained silent for the longest time as he sat next to those two, finally spoke up. Honorable Sir Tianqi is right. Hence, this competition shall end here. That member of the Dongfang family has suffered heavy injuries as well and would require immediate medical attention. HMPH. Bai Xiangshan's expression changed in an instant. He scoffed coldly and said nothing more. Seeing this, Elder Ju smiled. Since that's the case, then the competition in arena number 1 is now concluded. The victors are the medicine order. In that instant, the hearts of every member of the Dongfang family sank. They were so close to winning the battle, but the medicine order had turned the tides in the end. Even though many of them knew that the medicine order utilized external means to cheat their way through, but without any proof, what could they possibly do? Lady Gu, King Yun, will he be all right? Dongfang Changjin surveyed the half-conscious King Yun and asked worriedly. Gu Ruoan paused in silence before replying. King Yun's wounds are extremely serious. There will be 2 more matches after this. I'm no longer participating and I've sent Xiao Yi to investigate any movements in secret. No one should be able to cheat during the subsequent battles. You need not worry. All right. Dongfang Changjin nodded and stared gratefully at Gu Ruoan. Lady Gu, I know that this competition is very important to you, yet you were willing to give up the trials for the sake of our Dongfang family disciples. I am truly thankful for how you've protected King Yun. Gu Ruoan smiled. Her voice was as fresh as a spring breeze, but it drove into the hearts of every person like a stone, generating great waves. Because my mother is Dongfang Yu, I will give everything I have to protect the family she once loved. Because my mother is Dongfang Yu, I will protect every single disciple of the Dongfang family. The crowd found it extremely difficult to calm their hearts as they watched the young girl leave. Gu Ruoan's actions today have undoubtedly conquered the hearts of every member of the Dongfang family. Hence, Gu Ruoan's words would become even more important than Master Dongfang's in the future and cause a great imbalance in the old man's heart. Gu Ruoan's departure had no effect at all on the next competition. After the battle at arena number 1 has ended, the outcome of the other 2 victors had already been determined. One of the organizations with a higher chance of receiving the championship title was the Dark Yin Palace. However, no one had expected for the Gu family, which was placed last during the elimination round, to also emerge as victors. Hence, upon receiving news that the Dongfang family had lost the medicine order, Gu Ling couldn't stop laughing. The Dongfang family certainly hasn't changed. What a bunch of good-for-nothings. Already defeated in the first round, he said smugly. They can't possibly win in the next few matches now. However, because Gu Ling had not watched the battle, he was not aware of the exact situation and thought that the Dongfang family had been immediately defeated by the medicine order upon setting foot in the arena. After all, in his eyes, the Dongfang family will always be useless. Remember this, all of you. Dongfang Changjin scanned the faces of every Dongfang family disciple. In the next few rounds, should we face the medicine order again if you truly cannot withstand their attacks? Admit defeat. There is no shame in that. Understood. Elder Changjin, as long as Rongyu of the medicine order does not compete, the rest of us have nothing to fear. Besides, we must brutally defeat the medicine order and vent King Yun's frustrations in his place. That's right, if we face the medicine order again, let me go out there and fight. I won't let those bastards off. The medicine order was simply too disgusting for words. Not only have they cheated, they even wanted to murder King Yun. They simply could not tolerate this. Should they face the medicine order again, they will show no mercy. Chapter 467, Gu Ruan's Rampage, 4. Sigh. Dongfang Changjin sighed softly. Rongyu of the medicine order is the person that I am most worried about. If the representative of the medicine order turns out to be her, you must concede no matter what. Nothing is more important than your lives. As long as you're alive, there's still a chance. Just as she spoke, the city governor's voice could be heard from the front. In the second round of the competition, number 1 will go against number 5, number 2 will go against number 6, and number 3 shall go against number 4. Hearing this, the insufferably smug Gu Ling suddenly began questioning. Are you kidding me? We're going against the Dark Yin Palace. Why didn't we get the Dongfang family? If we go up against the Dongfang family, our Gu family will certainly win. The Dark Yin Palace, in the eyes of the secular world, were equally matched in power with the medicine order. But the powers of Zhao Shangchen of the Dark Yin Palace are shrouded in mystery. He has never allowed anyone to have any knowledge of his exact rank. Hence, anyone who has gone against a member of the Dark Yin Palace will certainly die without question. How unfortunate. Zhao Shangchen lightly raised his lip. I really was hoping to have a duel with the Dongfang family members, especially my Xiao Yunsa. If Gu Ruan was still here, she would certainly be fiercely cursing this showy little fox from the bottom of her heart. Honestly, amongst all the participating organizations, she only feared Zhao Shangchen the most. This imp seems to have purposely concealed the true extent of his powers, even she could not sense a thing. Which one of you is going to participate this round? Dongfang Changjin looked at her team members and asked. Everyone fell silent. No one uttered a single word. They all wanted to fight the medicine order. Hence, no one was actually interested in facing number 5, the Tianqing order. Right as Dongfang Changjin was spiraling into a particularly difficult situation, a young, tender voice said, I'll go. Hearing this, everyone turned their heads. The gaze fell on the little lord's adorable face. Bai Xuan bit his lip, but his small face carried a maturity far beyond his years. His eyes sparkled with determination and the profound experience of a small adult. I want to try. May I? Dongfang Changjin was in a daze and knit her brows in confusion. It's not that I don't have faith in Bai Xuan, but this guy only looks to be about 10 or 12 years old at the very most, she thought. And the participants in the trials are ranked as low-level martial kings at the very least. If I let this kid go up there, wouldn't that be equivalent to sending a lamb into a slaughterhouse? Let him go. When it comes to facing the Tianqing order, Bai Xuan would have a better chance. Wei Yi slowly chimed in as she glanced at Bai Xuan. Actually, Gu Ruan had permitted Bai Xuan to join the competition for selfish reasons. Even though Bai Xuan's current level of strength wasn't exactly powerful, prior to this, Gu Ruan had given him a book of cultivation skills. That book was not about gaining strength in power but about rapid cultivation. Bai Xuan had always remained within the compound of the Devil Sect and has never had any experience in battle. So she had asked Wei Yi to bring Bai Xuan along to the trials. All right. Dongfang Changjin sighed. The Tianqing order isn't very powerful but they still have a few expert cultivators in their ranks. You must be careful. If you're really unable to beat them, admit defeat. We'll regain our points in the subsequent battles. Bai Xuan raised his twinkling eyes and smiled shyly. Actually, even I don't know if I'll win but I'll do my best. I won't let you all down. Then, he slowly walked into the arena under the gaze of the crowd. PFFT. Suddenly, a sharp-eyed observer caught a glimpse of Bai Xuan and burst out laughing. He laughed so hard that he cried and exclaimed exaggeratedly, Am I looking at this right? The Dongfang family is sending a little boy to the arena. Ha ha, have they lost all hope for victory? Translator's thoughts. Spinny spinny. Bai Xuan, you are too cute for words. Pinches cheeks asterisk greater than less than. Rate translation quality. 70 comments, join in. Chapter 468, Coincidence, a definite coincidence. 1. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Whoosh. In an instant, all eyes had turned to the arena. They could not help but laugh once they saw that small, childish figure. TSK, looks like the Dongfang family is ready to throw in the towel. Sending a young boy into the arena. How is this different from bowing out and giving way to the competition? Perhaps this is the suspenseful battle that we've never had for so many years, and it'll be the most laughable I've ever witnessed so far. Could it be that the Dongfang family has run out of fighters? The chattering gossips of the crowd had no effect whatsoever on Bai Xuan. He merely furrowed his brow with profound maturity and observed his enemy in complete seriousness. His small face held a kind of somber maturity far beyond his years. Don't worry, little man. When the time comes, I'll be a little gentler on you. Even I can't bear to harm such a cute little guy like you. Zhao Lin rubbed his fist and stared smilingly with pearly white teeth at the bright-eyed young boy. Honestly, amongst the team members of the Peaceful Heaven Order, he was considered to be at the bottom of the rank. He was still a low-level martial king. He had expected to lose this round but instead, the opposition had sent a small child who was not even a martial king as a representative. Now, wasn't this a special gift to him? Uncle, Bai Xuan blinked as his soft and tender face lit up with a smile. I'm only here to have fun. So please be a little gentler, I'm a bit afraid of enduring the pain. Initially, Zhao Lin was rather surprised at the sight of the child's display of maturity, having kept his silence in the face of such a great slew of humiliation. However, upon hearing Bai Xuan's request, he could not help but laugh. A child will always be a child, they will never lose their naivety. This child is probably a disciple from a direct descendant of the Dongfang family, so he's utilizing this opportunity to have some fun, thought Zhao Lin. However, I will make this little guy understand that this is not his personal playground. Haha, don't worry little guy. I won't hurt you at all. Zhao Lin burst out laughing before charging towards Bai Xuan without even drawing his weapon. The tiny figure stayed very still in the arena and did not move a single muscle. It almost seemed as if he was petrified with fear as he stared with wide eyes at the large man charging towards him. Alright, the competition is over. Bai Xiangshan sneered and shook his head. The losing team this round will be the Dongfang family again. He could already see the little kid being picked up by Zhao Lin and thrown out of the arena. A match like this between two opponents with such a vast difference in rank, there wasn't a lot of suspense. The Honorable Sir Tianqi stayed silent. He wrinkled his brows and was unsure of what to think as he stared at the arena with troubled eyes. Is the Dongfang family really going to lose? No. Knowing that girl, she would never risk the lives of anyone close to her unless she was absolutely sure. I don't believe that this little boy would lose so easily. Just as Zhao Lin was about to grab Bai Xuan's arm, the young boy's small body moved aside. His opponent ended up grabbing the corner of his sleeve instead, ripping it off entirely and exposing his fair, dewy white skin. Uncle, if you want to fight, then fight. Why must you tear off my clothes? Bai Xuan stumbled a few steps back and covered his arm with tears glistening in his eyes. The hurt look on his face was as if someone had ravaged him. He bit his pretty pink lips and said, could it be that you have that sort of addiction? You like children? Zhao Lin's face turned white then green. Based on his estimation in range, he should have been able to catch Bai Xuan with total accuracy. Yet this child was actually able to dodge my attack. He thought, no, it's surely a coincidence. This must definitely be a coincidence. Chapter 468, Coincidence, a definite coincidence. 1. Whoosh. In an instant, all eyes had turned to the arena. They could not help but laugh once they saw that small, childish figure. TSK, looks like the Dongfang family is ready to throw in the towel. Sending a young boy into the arena. How is this different from bowing out and giving way to the competition? Perhaps this is the suspenseful battle that we've never had for so many years, and it'll be the most laughable I've ever witnessed so far. Could it be that the Dongfang family has run out of fighters? The chattering gossips of the crowd had no effect whatsoever on Bai Xuan. He merely furrowed his brow with profound maturity and observed his enemy in complete seriousness. His small face held a kind of somber maturity far beyond his years. Don't worry, little man. When the time comes, I'll be a little gentler on you. Even I can't bear to harm such a cute little guy like you. Zhao Lin rubbed his fist and stared smilingly with pearly white teeth at the bright-eyed young boy. Honestly, amongst the team members of the Peaceful Heaven Order, he was considered to be at the bottom of the rank. He was still a low-level martial king. He had expected to lose this round, but instead, the opposition had sent a small child who was not even a martial king as a representative. Now, wasn't this a special gift to him? Uncle, Bai Xuan blinked as his soft and tender face lit up with a smile. I'm only here to have fun. So please be a little gentler, I'm a bit afraid of enduring the pain. Initially, Zhao Lin was rather surprised at the sight of the child's display of maturity, having kept his silence in the face of such a great slew of humiliation. However, upon hearing Bai Xuan's request, he could not help but laugh. A child will always be a child, they will never lose their naivety. This child is probably a disciple from a direct descendant of the Dongfang family, so he's utilizing this opportunity to have some fun, thought Zhao Lin. However, I will make this little guy understand that this is not his personal playground. Haha, don't worry little guy. I won't hurt you at all. Zhao Lin burst out laughing before charging towards Bai Xuan without even drawing his weapon. The tiny figure stayed very still in the arena and did not move a single muscle. It almost seemed as if he was petrified with fear as he stared with wide eyes at the large man charging towards him. Alright, the competition is over. Bai Xiangshan sneered and shook his head. The losing team this round will be the Dongfang family again. He could already see the little kid being picked up by Zhao Lin and thrown out of the arena. A match like this between two opponents with such a vast difference in rank, there wasn't a lot of suspense. The Honorable Sir Tianqi stayed silent. He wrinkled his brows and was unsure of what to think as he stared at the arena with troubled eyes. Is the Dongfang family really going to lose? No. Knowing that girl, she would never risk the lives of anyone close to her unless she was absolutely sure. I don't believe that this little boy would lose so easily. Just as Zhao Lin was about to grab Bai Xuan's arm, the young boy's small body moved aside. His opponent ended up grabbing the corner of his sleeve instead, ripping it off entirely and exposing his fair, dewy white skin. Uncle, if you want to fight, then fight. Why must you tear off my clothes? Bai Xuan stumbled a few steps back and covered his arm with tears glistening in his eyes. The hurt look on his face was as if someone had ravaged him. He bit his pretty pink lips and said, could it be that you have that sort of addiction? You like children? Zhao Lin's face turned white then green. Based on his estimation in range, he should have been able to catch Bai Xuan with total accuracy. Yet this child was actually able to dodge my attack. He thought, no, it's surely a coincidence. This must definitely be a coincidence. Chapter 469, Coincidence, a definite coincidence. 2. However, he nearly exploded with rage when he heard what the audience was saying. I never thought that as a man, Zhao Lin would turn out to have such urges. Furthermore, he has a preference for children. TSK. I really couldn't tell. But is that not so? Based on his level of power, catching the boy would be an expected move. Yet he didn't catch him at all and instead tore off his clothes in public. What a pervert. No way, I'd better keep a distance from him next time. What if he takes an interest in my anus? What should I do then? That last sentence came from a middle-aged man with pockmarks all over his face. In addition, he flashed a set of yellow teeth as he spoke and sprayed his spit all over the place. His beady eyes were squinted into one line and had a hairy mole grew on the corner of his eye. It was a disgusting sight. Zhao Lin nearly puked at the sight of him. With looks like that, he dares to claim that I would take a fancy to his anus. If I were to look at him again, I wouldn't be able to eat for 3 consecutive days. How disgusting. Kid, I started off having no intentions of hurting you, but the situation has now escalated beyond my control. For the sake of my reputation, I must torture you brutally. Zhao Lin's face had darkened and he spoke in a voice that was so low that only the two of them could hear it. What? Bai Xuan suddenly cried out in shock and his adorable little face twisted into a state. You want me to meet you at your quarters tonight? And you want to torture me brutally? Can I not go? I don't like men, especially men of your type, uncle. After he spoke, the crowd burst into a cacophony of discussion once again. Their eyes were staring disdainfully at Zhao Lin, especially a few women who were overcome with motherly love. Their hearts were cursing Zhao Lin's ancestors up to the 18th generation. You brat, you're effing slandering me. Zhao Lin's expression took a violent turn as he roared angrily and charged towards Bai Xuan. His face was filled with malevolence, his eyes were bloodshot like a fierce, starving wolf that hasn't had anything to eat for days. Rip. Zhao Lin's hand had reached out for Bai Xuan's chest, poised to scratch and tear out his opponent's flesh. However, he did not expect that small figure to take a few steps back just in time. This caused him to grab onto Bai Xuan's lapel instead, tearing out a rather large piece. In that instance, Zhao Lin's face looked like he had been made to swallow a pile of sh*t. It was an absolutely ugly sight to behold. His bloodshot eyes made a brutal impression as if he wanted to throw himself onto the adorable little child and eat him up. I say, Zhao Lin, haven't you had enough? This is a public area. Can't you take care of your image? Are you trying to show everyone how perverted you really are? Tearing off the clothes of someone's child. You better not tell me that this small child somehow managed to avoid your attack and caused you to tear his clothes off instead. What rank are you in, and what rank is he in? I bet you could kill him before he can even react. So you're definitely doing this on purpose. Not a single person believed that Bai Xuan could have avoided Zhao Lin's attack. After all, the difference in power between the two was far too great. When faced with an attack from a low-level martial king, this little boy could never have been able to react in time. So, Zhao Lin was definitely doing it on purpose. The crowd thought in unison. Hearing this, even Zhao Lin could not air his grievances. He simply did not know how this child was able to time his movements so perfectly each time until he ended up tearing off his clothes. I was moving at the fastest speed possible, he thought. Based on his level of strength, he shouldn't even be able to avoid my attacks at all. You brat, you dared to frame me. Alright, very well, I'm going to make sure you pay for this. Zhao Lin laughed coldly and, displaying his eagle-like claws, aimed them straight at Bai Xuan's exposed chest with ferocity. Chapter 470. Coincidence, a definite coincidence. 3. From what he could see, there were no more clothes for him to grab onto. Let's see how he's going to escape this time. However, Zhao Lin was clearly overthinking things. Just as he closed in on Bai Xuan, the originally smiling boy suddenly widened his eyes in fear. He then turned around and fled, screaming as he ran, "Help! This uncle is trying to take off my pants. I'm still young, I don't want to lose my innocence so soon." Slam! Zhao Lin, who had been gaining speed behind him, nearly tripped and fell onto the ground. He roared angrily, "You stupid brat, effing stand still." Stand still. Bai Xuan curled his lips. If I stayed still, wouldn't that be an idiotic move? As long as I don't want to be caught, no one can catch me. TSK, this peaceful heaven order simply has no principles, said Honorable Sir Tianchi with a disdainful look on his face. The most I've done is people young ladies in the bathhouses or look for some action. This guy here is really good. Not only does he have the hots for men, he will even set his sights on a small boy. At this point, that homosexual Honorable Poison Master is far better than him. At least that guy doesn't bully small boys. Not too far away, just as the Honorable Poison Master was about to gallop off into the distance, he sneezed. The man wrinkled his brows and said, "Who's talking about me behind my back? Could it be the Honorable Sir Tianchi? That beast-ard." Unfortunately, even after chasing him for so long, he had lost sight of that old man. If I don't kill him and news of my preference for men gets out, my reputation will crumble into pieces. Sadly, the Honorable Poison Master had never expected that the Honorable Sir Tianchi would end up exposing his darkest secret in broad daylight. If he finds out about this, he would probably have the urge to whip the Honorable Sir Tianchi's corpse for 100 days. The matches in the other arenas have pretty much concluded. Only Bai Xuan and Zhao Lin were still in the middle of their chase. However, no matter how hard Zhao Lin tried to catch up, Bai Xuan was always a few steps ahead. He felt as if he was always just about to catch up to him. But no matter how hard he tried, both sides still remained a few steps apart. Just what is Zhao Lin doing? Is he throwing in the game on purpose? I think so. After all, isn't that guy concerned about the opponent's delicate little anus? That's why he's throwing in the towel on purpose. Perhaps he didn't eat enough last night. The peaceful heaven order must have starved him so he isn't able to use his strength. This competition is getting boring, we don't want to watch it anymore. The crowd wrinkled their brows. They had believed that this would have been an easy match. Yet it had dragged on until one entire incense stick had burned out. The peaceful heaven order disciples were running out of patience too and yelled, "Zhao Lin, are you even competent? You're taking so long just to take care of a little child. If you can't finish this competition, don't even think of returning to the peaceful heaven order. Our peaceful heaven order has no place for a good-for-nothing like you." Zhao Lin only wished that he could curse and swear at the idle gossipers who weren't suffering a backache like him. "You mother-seekers, you get rid of him yourself if you think you can. Even I don't know what kind of devil I've encountered, I can't even catch up to someone who hasn't even reached the rank of a martial king." Wiping the sweat from his brow, Zhao Lin huffed and puffed until his entire face turned red in color. He glared furiously at Bai Xuan who was sprinting ahead of him. Compared to him, Bai Xuan's state of mind was actually pretty calm. He didn't look like someone who had been running for a long time. Zhao Lin, you mother F-seeker. Do you even want to fight? You've only been running for a while, and you can't even stand it anymore. Did you not have enough to eat? You can't even defeat a child. You're nothing but a useless piece of trash. The Peaceful Heaven Order disciples spat angrily at him. Their humiliating words caused Zhao Lin to go even redder in the face. Finally, he could no longer stand the insults hurled towards him. He stepped out and bellowed, whichever mother F-seeker wishes to spout more nonsense should come up here and fight personally. So what if I throw in the towel? Referee, I wish to concede. Chapter 471, Coincidence, a definite coincidence. 4. Boom. In that moment, the crowd dived into a sensation. Everyone was engrossed in a fervent discussion and their eyes were filled with astonishment. Zhao Lin from the Peaceful Heaven Order actually conceded defeat. Besides, he'd lost to a child whose wings were not even fully grown yet. Did we hear it wrong? The crowd wondered in unison. Even if Zhao Lin fully intended on taking it easy on him, there was no need to admit defeat. Yet he has clearly admitted defeat. Bai Xiangshan's expression turned an ugly shade and he asked darkly, "You are sure about your choice?" Yes. Zhao Lin gritted his teeth. I admit defeat. He knew that if he were to continue chasing the boy, he would end up dying from exhaustion. As such, it would be better for him to admit defeat. At least he wouldn't lose so spectacularly. Seeing as the Peaceful Heaven Order has admitted defeat, Honorable Sir Tianchi hurriedly spoke up, not giving Bai Xiangshan any more opportunities. Then the victor of this match is the Dongfang family. This time, forget about everyone else, even the Dongfang family was stirred up. Lin Lang did not restrain herself and scooped up Bai Xuan, who had been making his way out of the arena, into her arms before kissing him furiously. This caused Bai Xuan's face to flush with embarrassment. He stared at Wei Yi as if pleading for her to save him. Wei Yi had been smiling since the very beginning. She did not say much. She was probably the only one who had truly believed that Bai Xuan would not lose in this match. It's true, Bai Xuan would not have been able to defeat Zhao Lin in a one-on-one fight. But Bai Xuan was exceptionally fast. Unless the opponent was at the rank of a martial emperor, not many would be able to catch him. Since they would be unable to catch him, he could actually exhaust them to death. HMPH. Just then, a cynical scoff was heard from the sides. Lin Lang frowned at the sound of the voice and a sense of loathing flashed across her eyes. Gu Ling, what do you want now? The faces of the members of the Dongfang family changed greatly at the sight of Gu Ling, who was leading a group of people towards them. The Dongfang family members quickly surrounded Lin Lang protectively. Gu Ling sneered and spoke snobbishly. It seems that the Dongfang family is lacking in manpower. It's the only explanation as to why you've sent a child into the arena. Even if he did win, it was truly due to a stroke of luck and not based on his innate powers. I don't see why you should be celebrating at all. His words greatly enraged the disciples of the Dongfang family. If Dongfang Changjin had not stopped them, they would probably have charged towards him and beat him into a pulp. Bunch of useless cowards. Gu Ling's voice grew colder and colder, containing an unrestrained snobbishness. If the Dongfang family goes up against the Gu family in the next round, I, Gu Ling, shall personally take on the match. I wonder if any of the Dongfang family members would dare go up against me. Ha ha ha. He threw his head back and laughed before leaving despite the angry glares from the group. There's no need to be rash, said Dongfang Changjin as she stared at the direction of Gu Ling's departure. Settle all your grudges in the arena. That's the only way to avoid causing trouble for the Dongfang family. The group remained indignant anyway. That Gu family was simply made up of a bunch of intolerable bullies. However, possibly due to a fate determined by an unseen world, in the next draw, the Dongfang family coincidentally ended up having to fight against the Gu family. Some parties, who were already aware of the dispute between the two families, began to gossip fervently. Master, I want to participate in this match. Lin Lang raised her head with eyes full of resolve. Dongfang Changjin furrowed her brows. Are you sure? Your powers. Master, this has been a great burden from within my heart. If I don't defeat him, I'll never be able to live it down. So I must fight him. Don't worry, I won't lose. And I will not humiliate the Dongfang family. In this moment, Lin Lang's heart held far more resolve than anyone else. She begged for the chance to participate in the trials. For what reason? To defeat Gu Ling, of course. To wipe off her past disgrace. Hence, in this battle, not only was she going to participate, she was going to defeat Gu Ling. Chapter 472, Lin Lang vs Gu Ling, 1. The two opponents faced each other in the arena, ready for battle. Lin Lang tightly clenched her fist as she saw Gu Ling, who was standing in front of her. At this moment, all his past insults suddenly appeared in her mind's eye, giving further resolve in her obstinate little face. If I lose the battle today, she thought, I'll probably never be able to recover from the reality of it all. Especially this grudge that I'm holding, that I can never get over. Lin Lang. Gu Ling raised his chin arrogantly, coldly fixing his attention on the petite yet exquisite girl before him. I don't want to hurt you. How about this? You admit defeat and I'll let you off. What do you say? Lin Lang raised her head and stared with full determination at Gu Ling in front of her. Gu Ling, I've been waiting for this fight for a very long time. This is a rare opportunity. So even if you kill me, I'll never admit defeat. You fail to appreciate my kindness. Gu Ling laughed coldly, then slowly raised his hand. With one gentle wave, he raised a catastrophic storm and directed it straight towards Lin Lang. Lin Lang failed to dodge in time and was hit by the violent storm squarely on her chest. Her body was slammed a few steps back and stopped in a screeching halt at the edge of the arena. She wiped off her bloodstains before charging quickly at Gu Ling. Her eyes were filled with such resolve that it was hurtful to watch. Before Lin Lang could even reach Gu Ling, the man suddenly lifted his leg and directed it at Lin Lang's chest. Blood sputtered from Lin Lang as her body was flung high up into the air. Then, with a sudden leap, Gu Ling landed his fist onto Lin Lang, slamming her onto the ground. Thump! Her body landed heavily on the ground and smashed through a layer of wooden planks in the arena. The amount of force that Gu Ling had used in this one attack was clear for all to see. Lin Lang. The disciples of the Dongfang family began to panic as they screamed wildly with concern. Even Dongfang Changjin felt her heart fill with worry. After all, the contrast in the level of strength between both parties was far too great. She didn't know if allowing Lin Lang to go into battle was the right decision. Cough, cough. Lin Lang coughed and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. She wiped away the blood from her lips and staggered to her feet. I must not lose. I refuse to lose, she thought as she tightened her resolve. Not only for the sake of shaking off the shadows of my past but also because I refuse to betray the hopes of those who believe in me. Such extreme stubbornness. Gu Ling stared mockingly at the faltering woman and exclaimed with a disdainful look on his face, Lin Lang, I'm a sun and moon, you are but a single grain of rice. Your light can never eclipse me. Everything that you will suffer today was brought upon yourself by your own doing. If you had only obeyed my wishes like a good little girl, wouldn't things have turned out better? Bang. Then, with a single wave of his hand, he raised a storm of dust and nearly caused Lin Lang's staggering body to topple over once more. Luckily, she drew her sword and blocked his attack in the nick of time, digging her heels into her stance. However, it became very obvious that Gu Ling has no intentions of letting Lin Lang off so easily. His attacks landed like a thunderstorm on Lin Lang, coming at her one after another, mercilessly. This was clearly a case of one-sided abuse. Many in the audience had to turn away as they were unable to continue watching the fight. Lin Lang raised her hand to shield her head, forcibly stiffening her dainty little body to resist the merciless attacks as blood trickled endlessly from her mouth. However, she never begged for mercy the entire time nor did she make a single sound. That's enough, Lin Lang. Admit defeat now, you're no match for him. Dongfang Changjin's expression changed greatly as she screamed in panic. Admit defeat. Lin Lang smiled bitterly. I've waited far too long for this day. How could I give up just like this? Rate translation quality. 72 comments, join in. Chapter 473, Lin Lang vs Gu Ling, 2.